Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and are you ready to go on an unexpected journey there and back again for one last time? Technically in the Pier Jackson. Middle Earth we'll return to later on this week, but Pier Jackson, this is the end of the line. I am the king, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by...
I'm the Witch King, Kirklin.
I am the battering ram, Dylan Muss.
I'm the deleted scene of scenes, Taylor Field.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have got to the very end, like I was just saying. 3 years, longer than that really, but 3 years technically in the making of. We started the Hobbit ones, and then we did the animation ones, and now we're here. As we said, there will be a rankings episode, because these went a little longer. We will be putting that out next week, so with the second, I guess before the third episode of Rings of Power, we'll be doing our rankings. That's going to be best characters, best scenes, and what the third was?
Ranking the films, I guess.
Ranking the films, right? So check out for that. Taylor, where can they find all that stuff?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse on our Facebook.
Beautiful, Taylor. You killed it.
Thank you.
Let me,
I'm going to start popping off
Go
the
check us
Instagram
out on
soon.
our Patreon as well,
Mm.
where you can go to support us. We have different tiers there.
Everything on the fly here a little bit.
At our highest tier, we got our Patreon producers. That's Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Molly Biggs, Joshua White. Right. Oh my gosh. I apologize, Josh. But
All
you
legends.
guys are amazing, and we love all your support.
Just
and
outstanding
all
people.
that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Drop that down there. Clean. Look at that. Like nothing ever happened.
What about the other one,
No one-
Kirkland?
Oh,
What about the
yes,
other-
let me go.
other
Get up
Boom,
20% off Manscaped.
There we go.
Whoa. Is that
Sorry.
free shipping? Oh, my God.
Oh, yes, it is, sir. 20% off, worldwide
Yes.
shipping, promo code GVPOD. All one
To break
word.
the fourth wall, there was a chocolate milk spill. That was a big.
Oh.
location.
Yeah, and there's starts
And
slurping
Emily's
it up.
back now, so it's good. But it was, oh,
like
no,
the vacuum.
And
Travis,
no,
we need you.
No, like literally before I came in here, I said, "Okay, I left the door open. They're 10 feet away. I'm like, get me if there's an emergency." But I'm like, Logan, keep that milk on the table. And then, Dad, the milk. She's like, that's if anyone's planning to have a child, that's fatherhood right there. So don't do this. Okay, it's everywhere. So, everything's down below. Talking about everywhere. Everything is down below. Links. These guys shout out the Patreon, everything like that. You get stuff early.
Hell yeah.
Especially now, you're wondering probably what's next. You guys finished Lord of the Ring. Well, soon we got a video game movie retro coming up. We got a Halloween retro coming up. Just a Halloween movie, not the Halloween series. Don't worry.
I was going to say,
We're going
what?
to talk about that on the town hall we have in a couple months here. We're going to do a Christmas one. There's going to be an Avatar one. I know, Dylan, you got some ones cooking up for the fall and stuff like that. So, and then when you want to know, you're probably wondering what series are you doing next. That's why you have to wait till the town hall, because we'll be announcing what ones we'll be doing next year. And Patreon, depending on what tier you have, 3 exclusive episodes. But if you're phase 2 and up, everything is ad-free and early. So I'm going to throw to the battering ram himself. Dylan Muss, what did you think of Return of the King and Return of the King Extended Edition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did watch them both at the same time again. It's been a while since I've watched this movie, I think, because when I've done my rewatches in recent years, I feel like I've gotten kind of lazy, and I like start one, I watch maybe up to 2 towers, and then I dip or something like that. So I think it's been a few years. And we've talked about this in all of them. The extended editions have not been my canon. You know, I've seen them, but they're not like the versions I associate with necessarily. So I truthfully don't know if I've ever actually seen the Return of the King one. I feel like I probably have, but a lot of it felt like completely new scenes for me. And you know, I got to be honest, I was expecting going in this whole trilogy of movies. I'm like, okay, these are perfect movies. What are we going to say about them? We're just going to talk about the things we love, maybe talk about some lore and stuff like that. But I felt like I'm kind of surprised coming into this one. I actually have some marks against it. I think for me, part of it is that I think some of the extended edition stuff doesn't really add much to the overall movie. I think it hurts the pacing. This movie's very long, too long for my liking, even though I love this world. But I also think, you know, as the ending of this story, there's a lot of things that are not wrapped up, and I also felt like just in general, a lot of the character development that happens in these movies kind of happens in the first two, and then this movie is just like some events that are occurring, but I think character-wise, I might have some critiques here or there. So I'm not disappointed that like this my worldview of this being a perfect film as well is shattered or something, but I'm excited that maybe I have some dissenting views, because I think you guys are probably going to be more sticking in that it's a perfect movie camp. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into some of this stuff. But obviously, if you listen to the first two episodes, you know these movies are very, very important to me, and I love them very much. So it will still be mostly praising it, but there is a fair few things that I'm excited to break down. And maybe you guys can prove me wrong on some things too. So I'm very excited to get into this one for sure.
Tatterfield.
First of all, I just need to shout out Kirklin. Your light in the background. It reminds me of like, was it Minas Morgul?
That's right. Good
Ooh.
call.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's it.
Big light just beams up.
Yeah.
Oh, they're coming.
Yeah, Return of the King. This is definitely, it aged well for me, I would say. When I got to indulge in it, I thought, okay, this has been an absolute delight, and I probably teared up the most watching this one than the other ones actually. And yeah, it's funny because like I actually watched it in parts. Like I couldn't sit down and commit like for the full like multi-hour adventure. So I thought, okay, I think I did like 3 parts where I sat down and watched it, and I enjoyed that a lot more because I really got to like sit on what I watched throughout the day and just really take it in like different acts, I guess you could say. And it's funny because like when I got up early at like 5:30 a.m. just started put on like an hour of it, and Madison came downstairs and she's like, "Oh, are you crying?" I'm like, yeah. She's just, and I left. I went to work.
Oh, I think you left her. Like it was over.
No,
Yeah.
no.
This movie made me rethink my life.
But this movie is just it just hits me in a way like the other ones don't, and I think it just is a mixture of just the way the characters are developing. Like for me with Theoden, I love Theoden so much in this movie, just way more than the previous film. But there's so much going on. And yeah, it's just my one con, if I were to have a con, which is very, very little and minuscule on the grand scheme of cons, is that a lot of the deleted scenes, hence my nickname, I feel like are so pivotal to the story that to remove some of them.
Wow, 2 different takes back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's exciting.
I feel like it's just there's a lot going on that is some that's like as a
There's
like
one that's very
guilty
important. I'll
pleasure.
give you that. Okay, I'll give you that.
I'm curious to know which one you're referring to. For me,
Please
it's
don't be
definitely a
CGI
few of
Boromir.
them, but like there's definitely a lot that are like guilty pleasure. Like, oh, let's have this one in there. I love it. But there's a few that I felt like were definitely like more tied to like the story and what was like going on. But we'll get to that as we kind of progress through. Yeah, overall, it's a fantastic movie, and then I look forward to talking about it with you guys.
Well, that's it. You're not talking about it anymore. You're done for the night. No.
See it.
I always leave Kirklin last, so it doesn't matter. But I'll go next because I feel like with the deleted scenes, I am in the middle of where I think I'll say this. I'm probably skewing more positive middle, but I think there are some scenes that, much like Fellowship, that they are just extended. But I think with Fellowship, for me, those scenes work better. Where this, especially, like I'll just say, we'll talk about like all the stuff with the Army of the Dead, which I don't like. I'm completely Team Peter Jackson when he says the Army of the Dead sucks. I completely agree that the Army of the Dead sucks. And
Was it the CGI that he says that about, or
No,
just
he hates
like
the
in
concept.
revisionist? He's like, oh, it didn't work for me.
No, he just even before making the movies, like I don't like the concept, and I agree with him. It's probably film's biggest Deus Ex Machina of all time. Of just we've never talked about this thing once. We're going to introduce it and completely saves the day. It's just like we'll get more into specifics, but I like that sequence fine enough, and I think Peter Jackson did a great job for something he doesn't really like for doing it. But that's why I kind of like in the theatrical it feels a bit smaller, where in extended it's a lot longer. I go, so I think there's some stuff that there's really key stuff with extended, some stuff with the extended that I think you could kind of trim even. But the movie overall, again, I spoil this and I say the same thing. All of them are, not perfect films, but as perfect you get. This is like another 10 out of 10. I love, everyone always says it's like one of their biggest cons. I've never understood, like, oh man, I hate like how many endings Lord of the Rings, Return of the King has. Like, I don't get enough. Like anytime it fades to black and it's coming back, I'm like, yeah, give me another one. Give me who else is doing this? So I love the 16 endings. I love because there's so much to do in the story. If it would have just ended with like, many people have been like, oh, it should just ended on Mount Doom when they're on the rock there. It's like, no, there's so much more. And maybe what Dylan's gonna bring up too, maybe there's even more. Overall, I think it's difficult too because I love the battles in this film, but it definitely does not stack up to Helm's Deep. So none of the battles ever feel like it gets to that moment. But I guess this feels more personal, and this is the one where I feel like it's the biggest movie that I enjoy. Frodo, Sam, and I don't know why the fuck I almost called him Seamus, Gimli, or oh my
Seamus.
god, Gollum. I
It's
love
his other alter ego.
I love my wee lad, Seamus. But no,
Just the
I
Harry
love
Potter character shows up.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like all the stuff is great and it's closing the loop, closing the circle. But that is like like the nitty gritty, really great stuff of everything between Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. How the weight just torments Frodo. Actually, just I remember getting as a kid, and I remember the first one trailer had that shot of Frodo holding the ring over Mount Doom. And I just remember as a kid being like, "Man, we're actually getting like I'm going to see that on screen." And that whole sequence, like getting there, does not like it delivers full front, like everything. I think all of them get satisfying endings, and it's stuff that we'll talk about. Like the ending hits me a lot more as an adult, whereas as a kid, I feel like I didn't fully understand things like Frodo leaving the boat, but now as an adult, I go, okay, I kind of see this perspective. But as a kid, I was like, well, all his friends are there and his place is there. Like this makes no sense, but it's a beautiful film. I agree with you that it's probably the one that would or has made me cry the most. That whole last half an hour and everything, and just a beautiful movie. I love Aragorn's full like realization of his arc. Gimli and Legolas come a little on the side there, but yeah, I overall still love this movie. Have a great time with it, and I'm not sure because I know what my number 1 is with a bullet, and I don't know what 2 or 3 is, and that's what's gonna be interesting. Maybe when we talk about this, it'll help it out. I kind of maybe go back and forth between those all the time, but Kirklin Patzer, I leave it to you.
Yeah, obviously this is like the epic conclusion of this trilogy, so I think on that regard it definitely delivers. Like there's so much action and just like climactic moments that go on, and for me they really hit. I guess I should have said this at the beginning. This is actually the one I have the least experience with because I haven't read the book. I feel like with Dylan there's probably been a lot of times where I had like started the trilogy and it's just like, it's getting a little late, like maybe I'll just end it after Two Towers. It's just it's long. But yeah, for whatever reason, like I've definitely seen this one the least amount. I still love it. It's definitely not my number 1. I kind of hinted what that one was early on in this retro, but I think there's just so many like absolutely epic moments that just make like the hair on my arms just completely rise. Just even thinking about like those particular scenes. It's interesting because I know I've seen like the non-extended edition, but in the last few years I've only watched the extended edition. So I'm excited to hear, obviously, Dylan, your comparison of the two different scenes because I can't even really like picture what scenes were deleted or whatnot.
You can't?
I think there's like 1 or 2 that like while I'm watching it, it was just like, okay, this is probably extended. And then other than like, the voice of Sauron, yeah, like Dylan said, like I heard about that one, but
he didn't say that. He said Saruman.
Oh, the voice of Saruman is
How
what
could you
I'm
forget
saying.
this guy? My favorite.
Yeah, very iconic voice. But yeah, no, I still really love this movie. I think there is particular scenes that I think could have been done a little bit better, but like it doesn't really take any enjoyment out of this film for me. So yeah, I think I'll save it there. On the tears, since you guys brought up the tears, definitely I was just like a mess majority of this movie. I think like probably like halfway through is a safer bet of like just like knowing what's coming. And I remember even like years ago, like back when it was like I felt like I wouldn't get so like emotionally involved in a movie, even just like the
100%.
ending of a trilogy, like having Frodo like say goodbye and like going on, like that's what like it even got me at that age again when I like wasn't getting so emotional.
I remember ugly crying in the theater and being like that, and because that's at the point of the like age where it's like, oh, men don't really cry, like you get that nail in your head, and just like I'm like, but I can't stop. There's too much stuff going on.
Yeah, especially because you had been like with them on that entire journey, right? So
Yes.
like just to see Frodo say goodbye, and like Travis, you mentioned it, like he doesn't look like he's dying, so it's like what? Like he's leaving his friends. He looks fine. Like he doesn't look
Yes.
like Bilbo by any means. He looks like he should be able to enjoy. But now that I'm older, I can understand a lot more the reasoning on why he wants to leave. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there for not really non-spoiler talk, but kind of just an overall talk.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we're not going to get into spoilers. We're just going to get into the rest of the movie. So we'll take our first ad break, and then we're going to get into everything. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So, Dilmas, I think I want to start with you because you got some nuggets here that I want to dive into, it sounds like.
Yeah, okay, let's... there's so many places we could go, of course. But let's go to Isengard, because I want to talk about this. That, I mean, to me, this is like the hugest thing that is cut. And I've seen like interviews or something like why this section was cut, but this is like a big change from the extended to theatrical, is that Saruman up on his tower getting stabbed and dying, and his speech and all this stuff, it just does not exist at all. Like in the theatrical, it's like, I guess they're at Isengard, they're looking up at the tower and they're like, he's locked away, we got him, and then it
Yeah.
kind of moves on. And since he's not a character, like since he would not come up again, or Isengard never comes up again, you don't really think about it. But like, until watching this, it's like, or I mean, I knew that this was cut, even if I didn't remember watching the extended cut or something like that. But obviously, that's a pretty big change. And I think Peter Jackson, the way he said it was that, like, okay, we don't have room in Two Towers for this. Like, this could have been in Two Towers, the ending of Two Towers, where they go here. And I think that would actually work pretty well, of Saruman being a big villain, like mostly the villain of the second movie, to kill him off there and finish off that storyline then and there. But, there's also so much stuff going on at the end of Two Towers that, like, where do you fit it in? And ultimately, they just did not have room for it. So, like, okay, we'll kick it down the road, and we'll put it at the start of Return of the King. By the time Return of the King comes around, they're done editing that. They're like, we don't really have room for this either here. And also, the other point was that's like, well, do we want to start, like, closing off this story from the second movie that doesn't have any relevance on the rest of this movie? Like, do we want to start our movie there? It feels like that's kind of a plot for another day. So I understand why it happened, and it's unfortunate that it does, because then Saruman, as this huge pivotal character, doesn't really get this final moment, and I don't think they ever mention it ever again, like him. So you don't actually know that he's dead if you just watch the theatrical cut. So very interesting change, of course. I will say as well, I mean, I maybe have less nostalgia for it, but I actually don't think the scene is amazing. I think some of, like, just the logistics of it, of he's on the top of this tower that we know is fucking huge, and they're just having like a regular conversation as if they're 10 feet away.
Théoden's talking to them like regular.
Weird.
He's like Wormtongue. He's more like Wormtongue. You were once a man. Yeah, but he's like, what you say? I was once a what? Like, but no, they're having complete like conversations, like you said.
It's a very big tower too. Yeah.
Yes.
So to get that, maybe it's just like because they're magic. They can just
Maybe
project their
Gandalf.
voice.
Yeah, he like this also works as a Bluetooth. He has it too, and they just like sync up so they can talk.
Théoden, speaking of the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fair, like, that's total, like, that actually is a believable suggestion. But then there's other characters that are conversing in the scene too. And it's funny because there's a shot where it's like the top of the tower and it's like doing a 360 shot pretty much.
Very cool.
And I'm like, how the fuck does anyone get to the top of this? And it makes sense for Gandalf to get sent there and Saruman to find a way up there. But then I didn't understand, like, halfway through the scene, like, Wormtongue just pops up
Out of
and he's just
nowhere.
up there. Yeah, there's no ladders or anything, so I don't know how he's up there. And I don't know. I think also that just the snipe from Legolas, I know he's very good, but it's just a bit of a choppy scene. So I think if it was going to be theatrical, maybe they would have done a bit of a better job with it. I'm not sure if they would have. They might have just left it as is. But I'm curious what you guys think of this scene, because I'm glad that I have seen it. I know it exists, even if it isn't to me like this big conclusive ending to Saruman, because I think that should have happened really at the end of Two Towers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Just like the messiness of like the scene in general, it's something I've not always, but as of like the last few like watches, it's just like, how are they talking to each other like so clearly, and just like the what they're going about. It seems
Also,
very
the fireball CGI.
That's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, but he's just like, "Fuck you!" Like just like shoots a fireball at them, and it's just like, yeah, it's like, oh no, just shoots them down. Like I guess you get to see just like what caliber of Gandalf is now, so I guess that's kind of cool. And then to have like a definitive ending for Saruman, I think that's another like important thing out of that sequence. But yeah, this is one that like I heard was extended, so it makes sense now thinking of like the choppiness of it. Like they didn't take a lot of time to like make it work that well, and that's probably a reason why they cut it out in the first place. But to just not like, so like that being said, it's cut out. To not even really talk about like Saruman's end is just really bizarre to me. And that's something that like just thinking about not having that scene in this film, it makes it like an incomplete piece in my mind. So.
That's where I am, where I think this scene is essential. It's not a great scene, but I always as a kid was like, Saruman's this big bad, and we're gonna write him off by he'll stay in his tower alone. And it's just like, really? Like I just thought it's weird that even then, I know because he doesn't play the rest of it, but when you're watching it for the first time, you're like, you're not gonna try and dispatch this wizard who could be a potential, like, what if he gets out of there? Like, he would be an asset. Like, this guy could kill Frodo. Like it doesn't matter what could happen. It's just like, it's very strange. But yeah, the scene, and I think like this, if this made theatrical, I feel like this would have been the scene, because I don't like, if they were editing the movie, they would have been done reshoots at that point. So I feel like this would have been the scene. So I don't think there is like a better version. Maybe the fire, but even then, I feel like they gave them quite a bit of money to work on this and everything, like the extended cut. So I think it is a little choppy, and I think it's interesting because I don't think you could have ended Two Towers with it because I think Two Towers had so much momentum and it was just slowed it right down and been this really awkward ending. And then I think this, I like it because I get the answer, and the extended ones I kind of feel more like novel-like, but it's a weird scene even to start the movie. Like, they're kind of moving faster than this scene, and it's a long scene. I always forget how long it is, but it's like over 5 minutes. I always remember it's like it being a lot quicker. It's over 5 minutes, but also still feels very rushed. Like, Grima's turn just feels like from out of nowhere and stuff like that. I think in the book it feels a little more natural, and they kind of play up that, you know, he takes umbrage to being talked down to and whatnot, but in Two Towers he never really, he just like winces away when he says you smell like horse. He's like, and that's about it. So I think the only thing though that it does play a role, and I guess they did that in the theatrical, like you do get the, what is it, the Palatine, the Palanteeth, what is it, Kirklin?
Palantir, yeah.
Palantir.
So, yeah,
you get that, and so I think the happy medium for me would have been just cut to them finding him dead on that wheel, and just assume something happened when the ants were attacking. He fell from the balcony, and at least he's dead. Because I don't like the theatrical where he's just alive. Because what happens after the ring's destroyed? Like, what does he do? Like, he's just alive in this world, still kicking. I guess they're just saying he like.
I guess
up,
for the time being, it's like, okay, they took his Palantir, which, I mean, he doesn't actually drop until obviously he's falling off the tower. But in theatrical, like, it's just in the water, like, which is totally a believable solution, I guess, even though the tower is mostly fine. So it's like, how did the tier fall out of the tower?
He just threw it out off his balcony.
Yeah, he just, like, as a hail
the tower's sinking. Unload everything. Unload. He throws Grima.
Yeah, and then, I mean, they do destroy his staff, too, but I don't know. It seems like Gandalf's just finding staffs all over the place.
Oh, yeah, that happens again in this movie, right? He loses
so I guess
it
that you could say that, like, okay, they disarmed him, so what's he going to do in the short term? But you're right. Like, obviously, that is not someone you want to leave around kicking, just because he can always get up to more evil.
And I feel like, though, with my suggestion, you probably couldn't. I think this is still rated PG-13, but it's still very violent, like piercing and stuff like that. So that's where I think there's a way you could have shot it, where you just show him dead up there. You kind of just show like his hand down and him a little bit, but don't need to show the whole spike through the body. Like, I would have accepted that as a kid, that something happened in this attack. He fell from his tower. He's dead. Here's the Planeteer or whatever the fuck it's called, and then we're moving on. You know, like it's just always weird to me, and that's why for me, like Kirklin said last week, like that's why I have to watch extendeds, because I can't watch the theatrical now knowing this is the end of it. And now it's the way it is in the book, but I was like, I can't just have Sauron sitting around.
Yeah, and
Saruman,
like just talking about like how gruesome it could have been. I feel like that's another choppy thing of just like having to have him like fall down, because he is like a Maiar, like he's not a regular person. When he dies, technically in like book canon, like he just turns into dust and kind of just like goes into the wind.
Does he still have that rights though when he's like turned a little bit? Like would he still?
Yeah. I think I haven't read the book, but I believe like when they actually dispatch him, this is another very big difference. After they destroy the ring, they go back to the Shire, and Saruman just like invaded the Shire, and there's just like a whole thing. I understand why they cut it out of this movie, because that would have been a whole other movie in and of itself. But like when they actually defeat him, like he just turns into dust and like floats up in the air.
Embracer Group could make that movie. With
I was just
Saruman.
gonna say they're gonna make that movie. Shire, the Attack of Saruman. It's happening. I guarantee you.
The attack of the
A couple other things in that scene. One, I want to shout this out because we talked about this in the first two movies, how the extended and theatrical cut have different like title card scene. And this movie doesn't. It has the same one. It's Isengard. I forget exactly where it is, but I thought that was interesting. And then my other question with this too is, when Gandalf and crew show up in Isengard, shouldn't Merry and Pippin be freaking out that Gandalf's alive? Like, there's never that scene where they...
they met him in Two Towers.
Yeah.
They just don't have that in the movie. No, sorry.
They don't show it,
Yeah.
but so like the three are looking for obviously the two hobbits, and then they find Saruman, as he should be, Gandalf the White, and then he explains that like no, they're with like they have a very important role like in Fangorn. So it's not clearly stated in the movie.
So he
but
would have met them in Fangorn.
Well,
why would they not have shown that scene?
They did show it though, because Treebeard's like the White Wizard will know, and so he drops Merry and Pippin. They look up and you see like the White Wizard being Gandalf.
Oh yes,
so they have that whole moment.
They have that scene. They just wanted to build up the anticipate. Like again, it's strange because they just show Gandalf over the fucking trailer, so it really makes no sense. Peter Jackson maybe didn't want it that way, but that's what happens. They throw the hobbits down, they look up, and they're all scared. So then when you see our three fight this White Wizard, you're thinking, oh no, this is Saruman. Our heroes are in trouble. We haven't seen Merry and Pippin since then, but they do meet. It is very strange. We don't like. To me, it would be an essential scene of them reuniting, because like Gandalf is quite friendly with these two, so it is always weird that everyone else gets a reunion with Gandalf but not Merry and Pippin. You know?
Yeah, that's a bit odd. That was everything I had on that scene. I don't know where we want to jump next. Taylor's
I got
it.
something. I just want to piggyback on this scene because I feel like it's such a pivotal deleted scene. So much is kind of going on there, and it's just right out of the gate. Just what happened to Saruman? Now, when I was young, and I didn't know about these extended editions,
Embracer Group's gonna make that movie too. What
this
happened
is
to
some
Sauron?
good Taylor history. I'm like Kirklin. I didn't read the books back then, so when you say that Saruman actually went and invaded the Shire, this is great for what I'm going to present to you guys because no one else has seen this. When I was in high school, when I was like grade 9, 10, I liked Photoshop, and I thought, you know what? I wonder what would happen because technically Saruman didn't die when I indulged in Return of the King. I didn't see the extended edition, so I didn't know. So I took the liberty of designing. Back in the day, a image.
How old is this image?
This is 2009, 2010.
Wow, this is gonna be.
Are you pulling it up right now?
I'm gonna pull it up right now.
Oh my God,
I designed
he
this. I designed this thinking like, oh well, maybe they do Lord of the Rings 4, and this is it.
Oh,
Oh my
no.
gosh, serious?
The Return
Oh,
of
yeah.
Saruman. I like that's Lord of the Rings 4. Lord of the Rings 4, The Return of Saruman. Like not Lord of the Rings. And just for the listeners, which you should go to YouTube, it's him as Dooku. Yeah, it's him as Count Dooku, not as Saruman.
Saruman the
I
Black.
like that staff a lot, though. That's
Yeah.
a sweet
Yeah, that's a
staff.
sweet stuff.
And it's him versus just Sam. Just Sam.
Just Sam, yeah.
What's
his
with the
friends are left.
purple? What's with the purple staff? Why the change?
I don't know.
He's
I wish I
upgraded.
could. I wish I could know
He
more.
put like a different
but-
gem in there, like a lightsaber. Like
Yeah.
in the-
It's
But
crazy
it's
'cause
so
it looks
funny.
very similar to his other one, just black. Or I guess the other one was black. This one's purple.
This one's purple, yeah. But I thought it was funny, Kirkland, because you're like, yeah, he comes back and invades the Shire. I'm like, holy shit. Well, now it
And you
makes
didn't
total
even know that
sense.
at the time.
Didn't
That's
even
so
know that, yeah.
amazing.
So Sam's the hero of that story.
You're like
Yeah.
a modern day Tolkien.
Yeah, there you
you
go.
thought of
Yeah,
it
is
He's
this
a
like
hero.
after Frodo left? Is Frodo
Yeah.
just
It
not around?
is.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
how
So
did he
years have
beat
passed before Saruman decides to lead his
yeah.
attack on the Shire.
Yeah. It took him a long time to get out of that tower. He had to wait for the water to really drain down because he can't swim. Taylor, you said clearly, you said Sam wins this one. In your head, how does Sam beat Saruman?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking back in the day. That's at least over a decade. Clearly, I had it all mapped out enough
I
to
mean,
actually
Sam
design
solos
this.
Shelob. That's pretty impressive. I'd say
Yeah.
he's a good fighter.
Yes, Saruman's casting fireballs at him.
Oh, you. Where's your friend?
his
Force
favorite
fireball.
move.
Where's Frodo?
Yeah, you got on the ferry and left.
But yeah, there you go. We can
That's
move
amazing.
on
Thanks
now.
for sharing.
Well,
Yeah.
Taylor, where you want to move on to?
Fabulous.
Where do I want to move on to?
Pro, con, favorite scene, something.
Actually, you know what? Like, I'd love to kind of get more into this Palantir. Palantir?
Ooh, yes.
Yes.
Great choice.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about this because I've probed you a little bit, Kirkland, about.
Yeah, you did.
Does Madison know about this? That's why
yeah,
she
Shay,
left you.
Shay was at work that night.
That's
too.
why you were crying on the couch. and just got
yeah,
probed.
yeah. She
Yeah.
found out about the probing.
But I was curious more about the Palantir that Denethor used because, like, maybe you can kind of enlighten me a little bit more or just reiterate what you've told me already about Denethor's
Well,
Palantir.
Yeah.
Did you know this, Travis?
Oh, do you mean he told you this off air? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, because like Denethor had like a Palantir, and that's
Couple
why he
minutes
was
ago,
I
just
I
thought
like
you
just
just
talked
wanted
about
him
Taylor.
to re-explain the
Swear
Palantir.
we talked about this on the podcast too.
Well, like that's a big thing. That's yeah. Can be talking about Denethor here, one of my favorite characters.
Oh.
Well, it's in the
Um,
animated movie, right? Is he actually has the Palantir?
yes,
or he
in the-
mentions it in the
yes.
animated movie?
Oh, really?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So Taylor, if you're there, you would have.
That's a very interesting depiction of Denethor, Taylor. You should check out that scene or two.
He has a great evil laugh in that movie.
He's really
So
chewing the
he's like
scenery.
he's really evil in that version too. Then
He looks like the Wicked Witch of the West or something, but like, yeah, it's Denethor.
He's really moving
so.
around in weird ways. Like he's climbing stuff, and yeah, it's very interesting.
Yes, but no, yes, because that's a big difference, obviously. I mean, Dylan, like you saw it in the animated version, he actually has the Palantir, and it kind of makes sense on why he would be getting so crazy if he's holding this thing that's kind of giving him like insights on like, okay, I'm seeing Gondor in flames, all these terrible things are happening, and that's just kind of what he has his head wrapped around. And then, of course, in like the book version, in the Peter Jackson movie version, like he doesn't even have the Palantir at all. He's just this really kooky character that I feel like maybe they're kind of leaning on like the trauma of like losing his son, and like again just the whole situation with Mordor just like getting close to like burning all of Gondor. Maybe he's just losing his mind, and maybe that's the direction that they went with in the movie version. But it for me, I've always liked it better of that idea that Denethor actually has this Palantir that he just he keeps it very secret because it's telling him like visions of the future. He thinks it's like a very powerful weapon or tool, and like he's already mentioned that he wants to get the ring as like a weapon or tool. So he's just getting these devices to, in his mind, like better just men's chances, of like winning this never ending war. And then in the movie version, just not even to have that. And then like I think again, like some of the other extended scenes in this movie probably could have been like wiggled around to make room for something like this happening. Even if he's just like he's kind of looking at it and it shows the eye and it's like, okay, clearly he's getting influenced in some way, shape, or form from Sauron. I always hated that they just don't have that, because that what we're left with is just Denethor being an asshole. And in the book version, it's that they like make a point of emphasis that this character is actually very strong-willed. It makes sense why Boromir is like the strongest of the men. This is his dad, and like obviously his dad would have like some, I don't know, gravitas about him to like have oh my gosh, Boromir like just have those characteristics. And then what we're left with, though, unfortunately, is just a very asshole character.
One scene I do like, and this is an extended edition, you could say, is there's a conversation between Pippin and Gandalf that's happening, and Gandalf's kind of explaining. He's really just plain exposition, but it works. Where they're in Minas Tirith, and he's telling Pippin about the city and how they build tombs greater than the homes they live in, and how they always like refer to each other by the names of their fathers instead of like who the person they're actually addressing and stuff like that, which is interesting because obviously that's like how everyone introduces themselves. But the way Gandalf puts this spin on it is that they kind of have their head in the past and look at where they are now compared to where they were in the past, combined with what you're saying, Kirklin, of him like, being corrupted because of what he's seen in the future. So he's just very much not in the present, whether it's thinking too much about the past, worrying about the glory days, the golden ages, or like this crumbling future. So I think that kind of stuff puts some more context on why he is the way he is. But yeah, you kind of got to read between the lines in terms of who the character that we get in the movie itself.
It is a missed opportunity to not show that Palantir too, because we got so much coverage of it in Fellowship and Two Towers of just Saruman using it, and you get a little bit of dialogue from Gandalf, like we don't know who else might be watching, so we get the groundwork for that. So if you, in this sense, like we see what it does to Pippin and Aragorn and all that in the Great Hall at our ass, but I think that would be more than enough to be like, oh, all of a sudden you see Denethor using it, you'd be like, oh shit, like this is not ideal here. Even like
it's
very
like
brief.
what you said. They like Gandalf explains kind of what it is, so we know that what this tool kind of does. So you already set the groundwork. You could easily just have a quick scene of Denethor with it. But I mean, like it's not crucial to like make Denethor this like character who was actually strong-willed and then just turn into this. Like it's not crucial. You could easily just have him be the asshole that he is. But for me, at least, I feel like it just helps so much more, because why would they have just this terrible guy in like the steward's chair, right?
Well, see that's where I think I push back, because I think it completely works. Like you could do the Palantir, but I think it just fits with the themes of the first two movies, talking about how men can't be trusted and they're weak, and it kind of shows that it's, not to get political, but yeah, when he was put in that position, he could have been a great man. But now the years of it being worn on him, or whatever it may be, now he's lost Boromir even more. So that's to me how it kind of worked, is he was an allegory for the old age of men that they could not trust, the last generation, the last decade of people, where it's like, look at who we put in charge of men and what they would become. There's very power hungry, and like that's where in the movies it's like he wants the ring for men. Not really. Like Boromir feels like he would actually want the ring to try and help men. He just feels like, I just want the ring because it could make me more powerful, and I honestly wouldn't have to give it this chair either. So I actually like that it's kind of an allegory, or kind of plays with the themes of men rising up. And it's like this new era, new crop of men, even though Aragorn's like older than Denethor, so it doesn't make sense. But like I like that he's just kind of been driven mad by, over the years of being corrupted by power, being in a chair that he's not supposed to be in, and fearing that any moment it could be taken away from him. Because anytime he's talking, there's no king of Gondor, like anytime it gets brought up, he like gets very heated and stuff. So that's why I kind of like it. It just reminds me of almost like some like unfortunate veterans that they've just been through too much war and stuff like that. And it's not that you couldn't have done that. I think it's just that it adds like another wrinkle. If it could be a brief scene, but then you might have the viewers asking like, okay, why is he using this? Is he a wizard? Like people that are more GA, they might just think, okay, only because when Pip until Aragorn, which doesn't even happen theatrical, when Pippin touches it, it like looks like he's going to hell, right? So I would almost assume it's like, okay, anyone that touches this must be magical or wizard and stuff like that. Because so I could see them making that line of, oh, people might think he's this, but he's not really. So I think it would just confuse them, and it gets us still to the same point that he's just kind of been driven mad and he's going to run off a building on fire. Which I imagine while you're in the middle of battle, man, that must have been fucking crucial. Like you look up and you see the Steward of Gondor just coming down.
beacons are lit.
Yeah. You just see the Steward of Gondor coming down in flames. You're definitely thinking you're not winning this one. Like why? Like
Yeah, it'd
why
probably
is
be pretty
it-
hard to tell who it is at that point. You know,
Imagine just being
especially
one
when
of
they
the
zoom
guards.
out, and it's like, wow, that is a huge city, and he is a tiny little speck.
The
on
first
it.
hand account, so he was yelling, "I'm Denethor, I'm Denethor." So they all knew.
Yeah.
Imagine being one of those like the guards of the tree, and you just like standing there and see, you just like the Steward of Gondor just runs right by you, completely
Yeah.
engulfed in flames.
I mean,
Like,
they
oh,
failed their
shit.
job, right?
They protected the tree.
You just
Oh, yeah.
saw-
Yeah, that's
yeah.
They protect the
saw-
tree, not him.
You just saw a wizard's horse kick the shit out of him, and what a shot! Like it's just like it's him, and they just zoom in on the horse and everything like that. It's such a moment. But
The physics of the horse like landing on him and then kicking him high on like never really made
Magic.
It's
sense.
a wizard's
Magic
horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That is a strong word. I really like that description, Travis, because like we don't need another character who's corrupted by Sauron in this story. So to have a character who is a piece of shit but from a different source is interesting. Like even like Agrima, who is like there's like layers of corruption there, but it all like circles back to Sauron. And I mean, you could probably make those claims to Denethor as well without the Palantir, but I agree with you. I think it's like an interesting version or an interesting way, because to me it's always made sense that okay, he has always loved Boromir more as a son. That's his future. That's the future of Gondor. And he lost his son, and the way he's acting is crazy, but like he's still grieving, obviously, at the time of the events of this movie. So, like, maybe it doesn't fully explain why he's such a piece of shit, but I think it's always explained enough of it for me that it's always made sense. Now, it's not like a character that's developed a point where, when we do our ranking, he's not going to make it in my top 10 or anything like that. But I still think he works, and there's some scenes that, like, for me, that scene when Pippin is singing and he's eating that meal, and obviously, like, they're just going really over the top with he's eating tomatoes and it's like spewing like blood over
It's a lot
him.
of
He's
juice.
ripping this chicken up. That scene is amazing, where like
Yes.
Pippin's singing and they have the cuts back and forth between the men going into Osgiliath. I kind of like that we also don't actually see the end of that. Like we see the start of it with the arrows flying, but then like we never really see the full battle play out, which is totally fine. We just see the remains after when the horse come back with Boromir attached. But that scene is like emotional as fuck. It's so well edited. It's really great.
And that's why to me it's like another line where like Theoden obviously I feel like really steps up in this movie, but he kind of got that where in Two Towers most people are insinuating that he's maybe acting cowardly going to Helm's Deep, right? Like this isn't the way to do it. And you have Aragorn who kind of leads the charge. But hang on. And then after that experience, you can see Theoden in this movie. He multiple times asks Aragorn like, should we do it? Like he's leading with him, and then you got this again where Denethor is just here snacking, mealing away, eating, shoving his face, while all the new young men are going to fight and die. And I'm not saying because he's, obviously he's old, he might not be able to fight, but that's not the appropriate measures to be doing in this time of battle. And that's where I feel like, obviously you get the Two Towers scene in an extended where he's always been a little off, but I feel like even if Boromir was alive, there's like he could be a little more sane, like a little bit more reason to. But Boromir being gone completely puts him over the edge, and again just showing of he's just feasting away while guys are getting ready to go battle and die a battle that like it's
Zero
folly.
odds.
It's
Yeah,
a decisive
yeah.
defeat. Yeah.
And again, another reason why it sucks that they took out that Boromir 2 tower scenes is when they introduced him and Faramir, like all that trio, that's the city Boromir took back. So again, I hate that they took that out because it's such a cool circle of when we meet Denethor the very first time in the extended movies, he's there. It's a celebration when they took that city back. And then later on in the next movie, it's them trying to retake the city back and almost losing another son there. And it's just such cool full circle stuff. But
Yeah, I was gonna throw in on like the importance of having that scene from Two Towers, because like what you're mentioning, Travis, like is Denethor like this because of the loss of Boromir, or is it just like kind of multiplied because of that? I think that scene in Two Towers kind of showcased that Denethor or was already kind of like weird in that sense
He's
of
teetering.
like because even like having Boromir even just say like, oh my god, he's here, like can't we have a moment of I don't know.
my firstborn?
Yeah, just shit like that.
Champion!
And he clearly has been like trying to defend Faramir in like the past
Yes.
because like he's just been kind of on the sidelines while Denethor just like goes at Faramir, I would imagine, like many times in the past. So I think Denethor definitely was already kind of in that sense, and maybe Boromir was like a bit of a heat sink for him. Like okay, you know, if he's getting a little bit too flustered, he's got Boromir there to just kind of calm him down. But now Boromir's gone, so many cherry tomatoes are getting murdered by Denethor's mouth now.
And don't say it that way. And that honestly, like that whole, it's weird. Like other than the ending, because like Helmsy, the stuff of the ending, my favorite stuff is the Faramir Denethor stuff because I love that conversation they have of just, oh, you wish Boromir would have died. And I remember as a kid thinking like, oh no, he's gonna say no. He's like, yes. Like I was like, oh my god, like he's just going for it. And just that little moment when he's just like, when I come back, think better of me. And I can't remember what's his name because he's from Iron Fist, but like that. I like him in Two Towers. I think he's fine. And it's weird because they film these movies all together. So it's not like, oh, he had a year to change his performance. I just feel his scenes of Return of the Coward.
Return of the Tower.
Return of the Coward.
He really is, yeah.
Yeah, Aragorn, you were running for years and now you're back. What the fuck? But no, like I just think his acting is so good in these scenes with Denethor, and you feel the emotion of not so much him being burned because he's knocked out and this is kind of silly and stuff like that, but just him saying "think better of me if I were to return" and stuff, and him riding out that horse again, those words, like that sequence of the conversation back and forth, minus CGI Boromir, not needed. We got the entire point of what was going on there.
That looks so bad.
It's so bad. It's the worst looking thing in the entire trilogy, in my opinion, because it's like we understand that he's having this moment, but it's just
why not get Sean and just put him standing there for 2 seconds?
It's definitely something that they filmed. I think they filmed it, and they're like, the audience isn't gonna get it if we don't have Sean here. So let's take a scene and edit it and put it in there. And then when they did, like, oh, this just doesn't work. And I'm surprised they put it back in because we just we understand that Denethor misses Boromir a lot. We didn't need to like my son. And John Noble's doing a great job acting. He's phenomenal. Like I would put him, maybe I'm with Dylan. He's probably not my top 10 Lord of the Rings character, but if we made a top 10 of most unlikable characters of all time, I think Denethor is up there because he just plays this shit heel so good. But that's some of my favorite stuff is just Faramir just trying to find some connection here, and when he even thinks he has it, and that's what's like heartbreaking, then he sends him off to battle, you know, and he's like, oh well, a noble warrior would go, and it's just like he's just shaming him into it. It's just such good family it's very Game of Thrones just, and that's what I love about it. It's just like, oh, thick.
Another scene that's kind of thrown in here, which is not directly involving Denethor or really any of this, but it's a scene where Frodo, Sam, and Gollum are, it's near the start of the movie, so it's in that section when we're getting introduced to Denethor and Minas Tirith and all that, is when they're traveling through the woods and they find like a statue that has been taken over. Like I think the head, it was like beheaded, and I don't even know exactly what was on top of it, but then you see like the head on the ground, and then the sun shines through for a moment. It has like this hopeful theme, but then like, you know, the shade comes over, and it's kind of like a little bit of symbolism there of like the fall of Gondor and its fall of grace and stuff like that. So I don't know if that scene is needed in there to add on to that, but at least I thought it's like well positioned. At least it's, you know, you want to see where Frodo and Sam are at early on in the story. They're not in Mordor yet. Things aren't too shitty yet, and you kind of get that scene. But Travis, you were smirking. Do you have some beef with that scene? Or something?
I think you're right I like the symbolism. It's just a little cheese for me where it's like, look, he got his crown, and then like 2 seconds later it gets dark and it just turns, and Frodo and Sam were like it just I wish it was like a little slower or just a little build to it, but I get it. It's not a big scene, but no, it's all right. I always just laugh when I see this king and oh look, Frodo, he has his crown again, and then it just turns, and it's like a symbolism for what's going to happen. But no, like speaking of them traveling, whatnot, that's the other thing I love with Faramir, when he gets to tell Pippin and Gandalf that he's seen them physically, which I will say, and I'm not saying this because like people might think I'm Sam biased, I'm not, but like no one ever mentions Sam. They're always like, Frodo's still alive, Frodo's still on the way, Frodo's on Mount Doom. At the end when they're cheering, it's just they're just yelling Frodo's name
For Frodo.
Yeah, not Sam at all. So I just love the whole movie. Luckily he's not gonna know any of this, but I love just that reaction of Faramir being able to tell them that no, they're okay, they're still going, and just another glimmer of hope of like, okay, if they made it this far, maybe that's when they start talking like there might be a chance they could actually, for the first time, Gandalf thinks he might pull it off. Now later on they tell him like kill the shit of the hobbits, but still it feels like Gandalf gets some hope again, you know, which is good.
I'll defend them just cheering on Frodo because this quest literally
Of
killed
course.
Frodo. It didn't kill Sam, okay? And
They
like
didn't know that
Frodo,
in the moment, though.
no, like absolutely because like just carrying like the weight of like what like look what happened
Yeah,
to
fair.
Smeagol, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
he's forever like cursed for. I mean, he's dead now, but like if he would have lived on without the ring, like he just would have. Well, he wasn't able to. Like he had to find the ring again because it was just completely in his head. And by the end of the movie, like Frodo, he just can't even get back to reality because of like what he went through. That's a big decision on why he even like just goes on the ship in the first place. And so I would be cheering for Frodo as well. Sam,
would.
very
It just-
crucial member, but
It
Team
just sounds
Frodo.
like he's on a solo mission anytime they talk about
Yeah.
it. You know, like, where is Frodo
That's
at
fair
this
enough.
point
Well,
now?
that adds so much to Sam's story too, that he's just this understated guy
Yes.
that really is incredibly crucial, and the task would absolutely not have been completed in like 20 different ways had he not been there. And he went through a lot too, and he almost died several times. There's lava inches from his toes, like Chris Pratt in Jurassic Park. But you know, like no one's really gonna know about that. Like the only people who know about that is Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. But who's gonna trust Gollum anyway? You know?
And the people that read Sam's chapters, you know, they'll be like, oh, he was there the whole
No,
time.
I feel like Sam would be so humble in those chapters, or he'd just talk about how much he loves Rosie or something like that. Like,
yeah, they're like strange twist for the book.
He has a
today,
chapter
kid.
about the lava in his toes.
Yeah, I lost a couple hairs that day. Let's take an ad break,
well,
and then we'll
okay.
be right back with Kirklin Patzer's thoughts. And we're back.
I was gonna just give my 2 cents on the beheading of that statue because yes, like it's not entirely crucial. I do appreciate that scene now that I'm like on my own unexpected journey of going through the novels and like something that happens quite a bit actually like in the books revolving around like the orcs from Mordor is like when they go places and pillage, like they brand like where they are with the Eye of Sauron. And in that scene, we actually see like the mark of Sauron. And later on, like when they're in Mordor, you see like the mark of Sauron of being like just a red eye. And I feel like it like if you just ask like a regular general audience member of like, oh, what's Sauron's symbol? Like you would probably just assume the eye, but like the one that they write on their armor and stuff, it's very different than like what you would expect, like at least the tower looking like. So in that sequence, like they actually have this like blood paint, which is this like real like gruesome looking eye, like it's written by an orc, and it just makes a lot of sense. And I like that that's in there, like I said, because now going through it, like they put those marks on trees, and like the trees just like die, like it's just like a mark of like death, and like the whole symbol of the eye is that Sauron's sight is just ever reaching, like he just sees everything. So it's like a very demoralizing thing if you're like on the forces of order and you see something like that. So I appreciate at least they had that detail on there, but if I
That's
was
fair.
I would take a Denethor Palantir scene over maybe them finding this statue.
Where to
That's fair.
next? Anybody? Dylan, what would give us one of your your nuggets?
Let's see. Okay, this is maybe jump into a different direction, but let's go with it. I want to talk about Aragorn a bit. So, I guess one thing I hadn't really considered or thought about, and maybe you guys have some good counterpoints, but I kind of feel like 99% of his character development like is done by like Two Towers ending. I feel like in this movie, like obviously he takes the throne and the sword is a good thing as well, but I feel like it's just physical things that are changing him at that point, like his appearance and his gear. But I feel like character-wise, him kind of taking over when Theoden was kind of not being the best general, you could say, in Two Towers, and being the one that everyone is kind of rallying behind and risking his life, putting his life on the line for these people that he barely knows, things like this, and knowing like in himself what he's capable of and that he is ready to take that throne if the opportunity arises. I kind of feel like all that stuff happens, and so when we talk about this movie being The Return of the King, the subtitle being in reference to this character, I feel like, it's kind of weird that some of like all of his character development is done with, before this movie even begins. And then, also too, we'll talk about the ghost stuff later on, but I also feel like that's a major side quest for him in this, and there is long sequences when he's just not in it at all, or when
Yes.
he is, it's just this ghost stuff, which isn't, I guess you could make a case that this is some character development as well, but I guess I feel like Aragorn, I mean, I love the character very much. He probably going to be in my top 2 characters. I'm going to spoil my ranking there. But yeah, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Do you agree with me? Do you have some good counter arguments? I'm curious what you think.
I think I'm the same as you, but my counter argument is just the different strokes for different folks. Of like, I don't think you're wrong at all that most of his development is in the first 2 movies. Like, there's not much. To me, this feels like it's just the final steps of that, and that's why I feel like this is much more of the, like I said before, the Frodo, Gollum, Sam movie, where he is just there to. Okay, he's there. It's been remade. He's there to get the sword, save the day, get the girl. That's literally what he's there for. Like it's just to complete it. So I almost don't mind that because we are going into several big battle scenes where we don't almost need for. I guess that's myself. I don't need more motivation because I just know. Okay, now his point is he's realized he does have to lead these people. Now it's just he has to save these people. I think the only time where it feels like. Not the only time, but where you really get the development or the changing is when he does get that speech right before they go into the Black Gate. As far as that feels like he has changed. Like Aragorn 1 movie ago wouldn't have done that speech. And that's where it feels like that's his final step. But I agree with you. I think it does most of the heavy lifting in 1 and 2. And this is just the almost like right before you go in a boss battle. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get all my stats up. I'm going to finish a few side quests and go. That's what I feel like Aragorn is moving. Like he's right at the end of 2 Towers. He finished the penultimate mission right before you go fight the final boss. And now he's just final boss mode when you're all stacked up, you've bought your skins, you've done every side quest because it gave you that stupid menu of if you play this you'll get off some side quests. Like he's done everything he can, and so I like the ascension to becoming the king, and the fucking knighting ceremony is just like so good. Other than like whoever planned that ceremony, awful putting the hobbits right in the middle, terrible choice. Like they're not going to see anything or hear anything. Those guys should be at the beginning. But that's what I love is from the Blackgate battle to the end, Aragorn feels like such a different person. Like he's there and not in a bad way, but he feels like he's just evolved and changed so much the way he carries. And I remember because Kirklin mentioned this, like he's right where in the books he sings a lot, but if you watch theatricals, Aragorn never sang until this one, the extended. That's when they added him singing everything like that. So I remember as a kid, and I almost think it works better that way. Of the first time you see him in this garb, and he looks so beautiful, he sings, you're like, oh my god, like this guy who's just like a killing machine is just singing this beautiful rendition here, and he has the wavy hair. So I love everything, the way it's shot, everything on Menace Tirith. It's beautiful. But I don't think you're wrong that I think most of it has been pre-done. And again, you're right where I think it's even in theatrical, he's missing like a lot more because they added a lot of that Army of the Dead stuff. So he is missing a lot. And like I said, we'll get probably more in that, but I don't really like the Army of the Dead stuff. So it sucks that I'm kind of watching him in this kind of, Star Wars prequel CGI room, and they're just interacting with a bunch of nothings, and it's just like, no pun intended, feels like very soulless stuff and everything. It's not bad, but just not for me.
Yeah, I completely agree there. Like Dylan, you're completely dead on, and I can't counter that. Like, oh no, he has a lot more of, like, he wouldn't have became what he became if he didn't go this route. I definitely think all of that groundwork was done in the first 2 movies, and in my opinion, I think that's completely great that they do that, because I'm able to, like, maybe if 2 Towers was like Aragorn is like the centerpiece, in this one it's like, okay, we're back to the ring bearer and like these like main people that are holding the ring. Like, even if like they won the Battle of Pelennor Fields, they won the Battle of Helm's Deep, they delay the Battle of the Black Gate, but like if Frodo and Sam don't get there, like it's mission fail. So
they're just in enemy territory, just wait. Like if they did, that's it, right? Like if they get the ring, they're just at the Black Gate in enemy territory, screwed. Like there's nothing left to. You're in the
They're
worst
completely
situation.
surrounded. Like you saw the visual. Like they were just fucked.
There's no like, maybe we can attack Sauron and get the ring back and destroy it this time. It's like, no, it's over. Like who's in command? Who's in command of Gondor now? I don't know. Faramir, I guess.
Sauron. That's who.
Well, you're right. I meant like until he comes into town. Like it would have to go to Faramir. I
One of the
imagine,
Eagles,
right?
probably.
The steward of Gondor, right?
One
His
of the
son?
Eagles. Here.
He just makes sense.
Probably random guard too. I don't know.
Well,
one of the tree guards.
I don't know if we want to go down
the tree.
this path, but I was curious why Faramir doesn't go on that battle. But maybe we can loop back to that a little bit later on.
He's too busy spreading the seed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Eowyn.
He's injured. He's injured, is what.
Got to
they're supposed
repopulate
be.
the stewards.
He's injured.
Yeah, because remember when he came back from that battle, he was like unconscious on the horse, bleeding and everything. So I think he'd be deemed not helpful. So
what about Eowyn? I was curious why she doesn't go to that battle either.
She
almost
hurt her
died.
hand.
No, and she almost died. Aragorn had to like
she
sing
had like a
magic to
broken
her.
arm.
Yeah, she hurt her hand
magic
too.
to
Yeah,
it.
from Giving a good.
There's a
like,
whole
clocker
arm.
there.
Okay, that's what happened.
Like I don't think you're also wrong, Dylan, because I hate then Thor: Love and Thunder and Valkyrie's like, I'm too hurt to go. Like when it's dire straits, you're like, this is like the last battle. Like
Yeah,
Love and Thunder,
I
like,
just felt like Eowyn like hurt my arm a little bit, but I didn't know her arm was like actually broken. Really.
and I would still even take it that she would still go. Like if it's like I said, this is the
Yeah.
last battle where we could, if we
Well,
don't
she
win
was
this
also,
battle,
like-
it's over.
She like fucked up an elephant all on her own. A lot of KOs. She killed the
Yes.
Witch King Angmar. Like you need her. She's a very crucial number. So I was kind of surprised. And I also felt like she just has the fighting spirit. So I don't know why she wouldn't have gone there. But
You know, it's like you can appreciate this. Like, let's say we're playing a team smash match, right? And me and Taylor teamed up, and Taylor's like rocking like 189%. Just because 189% doesn't mean he should just give up. He's trying to get those hits in, right? He could be
Yeah.
knocked out at any moment, but he's with me to try and beat you two, right? And that's where I take it's like Faramir and her should be there, but yeah, they got to hook up because in the books they hook up and
They
don't
might
like
have been
theatrical,
like,
so-
"Oh, you're a woman. You know, you can't come with us to the Blackgate battle."
Yeah, they're like, oh, but I beat the Witch King, and they're
This
like,
ain't Rohan.
yeah. we didn't see no Witch King, and
they're like, oh, it was clearly Mary. We saw him stab. the Witch
Yeah.
King.
we're sending you, Mary, go. And it's just like, man, these people are fucking pigs. I hope you guys lose. I hope Sauron's like, I got a great package. I'm all for equality.
I don't know, man. I don't see Saruman hiring a single woman in any of his whole country.
No.
So
He needs
Not
a
true.
new.
Just
He needs a
green
witch queen now. It's like, Eowyn, you want the gig?
you want the game?
She puts on the helmet.
Yeah.
Here's a ring. You want this?
Yeah. Not the ring you think, but a powerful one nonetheless. She's like, no, I'm not taking this.
Maybe we should stay on the Aragorn
Yeah.
Yeah.
train. Kirkland, do you have something else, or should we?
I
go
was
to
just
Taylor?
I was gonna add on that, like, again, I feel like Travis mentioned with that metaphor, that like he was like 95% of the way there, but like even just the symbolic gesture of him getting the garb, him getting like Anduriel all like completely like cleaned up with the shards of Narsil getting repaired, going through those steps, it's like, okay, it's like his commencement ceremony, if that's what that is called. I think that's what it's called. Commencement
Inauguration.
ceremony? Inauguration.
almost,
Thank
yeah.
you. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
no,
else,
the
like,
commencement is something
it
else.
sounded
yeah.
sounded weird as it was coming out of the mouth.
Commencement's like the
Um,
start of something, so I think you're
The
good.
start of something new. Feels so right to be here with you. Yeah, I'll pass on to Taylor. He didn't mention Aragorn.
What does a
so.
commencement ceremony mean? Simply put, it's held once a year that honors students who will or just graduate.
Oh,
There you go.
I
You just
got it.
Graduated
graduated
from
from
being a
Ranger
ranger.
School. Yeah, exactly.
It's the
That's the next step from being a
who's
ranger.
king.
You just the
Ranger
king of
college,
Gondor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a good ranger, you're gonna be the king one day. Yeah. What about you, Taylor?
So, I feel like a lot of the points you guys said about Aragorn is true. Where the first two films were so much of his development, and now in this film, to me, I just see Aragorn in this position where he knows that he's going to be sitting on that throne. He knows he's going to be king, and it feels like a calm before the storm, because he knows that he's going to take that mantle, but he knows the price that he needs to pay to get there. He knows he's got to, like, obviously it wasn't early on where they're like, yeah, we got to go face like the Black Gate or anything like that. But I feel like, judging by how things progress for him and his character, that he just knows deep down he's going to have to face Sauron head on or something like that to claim his rightful place in Minas Tirith. So I like that. I like how we didn't need to necessarily have him survive like another all-out war. I mean, he was a hero in this, and his initiation with Elrond was just fantastic. That score kicks in, like, even if I was little and I didn't understand what was going on, I was just like, oh, the blade, like,
Yeah.
just enthralled by it. Just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, just when it leads to his actual what did you guys call it?
Commencement. That's what it's called.
commencement. Yeah. I was gonna
It's
say
not. It's not. It's inauguration.
okay. I was gonna say indoctrination, but inauguration sounds
That's worse. That's
He's a
worse.
no cult member.
That's what
of the
Saruman was
Gondor.
doing. Yeah, last
That's
movie.
definitely
They
what
took your
Denethor, was converted by.
yeah. But I love that scene so much, and that's always the scene that will make me cry. Is he gets his crown, and Gandalf's just
he gets
looking
an item and
fabulous in his white
everything, yeah.
robe there with commencing his like crownship, kingship, or whatever. And then yeah, it just leads into him just like tearing up when he looks at Legolas, and Legolas just like looks off to the side and is like, "Oh yeah,
I brought
listen,
you something."
I got yeah, I brought you something." Yeah, that's exactly it. And then you see Arwen just kind of like coming around the corner. Elrond's like just teary eyed, and yeah,
He's happy.
they're always happy. They go and they kiss, and it's passionate. And then the one scene that just really just it just feels just how Aragorn has just risen to this like this pedestal of a character. It's just when he looks at the hobbits and they start to like bow and he's like, my friends, like you bow to no one. He bows down and that music kicks in and it makes me cry
music, man.
every
Yeah.
single time.
I'm glad you shut that because I was gonna shut that if it didn't. Yeah, just how loud they intentionally like boost that score. But
Oh, yeah.
just
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
that pan out though, of just everyone bowing and just like doesn't matter if there's a wizard, the king, like you are the ones that really helped pull this off. Like we are indebted to you and these just four little people and it's just it's
Yeah.
such a moment and,
And
it's
think
just,
there's Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Taylor. No, Taylor, you go.
I was just gonna say, do you think some people that are there, like, why are we bound to these hobbits? Like,
and the king said bow, we bow.
I mean, a lot of
you
these
know.
people in Gondor don't have no idea who Aragorn is either. I mean,
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
You're like, is
course
that
this guy.
Denethor? Yeah.
he looks
Boromir's
good.
back?
That,
I'm
that
sure a lot of them
fire.
are like, what the fuck just happened? Our city got attacked by elephants and all these
Yeah.
orcs.
Yeah.
And then we have all these new people moved in. And I guess they're our kings now. I don't know what's going on. I'm sure there's a lot of confusion. Because Denethor was probably, poisoning the water of the, poisoning the minds of these people.
I was
Just
gonna
lying to them constantly.
Indoctrination.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
got-
that's what-
indoctrinating them into the Denethor cult.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that because like Denethor says that like I've heard the whispers of the one from whatever he is, like he says east or west or something. So you're definitely right that he's probably going around telling people like this
From
Aragorn
the
guy
north,
sucks.
I think it was actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
Rangers
Aragorn
of
guy
North.
sucks. But like
We
that,
know it's out in the east.
I like that line because it shows already though in Gondor people are talking about Aragorn. Like
Yeah.
those stories are making their way. So it's very technically they don't know who he is, but by the time he gets there and he helps save, they would know. Okay, this is the guy that like was a part of a lot of saving this planet, this city, and stuff. So I like that line of "You don't think I know about what your intentions are." Like, but it's a funny line, but I like it sets it up perfectly. That okay, no, it's like a Red Dead Redemption. He's building that legend. His legend status is almost all the way there.
Can we also just throw a little more shade on Denethor at the scene when
course.
he's like, and Theoden, he did not come to our aid. It's like, man, where were you like 2 weeks ago?
Oh, yeah.
The Battle of Helm's
That's-
Deep, and also obviously like Theoden was on his way, but they can't teleport there. So I wanted to throw that in.
Well, and there's a double too, because remember they ask him, "Should we light the fires?" and he says
Oh,
no.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's not even the one that chose to light the fires, and he's mad. Gondor. He's mad. Gondor will not respond to the fires that he did not
Wrong.
light. There's so much. Every angle is wrong. Why Denethor is mad.
it's just
about
like
it.
an unhealthy relationship, like you're mad at someone
With
and you
his own
want them to
mind.
like pick up the signals, but you're not like, telling them blatantly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Denethor,
I-
huge gaslighter.
Definitely.
Huge
I-
gaslighter. Literally and
This whole
figuratively.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
I love that entire sequence though, because again, it really like clearly shows just how snapped his psyche is. Like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like it's
Love it.
literally like a psychopath being like, oh, why didn't he come? Like the beacons were lit, but then when you go to when the beacons were actually lit, and like one of the greatest shots of Denethor, just like with that grumpy face looking
Oh.
down out of his throne room's window, just like absolutely hating life.
I hate that wizard.
But yeah, no, I love that because clearly everybody understands that like this isn't his decision. Like Theoden can't just fast travel there. But again, he's just blaming whoever. It's just like my line is ending. I mean, and again, it's psyche. It snaps even more when he's burning his own son alive, and he's like, he's dead. My line is over.
He just jumps to flee right away too. The second
Yeah.
Rohan's not coming, flee,
Abandon
your
your post.
Yeah. And I love like one of my favorite things, like first Gandalf knocks him out, which I still am a little mad like they didn't take Faramir because it's like I get you just knocked him out, but he's just only unconscious. But I love that Gandalf. I know he was kind of sent here to do this, but for that whole portion, he's literally like leading the like he's giving out commands. And it's like I imagine Gandalf like a year ago would not have thought he's gonna have to like lead the Gondor army, and like he's like, no, you like he is literally the captain, the king of this, but he's not supposed to be doing this. And not saying he's bad at it, but like he's literally, I was not supposed to be here today. Like I'm just supposed to be like a traveler and help you out, but he's here as like a.
He's
and,
like, I booked the day off, but
Yeah.
like no one showed up, so I got
And,
No
like,
days off for a wizard.
And like obviously he has been like fighting and he has war experience, but he's not supposed to be like a captain general who has like this battle strategy and everything. He just shows up with lights and a bunch of dudes. But no, here he had to step up and he did.
2 points to that. So throughout that scene where Gandalf does take on more responsibility in Minas Tirith, like leading the charge, you can see like his physical appearance changes. Like he just gets these huge bags under his eyes. Like he looks like he's like, yes, he's in war and battle, but even like over in previous battles, like he didn't look this rugged. Like he just looks like it's taking a toll on him, just like going through this and leading the charge. And I really like that. And then again, the other point, when he's prepare for battle, he knocked out Denethor and he storms down towards like the main gate, you see patrols of soldiers fleeing, like retreating, like, and it just like sets me up
Get a
like
steward order
you
then. Come on.
fuckers. What, like abandon your post? Like, are you guys really gonna do it? You're just letting the women and children just like fend for themselves, and you guys are in a whole squad like retreating. It gripes me the wrong.
Well, they're going to
the
pack
wrong
up their
way.
women and children, you know.
They're
but that's-
that's true.
indoctrinated, right? They just listen to whatever the
Well, I
are
mean,
government says.
indoctrinated.
they're probably is like they're probably under the impression that they have Osgiliath, that they're good, like they have a line of defense still, like they don't know the full picture of things going
They
on.
think everything's going good.
I mean, yeah, it's not until the fucking heads start flying over the walls that they're like,
Yeah.
shit, that's my brother, man.
What a message
Yeah.
to
Things are not
send.
going
Just,
well
just
over
the
here.
heads. you
So
know?
demoralizing.
Yeah. Oh,
Go ahead.
I said one more thing I wanted to highlight too with Gandalf
Please.
leading this charge. When they got up to that next level in that gate, this is another moment that makes me cry as well. When Pippin just asks him like, I don't want to die, and
Oh, yeah.
Gandalf just comforts him like, hey, death is just, it's not the end, it's another path. And he starts talking like what it's like, and it's just so peaceful. And man, like if when I die, I would want a Gandalf right
If I
there.
die one day.
Wow, what does he know that we don't know? If I die, you know. What I was gonna say, what you brought up Taylor about like how tired he was. I know in Helm's Deep that happens where we go from night to morning, but I think because this whole battle's outside, it really feels like a whole. This battle feels like it's literally a whole day because they show up in the daytime, you know, Rohan, but it's still later on. Like it's morning and they're not there, and it feels like it's gone on for like at least 2 days. This battle. And you're
I think
just-
it actually does because
yeah.
when Rohan are like far away and they're like getting ready to ride, or like they're already on route, and then they mention that they're like still 2 days away. That very same like the next scene is like the forces of Mordor approaching like the gate of Minas Tirith. So I definitely, again, you know, quick Google probably answer that, but I think it is a multi-day event because we see like at
Feels
least
like
2
that.
days of light, right?
Yeah, and
Absolutely. I mean, Helm's Deep. In the book, do you remember how many days?
I'm not there yet, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
Helm's Deep
I'm
is
excited
just
to
a
get there.
night. I think it's just a night.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it's like the movie. Because Gandalf's showing up, right? So it's almost like they're just trying to buy time until that wizard hopefully shows up.
That would surprise. I just feel like Tolkien, who had been in a war, would write these things as like long, multi-day or week-longs affairs, things like that.
Which I will say, because we completely moved past it, so I don't want to forget. With Saruman's death, those the screams he gave out, Peter Jackson wanted to use those because Christopher Lee described to him when he would hear a man get stabbed in war what it sounded like, and he says I want you to do that in the movie. So just a fun fact.
Wow.
That's what Christopher Lee's interpretation of is when he was in war and what he would hear around him when people were dying and stuff like that. So
Speaking of screams, there was 2 Wilhelm screams again
Yes.
in this.
Yes, there
2.
was.
One, I
Yeah.
think one of the the fell beasts picks up one of those Gondor people, and then I think another one's like a guy falling off an elephant or something like
You're
that.
right. No, yeah, he falls. Yeah, he falls. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like 1. 2's too many for me. I don't like 2.
I'm at a point now where 0. I don't need to hear this ever again. It takes me out of it. I know that guy did not make that noise when he screamed. I know
They
Wilhelm
didn't make
wasn't
noises
there.
like
He
that
can't
back
be
then.
They don't have technology for that.
Yeah.
I googled, so apparently Battle of Pelennor Fields was actually just taking place from the 14th of March to the 15th of March, so,
Okay, so it's
it was
1 day.
just like a single
Huh.
day. I definitely thought
Still
it
a day
was
is a
multiple.
lot. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
down.
Sorry,
a
this
day,
is
a
the Battle of
day
Minas Tirith. I've never heard
Yeah.
this word Pelennor Fields before.
That's what it is, the Battle of Pelennor Fields.
I
Palantir
didn't
field?
learn that until the video game.
That's the next one.
honestly, until the
Oh,
video
okay.
game, that's when I learned about.
It's a
Oh,
level
it's
name or
actually.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
How about Helm's Deep? Do you have that Google handy?
It's again just the specific
day?
date.
Like
yeah,
2
just the 1
hours.
day.
Yeah,
No, not
Okay.
2 hours.
2 hours.
And that one,
They started
Dylan, is
battle-
called the Battle of the Hornburg.
No one's calling it the Battle of Hornburg. It's gonna.
The
be.
answer is like the runtime in the movie. Oh, it's half an hour long. It was
Yeah.
accurate to the second, that battle.
Yeah, the 3rd of March to the 4th of March. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Specifically in March. A lot of
Yeah.
things are
A
Oh,
lot
happening.
of
battles
war
in
months.
March.
Great month to war.
No, bad month. Bad month.
March
That's why
Madness,
it's-
baby.
That's where it
Literally,
started.
March
back
Madness.
then.
Yeah.
Aragon's
Tolkien
first
invented
holiday.
March
yeah.
Madness.
We will deem this March Madness going forward. We will take battles, tournaments.
Yeah.
We'll celebrate with basketball.
We'll have 64th seeds.
They just write the Eye of Sauron on all the basketballs.
yeah.
Since we were on the Aragorn train a bit earlier, I wanted to continue with one thing, which is that in rewatching the movies now and, having the podcaster lens where I'm paying attention to everything that's going on and I'm writing notes and all this stuff, I gotta say, I feel like the Arwen-Aragorn relationship doesn't really work for me. Like, I think it's actually pretty weak, especially in. I feel like most of their scenes together are in Fellowship, and I like that kind of budding relationship. But then obviously they're in different places in Two Towers, and I think they might have one or two scenes in person in Two
They had
Towers.
the flashbacks in Two Towers, remember? Because they go back
Yeah.
to the first movie in Rivendell when he left. Yeah.
And then in this movie they reunite at the ending, and yeah, it's weird to me because a lot of it is shown through them having like visions of each other and stuff like this, but I don't know, I just don't feel like they have that time to build that chemistry, or maybe it's just because like nothing happens between them in so long that it feels weird that she just shows up and like he's becoming king. He's like, you know what? While we're at it, let's do the wedding. I haven't seen you in like a few months, but you still down for that? Let's do that right now. So I don't know. I think it's totally fine, but it's after watching it again, I was expecting extended editions are going to throw some more scenes in there, and they do. But yeah, I don't think it's like definitely not like an all-time great love relationship in film for me. Yeah. So you guys might feel differently. I feel like you probably do, but I feel like that was something I was really looking forward to in the rewatch here. In that, I feel like when I was a kid, I'd often tune out like even the dialogue between them. Those would be the moments where I'd grab.
I'll never be in love.
Or I'd whip up my DS at that point or something. Yeah. But in watching it now, I was like, there's really not much substance here, and it's kind of a bummer. And then I think it just makes that's like the one part of that scene where he becomes king. It works. It's totally fine. It's the one thing that feels like it doesn't really fit so much. Yeah. So I would love to hear you guys' counter arguments and prove me wrong on this. But I think where I'm at these days.
I think you're completely fair, like in your thoughts of that, because like they're other than like the flashback stuff, none of their love dynamic is like crucial by any means for like the plot of the story. It's nice that they have a happy ending, and it's funny too because we were kind of talking about how in Fellowship like they gave her a more important role to like make her more crucial to the story, but after that movie like she really doesn't. She's just chilling in like Rivendell, maybe Lorien at one point, I can't quite remember, but like she's actually kicking ass in that first movie, and then she's just kind of on the back burner, and then she pops in at the end to be like, oh yeah, I remember this character. They have some dynamic.
Doesn't have a personality or like a story that is not in being like an accessory to Aragorn, which I think is too bad.
I think for me though, like it really does work for many different reasons, and I think the main reason is that it's already set up that they do have this kind of relationship at the start of Fellowship, like they have history, so I'm able to just be like, okay, I'll accept that, and then I don't love like the flashback scenes in Two Towers, but still it's giving more of those one-on-ones and really explaining like why he can't be with Éomer or
Éomer. Wow. When I read
Carl Urban. You can't be with Carl Urban. Yeah.
When I read the books the first time, I missed that. I got to really reread them now.
Oh my gosh.
Éowyn. I would love that. They switch Éowyn.
What if Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, that'd be
Let's
great.
Do that.
Embracer group. You know what to do.
Yeah. I want to see them embracing.
But it makes sense why he can't be with Éowyn because he's just already sworn to Arwen, and then like some other reasons on why it really works for me is it's just like the parallels of their relationship in turn to like the Baron and Luthien relationship, which not expecting you to know what that is. He briefly mentions it in Fellowship, like he sings kind of like the ballad of the two, and I love that storyline. It's so fascinating. It's something that happened in the First Age, not relevant really at all to what this is, but that love story between Baron and Luthien is also, I think, kind of like a parallel to Tolkien and his wife's like dynamic. So I love just thinking of it that way. So I think coming into it, I'm already sold on like the man who is immortal, like being with the immortal character. I love that, but for just the movie's sakes, I can completely agree with you, Dylan. It's definitely not the best movie love dynamic that I've seen by any means, but I still tear up at the end for many reasons.
I was also curious when in that scene when I guess they're gonna march to when the elves are going to the harbor, the docks, wherever they're going, so that she can sail west. I'm trying to think of my directions here. She has that vision of like her future kid, and is that like a vision literally of like what the future is going to be like a Palantir is kind of showing, even that though that's not always accurate either. It's kind of like Sauron's like clouded vision, whatever it is. Is that like an actual vision? Is that just like we're supposed to be imagining what's happening in her head, because she's obviously like looking specifically at this place. Like, is there
Yeah.
some magic going on there, or is it just like
Yeah.
a visualization of what she's thinking?
I would say it's definitely magical because like her father is blessed with foresight, so I can only imagine that she has a
right.
little bit of that as well. Yeah, I took that very literally because she even confronts Elrond, being like, "Why didn't you tell me that this was the path
Right.
that was going to happen?" And
He's like,
So-
it's a path that's
Yeah.
slow. It's almost dead. That's what he says. So it's
Yeah.
like a turn right or left situation. So because that conversation, I take it as like it's literal magic, because he literally says, "Yeah, that is a path, but it's gone now." And she's like, "Not yet. I'm gonna stay here." And he's like, "Oh God."
Also,
Only
that
just
kid
listen
is
to
giving her some major stink eye at the end of that shot. He's like really like, "Who the fuck are you? Like, why are you looking at me?" kind of thing.
I'm not doing my
Yes.
chores.
Because it's actually Eowyn's kid. That's why.
Oh,
You're not my mother.
Yeah. Arwen showed up years later, like, I want to rekindle things. Everyone's like, it's too late, man.
that girl who makes the shitty soup. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has no arm now. But I'll let you know what I think after this next ad break. And we're back. So I think the way it works for me is, it's definitely not all-time love. I just kind of like what Kirklin was saying, where I take it as someone, if they're already in love and they've been drafted to war, and that's the only reason they're separated, as far as, or if it's kind of like in real terms of like some families like don't want you to marry out of your race, right, or your religion, where if someone is Christian and they're not Christian, you can't be married to that person. So that's where I took it, where it's almost like Aragorn in this, where he's like all the way there. I almost take it from Fellowship when we meet them. They're just madly in love. They're like stroking each other's hair. They're singing to each other. She's giving him jewelry, which is like important stuff. Like, I already feel like they're madly in love, and I don't need more foundation. So for the story of it just being his like ultimate love, and the only thing that's tearing them apart is where they come from, that's why it works for me. It's just kind of the simple, stupid method. So it works. I think they have enough chemistry. They have a tonguey kiss at the end there when that's going in.
He goes in, tongue first. I
there's
feel
a
like I never
lot-
realized that.
There's a lot of things, and he lifts her up, and it's a long kiss too. So they were.
It's the first time you ever see her smile too. I feel like she always has that blank stare.
Yes,
until
true.
that moment.
Yeah. Even Elrond, I like in the background. He's like smiling. Like,
Oh, he's like, oh yeah.
Like, look at that tongue.
No,
Go
he's
get an
not.
Arwen.
No, he's
I saw this the
not.
whole time.
yeah. But no, that's why I guess it works for me. Just a simple, stupid. These two are madly in love, and they're back together after being split apart for years and stuff like that. And it's like, again, I prefer that over Eowyn, because like it just, I felt a little bit in Two Towers, but in Return of the King, man, they just make that character feel so desperate. That's more what I have cons about, like her speech with, or her talk with Theoden and this talk with Aragorn. It just is like, that is not written well to me in like a woman's perspective. She just comes off as so desperate. So that's why I like him being with Arwen a bit more. And I was happy for it. And go have that kid, you know.
Yeah. To transition into that, my beef with the Eowyn storyline, because I talked about how much I really like that character last time, is the Faramir part of it, where I'm sure in the book you get a lot more of this, which actually makes it feel real. But in this movie, that is so fucking forced that they end up together. And I guess, like, you know, when you see them standing together at the inauguration, you're assuming that they're dating to that point, that they're together, they're going to get married. Maybe they're already married, who the fuck knows? But I really don't like that, because I feel like Eowyn had enough going on, and to just like Faramir just throws one gaze at her and then she's like all into it, and they're just together. Like in the theatrical, they cut the two scenes they have together, and the only one you get is them standing together at the wedding, which is just like, here's two characters that you know standing, you know, or at the wedding, at the inauguration. I guess it's also maybe a wedding. So that there's nothing like romantic about it, and so I actually kind of like that more, even though I'm always down for more Eowyn scenes. But the Faramir thing, I don't know, feels very forced to me, so I did not need it. But I'd be curious to see how that goes in the books, because hopefully it's done much better.
You'll have to let me know, because I think in the books it's pretty small too. Like, I don't think it's a big thing. I think it's just kind of like all these characters eventually met and they found a kindling, and there's a bit more to it. But I don't think there's not much to it. And I think from a book nerd standpoint, I appreciate they put it in there. But I can see why when they made this theatrical, they're like, we don't need any of this in here. Like, it does
I think
nothing
if you just
for the
have them
story.
standing together at the thing, for the book
It's good
nerds, that's
enough.
like, ooh, look at, they're hanging out. But
Yes.
yeah, to actually like throw a scene where he throws a look at her and she's like, ooh, this guy now. I was just an Aragorn, but now this guy's looking pretty neat. And then they're kind of like flirting the next scene, so it's
Yeah.
pretty on the nose with what
And that's why
they're
that
going for.
character goes down for me, because it just feels like, okay, Aragorn, that didn't work out, then I'm gonna go on to Fair. Like, it just feels like she needs like a man to attach to, like, make her character have importance, which I don't think is the case. To me, they should have just completely not had the Aragorn thing and just have her this person that wants to go into battle and fight, and make it more about her brother and her uncle instead of this. But
Yeah.
Taylor, what do you think about all this? Because you also didn't speak about Arwen as well.
The whole dynamic between Arwen and Aragorn, I liked it. When I was first introduced to that, again, I was still pretty young, so I was like, is this love? Is this what, this is what
Yes,
it's all
Taylor.
This is
about?
what love is.
Yeah. So just kind of like progressing from that, it's much more understandable now where they had to break that off because, she's an elf, he's a man, wouldn't have worked in Middle Earth with Sauron and orcs and all that. But I like how she chose to defy what duty against what she felt was right, I guess you could say, her duty to go to the Undying Islands over what was right in her heart. And I like that she chose to go with that, and has this magical vision of seeing her child, which I really like that scene. The child just gives her in the dream like these these stern eyes just staring at her in that one moment. When I kind of highlighted it too before, when Legolas just kind of like suavely is like, yeah, check her out, and then he just makes out with her just like crazy, and it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad.
In terms of like the Eowyn stuff with Faramir, I definitely probably am more on your side, Dylan. I'm watching the theatrical versions of that and just not having those scenes in there of them just kind of like just falling head over heels with each other. I'm happy with. I liked it's okay. They're at the inauguration, and I can headcanon however that is. I can make up my own romantic scenes, like they're gonna go off on a date later or something like that, and they'll go to Minas
We've seen your
Morgul.
Photoshop. I want to see that one.
Yeah.
That's the 5th Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh, wow.
But in touching upon those actual scenes that they show, it definitely is a little bit forced and just does feel a little out of place. But I'm happy that Faramir, gets some love. Travis, you mentioned that it's more like Eowyn just has this crutch of having a guy around just to kind of like boost her up. I honestly feel like in this case, at this point, it's like Faramir needs her to kind of boost him up a little bit just by these scenes.
Yeah, I agree. I think he served his, like, in theatrical, really. Once he's saved, I don't think you need him anymore. Like, there's no more to the story. And same with, like, Eowyn. Like, once she kills the Witch King and saves Mary, like, there's not much need for her either in the grand scheme of things. I think I'm with Dylan, where them just being at the wedding beside each other, showing they both made it. Maybe there's an inkling there. Maybe that, because in my head, it's like, oh, maybe they started talking at this the ceremony, and that's when they struck it up, like, because it's just weird for right after the battle too. Even then, like, Faramir, I guess people cope in
I
different
saw
ways.
you fuck up that Witch King. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, but even then, like, he was just being doused in gasoline by his father. Like, a lot of stuff went down, and it's just weird that they both are just, I guess, just horny people after all this tragedy stuff. She
That
just
could
lost her
happen.
uncle. It can happen. I'm just saying, like, in the way they do it in this movie, it doesn't work that way. But it's not necessarily bad. It's just not needed. And that's where, again, in theatrical, I see why they're like, yeah, cut. Like, to me, those would have been the first ones. Like, this is not, and it even slows down the pace, because it's like in the middle while they're like going to Blackgate, and it's just like, oh, and now we're back here, and they're like laying each other's heads on each other. It's like, I get it. We're showing what we're fighting for. We're showing this bonding, and if they survive, then these people can have these relationships and go. But yeah.
Well, it's weird too that like Faramir is just chilling and he sees her like unconscious pretty much on this like medical table, and he's like, yeah, she's kind of cute. I think I'm gonna like talk to her later.
Yeah.
Stab
So
that Witch King.
The whole thing is a bit strange. I gotta ask you guys about this scene. This is an extended cut thing. So when they're still in Rohan, Aragorn is like tucking in Eowyn, and for some reason she's sleeping like in the main hall on like this couch, and she's having a nightmare, and he kind of tucks her in. So like why does that scene exist? I'm curious what that is supposed to do. Is the nightmare supposed to mean something powerful? Is it supposed to be that Aragorn is entertaining the idea of being with her by like holding her hand and tucking her in, which does not make sense for the character of Aragorn as far as we have seen. So I'm curious what you guys make of that scene, because to me that's like a easy cut. Like, yeah, get that out of the movie. It does not need to be there.
I think, which it's weird because we see the extended cut after her, obviously, but I think it's to like try and make the viewer think that maybe he could pick her. But I also just think it shows he's like a caring individual because I think he still likes Eowyn, and I almost feel like they could be something if he didn't meet Arwen before. So I guess I don't have as big a problem. I feel like he's a caring guy, so he's always looking after people. So that's how I take it. But again, yeah, I don't think it needs to be in there at all, considering the ending of their relationship. So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's safe to cut that one. I kind of just took it as he's just like he's like the comforting king, you know, so he's looking after everyone in his realm. And even if you're having a nightmare, he'll come and tuck you in. Maybe not fully, but
Théoden just wakes up. It's okay. I'm okay.
Another nightmare.
He like rocks.
Get out of my
him.
chambers, guards.
He rocks him to sleep. Just big Théoden.
Just like in his arms.
Yeah,
Just
that's
like,
yeah. Just like, where's your rocking chair, King?
Question
sorry.
for you guys. So, I mean, especially Kirklin, who's a big Palantir fan. The scene of Aragorn grabbing the Palantir. Well, obviously the one in Rohan, like that is part of it where he takes it from Pippin and then like throws it on the ground. But the one at, I guess, Gondor at that point, I'm trying to remember.
It's
where
the
that
same
was
one.
exactly.
It is the same one.
Well, I know it's the same one, but I like, where is he when that's at? I think it is at.
They're in-
He's
yeah,
at
the-
Gondor. Yeah.
It's after the Battle of the Pelennor Fields when he's ready to just call him out to 1v1,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
So that is like another Arwen thing where obviously he sees the vision of her. But how do you feel about that not being a theatrical cut thing? Do you think that's a good cut, bad cut? What do you feel about that?
That one I think is honestly I think it's crucial because that's him like calling Sauron, being like, I am Isildur's heir, the person that chopped your hair, like separated you from the one thing that you care about, the one ring. Like, come at me, you know? And then he's like, I'm gonna be at the Black Gate, like bring your forces and we'll just settle this.
My boys,
Yeah,
your
essentially.
boy.
That's
Yeah.
essentially what he's saying, right? And then
Yes.
like if you don't have that in the movie, why would like I feel like you kind of are just under the assumption that Sauron is just like he just sees everything, so he just sees the Force go into his Black Gate, and he just kind of assumes to send all of his orcs there. Like, it just seems a little bit messy from my perspective if you just don't have that scene of him act. Because even Gandalf like tells him to do that, right?
Doesn't he see the army? Isn't that a distraction enough?
I don't think so. No, because
No?
even if you go to Mordor, great decision by Peter Jackson to have that like spotlight effect on like actual like Sauron's eye, because you see exactly where his
yes.
gaze is in those moments. Like he's looking for Frodo right now. Like he's not focused on the Black Gate, but then like Sauron is actually holding a Palantir. So like when Aragorn, his most hated like enemy essentially, like that bloodline, like picks up it and just like challenges him, like I would assume he just gets very ego and like, no, like I just hate this person, I have to take him out. And who knows, maybe he even thinks that he has the ring, like because this is just like his most immediate threat, like he has to take him on, and sends everyone. That's why like for me I feel like that's a very crucial scene.
It starts playing like visions of him, Sauron himself, and Arwen just macking out like
The big armor.
Her and
It's another Taylor at
Holding
Lord of the Rings
hands.
5.
She has a baby. It's just in the Sauron armor and everything like that.
Oh
little
no.
But yeah, no, I agree that I hate that they cut that because I feel in the theatrical that Sauron is, he even extended, he doesn't get that much personality, but it gives him a little more of like a character in him actually speaking to Aragorn. And when he shows him Arwen, to me that's like oh man, you son of a bitch, like he's showing off like not the way Taylor,
yeah.
but like I'm gonna take her next, like I'm taking all this stuff and she's I'm gonna kill this woman, Taylor. I'm gonna kill this woman and I'm gonna take her from you just because like you're fairly taking things from me. So that's what I like. It's just kind of this call, and I feel like that gives him. I feel like they would pay some attention to the Black Gate, but I almost feel like it is okay. Now I know that Aragorn's coming. It's like okay, I'm gonna end this bloodline just like I was gonna do to Denethor. Like I'm gonna kill that. So yeah, and I would say as a kid though, man, was I disappointed because I was so convinced, man, final movie, like Sauron has to come back and him and Aragorn have to fight, right? And I still wish Tolkien did that. I still wish there was a way we could have got that fight because I the whole time was convinced for like 3 years, oh, that's definitely gonna happen. But that's like the equivalent of it. So that's why I like more because in theatrical, other than at the end when Sauron's talking to him in the eye and it's gazing upon him, you don't get much of a connection between Aragorn and Sauron, and it should be because the whole first movies he's like, I'm Isildur's heir, but not Isildur himself. Like they keep referring back to his lineage that took the ring, couldn't destroy the ring. So I think it is one of those like Saruman scenes where I think it's better, shorter, but I think it is crucial that they should have kept that in because also it's not that long. It's like 2 minutes
true.
of just him
Yep.
looking at it and he's staring and he shows him the sword. Like even him showing the sword, I'm like, yeah, show him that sword. So yeah, I think they should have kept it.
Taylor?
I couldn't agree more. I think it's very pivotal to his character that at this point, like he hasn't had this on his terms confrontation against Sauron, and he's only growing in his name and his power and his strength and his reputation, and to finally be in this position where it almost feels like he's been inflicted with so much self-doubt based on his family lineage throughout all these tribulations and getting to this point that I think it's very much justified in this scene when he's not only just doing it to kind of throw salt on the wound to Sauron, but he's doing it to comfort himself and think like, I am not a Isildur, like I am not my ancestor, like I am Aragorn. Pulls the sword up in front of him, like just committing to this, like I'm going to be better than that. I'm going to take you on and not show that fear. And so for me, this scene is just absolutely incredible. I love it so very much.
Yeah, and like I don't think anyone up until that point like single-handedly like called out Sauron, right? Like even like Saruman, like he explains like together Gandalf we could like beat him, and like when Saruman is like talking to the Palantir, like to Sauron, like he's basically just like praising him, like my Dark Lord, like all these things. So like to have this character, Isildur's heir, like actually just calling him out essentially, like you see this sword, like remember what happened to it last time, like that's gonna fuck you up again.
I'm gonna fuck you up again.
Yeah, exactly. You bring your boys. And I another great detail that I feel like I kind of missed up until this viewing is when like they zoom in, you have Aragorn holding the Palantir, and then it zooms into like the tower, and then like where the eye is, you actually see Sauron in the armor holding the Palantir, and I find that so fascinating because I always thought that the Peter Jackson trilogy made like an actual decision to just make Sauron not have a physical body. Like Sauron is that tower. He is the eye. And that's maybe why you don't see him again. Like that's just kind of how I always pictured it. I think it's even said like in the books, like he actually is a physical form. I think Gollum like kind of describes him a little bit, like when he was spending some time getting tortured in Mordor. But like in this, like you have the eye, but within the eye, like you see Sauron holding the Palantir. So I just found that so fascinating because it's like if
I've
we're
never noticed that
stating
either.
if we're stating that you have the physical body of him, like Travis mentioned, why don't you have him come like at the Black Gate with his giant mace just ready to fuck shit up?
Well, for movie version, I don't know why they like. Obviously, they want to stay true to the books. Movie version, that's the hype ending. Is you got to get Sauron out there. But to me, I take it as just like he is ready to be tagged in the second that ring. Like to me, it's like he has been rebuilding slowly and slowly. That he has a physical form, but he actually can't. Like to me, it's almost like he's died and he's like stuck in a like in between worlds where the second that ring can get to the tower, where maybe there's like a little placeholder where the second that ring touch is like that can bring him back. So that's the way I always take it, that okay, he is fully formed, got his whole power back. So if he gets the ring now, it's just like before, maybe worse. So I think that's what I take in the armor. That's almost still like an allusion to it. Not that he's actually standing in some fiery room, but just like, hey, this is gonna be when I get this ring. This is what I'm gonna look like and stuff like that. And, and thank God for Conquest of the Rings, because you get to play the what if Frodo lost the ring and you get to come back as Sauron and you're just killing everybody. Great game.
They ended up actually doing that heavily in The Hobbit too, Kirklin, where that's when it clicked in for me, is when watching, I think it was the second Hobbit, when the eye appears and then you see like the pupil is actually Sauron in his armor, like walking inside the eye.
Oh,
and that's
really?
when it clicked for me. In retrospect, I can look at these movies and think like, oh yeah, okay, like cool, like he's in the eye. So
And to show another cutout scene that is one of my favorites, the mouth of Sauron. That to me is like, I know he's like his own
I
physical.
know you love this scene.
I love because to me that is like that's also the equivalent of like what I'm saying of like he is almost like taking on this host. Like this thing is itself, but I literally think like what he's saying is that's why it's not a normal
I see
being,
what
but
you're
it's like an orc, whatever it is, but it's taken over. And that's why his mouth is so raw and destructive, because like that is actually Sauron's mouth. Like whatever he is saying, that's why it's to me called the mouth of Sauron. It's not that he's just relaying a message. Sauron is literally speaking through, and that's why he's like it's very much like Taylor would understand. It's like when people supposedly get like possessed, right, and stuff like that. The way they
Right.
talk,
Yeah.
the way, and that's where to me I love that scene. And because in the theatrical, they just kind of show up. Because I haven't watched I've only I think seen the theatrical like twice, and then I got the extended. Dylan, what happens in between? Because I know they get the knee throw, right? Doesn't somebody throw them the knee throw when they're like, oh, no, they just show up and they.
Yeah, and actually, interestingly, the Mouth of Sauron scene, like after that, everything else is the exact same
Yes.
until the very end of
It's
the movie.
so
that is the
frustrating,
last
yeah.
addition or change. And then, yeah, it's like another like 30, 40 minutes of stuff. And like, yeah, there might be like 2 or 3 seconds shaved off a couple scenes, but it's not like there's dialogue. It's just like, they're shaving seconds where they can. Which is there's actually a ton of that I noticed, like just a lot of scenes where 2 seconds, 3 seconds shorter, that kind of thing. And it's like a lot of it, which I'm sure
And
shaved off like 3 or 4 minutes for them when they did that. When you add it
yeah,
all
of
up,
course.
but,
Yeah, is it 3:05 yet? No, it's 3:06. Okay, take this everything. But like, and I kind of get it why they could sit here and be like, we don't necessarily need this scene, but I just feel like it plays into like you have Aragorn who faces off Sauron, and then he's kind of talking with Sauron, and I love the whole movie. Like many times Gandalf, like, and I guess it's somewhat an extended too, where Sauron's like, do you even realize like what did you tell the hobbits when you sent them off? Like what did you lie to them about? So I guess it is a bit more of a theme in the theatrical, but I like when they throw him the knee throw, and in that moment Gandalf does believe that he failed and he made a wrong choice. But then I like his Aragorn, I love when he goes to respond, just cuts his fucking head off, and he just looks at Gandalf and says, I'll not believe. And I feel like that's the first time in the whole series, and that's why I think that to me is almost crucial for Aragorn, because it always still feels like Gandalf's still above everybody else. This to me feels like the first time Aragorn is speaking to Gandalf like, no, get your head in the game. We will not believe it. And he literally says, I cannot believe. Like, no, he says, I can't believe. I will not believe. Like, he's saying almost even if it's true, we can't fight like it is true. So to me, it's like kind of essential to some of their themes, not like huge ones, but some of their themes of face down Sauron and believing that Frodo is hopefully alive. Because anytime Gandalf gets told Frodo's alive, it's like such a relief to him, because he does feel like he kind of not screwed up, but just like he put a lot of weight on these two hobbits, right? Like it was a lot to ask. He asked for them to do a lot more than I think they thought they were going to get into. Thought, okay, it's going to be a trip. Well, even when it started, right? Oh, we're just going to take it to Rivendell, and that was it. Sam was like, oh, we're going to go home. And then after that, they kind of almost get a little bit guilted into it, because like, well, man can't take it and Gandalf can't take it. So Frodo's just, I'll take it, and all his friends come. So that scene with like Sauron just pretty much dishing out insults, being his best Denethor, just saying, look at you, Gandalf, though. Like, and I love him physically. I love the mouth. I love how gross it is. So that is like almost more than Sauron, because Sauron, I want to see him die, of course. But for all the other scenes, like that is like peak for me, So
that scene when you're talking about the insults, I'm never gonna forget that when they're about the Sauron, because like Aragorn steps forward, he's like, I'm gonna do my best to quote the scene here. He's like, who is this? Isildur's there. Takes more than a broken blade to make a king. He just fucking cuts his head off. It's so good.
I love it, and it's just like it just adds more personality to Sauron. Where in theatrical, he is just the like floating being, like just this thing of what it could be. But little stuff like the Palantir and the smell Sauron, you're like, okay, and that's where I feel like it's like, oh, he's actually getting stronger. Like it's getting close to he could be back, and then the rest of it's just the same. And where I guess he puts that knee throw in his little pocket there, Gandalf, because I'm like, where is it in theatrical? But
this is a weird one for me. It's like, it's hard for this to be like, after all these years, like this is a scene that exists that I haven't seen or that I don't remember, because it's such a strange thing. So I'm pretty neutral. Like I don't know how I feel about it. You're right. There is some good dialogue there. I think for me, one of the issues with it is that it just doesn't seem to track with who I've been set up to see the forces of Mordor as. Like never have they ever sent someone to have a conversation before a battle to talk about things. And so like, why is this the first time he's showing up? I don't really get like what is the purpose of this character, but I also feel like I don't see any world where the orcs would open up the door to just let someone come out and chat for a minute. Like I think that if they open up that door, they're coming to fight, which they do later, but it seems weird that they would just like open that up and potentially like, lose some of their defenses by opening up that door to have this potential conversation. So it's a bit strange for me. I am feeling quite neutral on it.
I don't even necessarily think, like, because you could be right there, but I think it might be more of like a psychological kind of like plan. It's not really anything to do with like fighting in that sense, but I think going in there and just kind of like rousing them up a little bit, because even Gandalf's like telling like Pippin and Merry just like quiet, because they're like Frodo. So like,
Oh, yeah.
any information that
He's,
he
like,
gets
laughing.
in this, because he knows the ring is in like his proximity. So I think this is a major play here to try and flush out maybe some information they have.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what
So-
I thought it was. Is more of like, could I get them to slip and say something about Frodo and the ring and stuff like that? And that's why I like that Aragorn just
So
cut
do
his
they
head
expect that like Mouth of Sauron goes out, gets this information, they let him waltz back in, and there's no battle?
But if
and,
he's like possessed, it would be Sauron,
yeah.
right?
I think
was
he's
gonna
just
say
sent out there to
Sauron,
probably die, like that, like whatever that being is. Like like Sauron doesn't care if that
Well,
guy
so
dies.
Sauron, how
either
could
way.
Sauron hear it? You're saying he can magically hear?
I think he's possessing that guy. Like I literally think that whoever's on the horse, the mouth of Sauron, he has possessed that body.
It's
And
just
he's
Theoden.
using it. It's yeah, but no, but it's like that, Taylor. Where Sauron took over Theoden. To me,
Exactly.
Sauron is taking over Jimmy on the horse. You know, Big Jimmy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I for like the negotiation thing, I also just took it as like this is just an effort to maybe save some troops so like your orcs won't die. It's like, hey, we have you like dead to rights, like because he even lists those demands, right? Like we won't kill you if you just like put down all your swords, like you just give us all of your lands. Ridiculous commands, but still, it's just like
And
we
Gandalf
killed
Like in
your ring bear.
Civilization 5, you know, you're talking to the, if you're at war, it's like Gandhi's like, oh, I'll go peace, but you got to
Yeah.
do every single thing
And
you
even-
want.
Exactly.
Even Gandalf
Sorry,
counters. Gandalf counter. He's like, "We will leave you be. You just have to leave these lands and never be seen again." That's like the negotiations
Yeah.
are so high. Either you give us all your land or I leave completely. Like Gandalf, technically, in a way, is almost like, I'm not saying he doesn't want to destroy them. I think he would, but he is almost saying like, you got one last chance. Like if you just leave forever, we could just get past this, because I feel it's almost like a, hey, we don't know for sure Frodo's going to succeed. So it's like, because he doesn't have to. Why would Gandalf say leave forever? Like we don't have to do this unless you leave forever, and to never
Probably
be seen
just-
of again.
yeah.
you know? I guess
I
it's
would.
a threat, I guess too. But it's a weird thing to throw out there, because it's like, look at how many troops they have. They're not going anywhere, Gandalf.
I was gonna say like just delaying though, right? Like they
Yeah,
know
that too,
they
yeah.
believe Frodo is on the way. Like that's why they go in the first
That's why
place,
they're
because
going,
there's tens of thousands of orcs between Frodo and Mount Doom. Like they're just trying to clear out Mordor. So if we're gonna have a little conversation here, that's trying to just delay it as long as possible. And then in regards to the Mouth of Sauron, I don't think he's actually like possessed by Sauron by any means. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe what he is a Black Numenorian, which was just like an actual Numenorian from Numenor, which thank God Rings of Power is coming out this week. I can't wait. So we're going to learn about them in that show. But this is one that's just been super loyal to Sauron, and then Sauron just made him like ageless through black magic. And that's probably why he looks all fucked up, honestly, because it's just dark magic is at work there. Because
So why is he called the Mouth of Sauron then?
well,
Other
he's
than he just says, like,
he's his
politician.
ambassador, right? Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
The
He's
hand.
also, I think he also has the title of like Lieutenant of Barad-dûr, which is like the main tower. So like he's his main ambassador. I don't know who he's doing.
I'd rather be the
you know,
Mouth of Sauron
diplomacy.
than the Lieutenant of Barad-dûr. That Mouth of Sauron's way cooler. I'll take
yeah.
If you gotta look like that, though, I don't know. He's got no eyes, just all mouth. Yeah, and like what I was gonna say is like with how Sauron would kind of see those things at work. I don't fully understand that because like the Nazgul, for example, like they're directly tied to the ring and Sauron. So Sauron just completely sees like everything that they're doing. Like he made them. So that's why the second that like the ring is destroyed. Well, actually, I think in this they don't even die right away. They get popped off by some lava balls coming from Mount Doom. But they wouldn't. They're not supposed to exist after Sauron gets destroyed because they're just completely tied to him. That's why they can't even die. Like when their physical form gets just destroyed, they just pop up again in Mordor and then get sent out with some more cloaks and a better mount. That we see them.
So how does that work with the Witch King then? Does he just go re-manifest somewhere else?
Yep. Yeah, he definitely would have. He wouldn't have, because the big thing there is he's not supposed to die by any mortal weapon, but what actually killed or got him to the brink of death was Pippin stabbing him with the blade it was forged in Gondolin to by the elves specifically to just fuck up the forces of Mordor. Like it's a magical blade
Merry used?
Merry, not Pippin. Stabs him in the back of the leg, and then that's when he goes like, ugh, and then like the light's coming out of him, and then Eowyn comes in with the finisher like on his face there.
So he actually had a specialty blade. I thought it was just like a Rohan.
And yeah,
sword.
that's
so
a
Eowyn's
thing.
line of "I'm no man," like that's a meaningless line. Like she's just like feeling herself, but it actually doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, and like I
I
feel
like the other version where like because they
Imagine like Sauron's building the perfect weapon, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna make them immune to all these things. Women can kill them though. Like that, it's just not
Yeah.
gonna happen. So
That-
I'll allow that." Like,
that's why I like it though, because it feels very much like we talked about this before, but it feels just like Palpatine underestimating the Ewoks. Like these
Right.
little things aren't going to do anything. So that's why I like that Sauron. He's so arrogant that he thinks that no, a woman would never be on battlefield. A woman
probably
could never
hobbits
kill.
either. Like
Yeah.
hobbits. I'll let them attack them.
So like I know Kirkland's definitely right with his lore, but in my head, I'm going to keep it as no, because she is a woman. That's why, because he underestimated like for no reason. Because okay, maybe they're not much in the battles that time, but it sure didn't pay off here because you just took out your like big commander here, you know. And even
Well,
Pippin,
like-
I'll give Pippin too because he's a little hobbit.
Well, like, but like from his perspective in that situation, like he's not just saying that, being like, "Oh no, like no woman can defeat me." Like he just thinks it's just like another soldier, right? Like another man soldier. Like no one can really fuck with me. Like I am immortal, and like
I know what you mean. He's just saying that, but I'm still keeping the headcanon. I'm still keeping
okay,
it.
fair
you
enough,
know?
fair enough.
Because
yeah.
like I still like in the movie we don't get the information that you tell us, right? So Mary just stabs
Yeah.
him and then she stabs him in the face. To me, I'm like, well, why didn't any of that work when Aragorn was on Weathertop? Like, why have they not been killed by anything else? If you could just stab him in the face, why are these things not got killed at all before? And they just can regenerate. Where this time when you get skill, he like all shrivels up and he explodes. So that's where it's like the way they propose it and even the extended, they don't give us any of that information to be. Like to be like I get what you're saying that they're just saying no man, but I feel like they almost make it literal with her saying that line, but then her
Yeah.
being the one to kill him. You know.
Well, I definitely think because they don't explain the prophecy of the Witch
Yeah.
King in the movie, like it is meant to be that way, but they still made the point of emphasis of Mary stabbing him in the leg, and then he shines bright. And again, maybe it's one of those things that they're like gonna push their own like reasoning on why Eowyn can destroy the Witch King, but then it's like for the diehards, we'll let Mary actually stab them. But also, like even without the prophecy and like having this magical blade killing him, maybe it's just the two unlikely soldiers on the battlefield, kind of like what you're mentioning, right? Like Eowyn and Mary were definitely bonding. They're not supposed to even be at that battle, and these two together dismantle the Witch King. That is pretty cool for sure. I still, again, because of just I'm cursed by knowledge. I love the prophecy of the Witch King and all that stuff. So to have it like actually like be these magical blades, I prefer it that way. But
I
Talk
just
too
kind of
much.
like a callback here to another moment with Mary and Eowyn. I always sense chills down my spine when he unsheathes his sword and almost cuts Eowyn's guts out. Like, fuck.
oh my god, I know, right?
It's so
At least he says it's
close.
like it's dull. I couldn't even cut anything with this,
Yeah.
but still, like he's just like coming
Théoden
out.
just Théoden just finds his niece gutted with Mary. I'm sorry. They're just like this little hobbit.
God, that'd be the hanging of the halfling, probably.
100%.
Oh my God,
Mary,
what a name.
what happened to Mary? Well, we don't know. We didn't see him after he left in Rohan. Sorry. Let's take another break and then we'll be right back with some more talking points. And we're back to the Return of the King, Return of the Curd. I'm changing all the
We're back.
returns are changing. Dylan, where were you about to take us, sir?
Well, I was just gonna keep us on the Black Gate because I don't think there's too much to say
yes.
there. Maybe we could close it off. I think for me, this is definitely the weakest battle in all of the trilogy. Like large term battle, maybe any fight in general. Honestly, I think one thing for me is I've never thought the CGI looks amazing here when it's the whole squad and like Aragorn first starts running out and you see like the forces of Mordor in the background. Like you can just tell that this whole sequence is filmed on a stage instead of like even when Frodo and Sam are at the Black Gate, you know that like they're definitely filming outside on some sort of hill and you know obviously CGI the gate and all that stuff. But there's something about that scene that's never looked the best, and I also think it's just maybe not the most iconic location. And I don't know. I don't know if there's anything like particularly interesting that happens during the fight either that is exciting for me. I think when it's over and everything's crumbling is exciting, but the battle itself doesn't do much for me. The one line I really like is when Gimli's like, "I never thought I'd die side by side with an elf. Well, what about side by side with a friend?" Like, oh, beautiful line. I love that moment between them because I think, as Travis mentioned earlier, those two really get put on the sideline in this movie, particularly. I mean, Gimli especially has a bunch of lines that are in the extended cut only. So even just a lot of his little funny stuff is kind of cut out there. So it's really just them in battles, I guess, and tagging along with Aragorn in the. What is that place called with the Army of the Dead? The
Dunharrow.
mountains.
Dunharrow.
Dunharrow. There you go.
Or Dunharrow, tomato,
Dunharrow,
tomato,
something
whatever
Yeah,
it is.
exactly. Depends who you ask. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask again, because this came up in our first episode, is Kirklin mentioned that they couldn't use the eagles to bring the ring to Mordor because obviously the eye and the fell beast. I kind of feel like the eagles are fucking up the fell beast here. I know they don't die, but I feel like they could have gave that plan like a couple once-overs, maybe some eagle armor. Like maybe that plan could have worked.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. They definitely. I feel like they kind of got they kind of surprised the fell beast like when they came down because they just weren't expecting like an eagle to come up from above them.
I also think that there's probably a lot more eagles, right? Or is there really
Yeah.
only like an exclusive clan of 5?
I mean, I also, because I don't know too much about them other than like what I've come across in the books and stuff, like it just seems like they are kind of the route of the elves where like they've literally been there since the first age, like, and they're just like their time is kind of done. Like I don't think they're sailing off to the west like the elves are, but like they're not the main protagonists of
They
these
fly
stories
south
anymore.
For the winter is what they do.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so cool when they actually like come in and like pop off. It's like wow, like they actually like they got the cavalry has arrived. Like this is such a big deal to have them just come from their giant mountain range, wherever the hell they lives. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: so is it always Gandalf that calls to them, or is it always this moth that just has this godly connection?
That's what's interesting. I don't fully understand the moth thing because it's not like it's a mini eagle or something. Maybe it's just like best buddies with Gwahir, like the king
The
of the
Lord of
eagles.
all moths.
When I
Maybe.
saw Fellowship, I thought he turned that moth into an eagle.
Same, 100%.
Yes.
The first time
Ooh.
around, I was like, this
Yeah.
guy just and him and his magic.
But then when I saw
Him
Return of the
is-
King, I was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense because the moth is still here and the eagle's there. But I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. He turned into this bigger being and like he'd jump on it and stuff. But I think you're right, Dylan. It's like as far as the battle be the weakest, but I guess I agree with Kirkland where I guess maybe I give it a pass. I don't know if it's wrongfully. It's just because they are
it's
just
not
trying
bad to be clear. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, no,
it's just
yeah.
the weakest. Yeah.
just because they're just trying to buy time. That's why I take it as the bigger centric point is okay, Mount Doom and everything going on
Yeah.
there with this battle. The only thing I will say is Aragorn 1v1's a cave troll with armor, so that's pretty cool. Like he doesn't
fucking
care. He's just like
badass, yeah.
sword to sword. He's fighting. He's stabbing his leg. So I like that Aragorn is just like king shit now. Like you see this cave
He's
troll.
kind of getting fucked up though. At one point.
Oh, he got fucked up.
Well, we didn't get the end of that match. He didn't die. And the thing is that cave troll stuck.
I know
on-
he didn't die. I mean,
he didn't. He got stuck on, but he got stabbed and he got that foot off him. Like I'm not saying he would have won, but just the prowess of this man to take it on. But of course, like the thing I love, like the classic line, is just for Frodo. And then when he runs, and the two hobbits run, man, that is
Sam,
just
someone says in the background.
yeah, and just like such a hype, like very obviously like parallels that like Avengers Assemble moment, but just that he's going, and especially I love the before when Sauron's like talking to him and he's like doing that kind of like ring walk where he's looking very like influenced and you're almost like, oh, what's going on? And even Gandalf's like he's kind of unsure in the moment, and then when he turns just with that smile and says for Frodo, it's just like oh my god. So yeah, no, I like the battle as far as just like a last stand. We just have to waste time and hope that Frodo can get there and everything like that. And what I will say about that scene, I love the switch that we talked about, joke for the Sam stuff, but when they're cheering and they're so happy, and kudos to all those actors, but especially Ian McKellen, when he's cheering and it's a one take and Mount Doom explodes, and in that same when he's cheering, his face just sinks and he's like horrified, like, man, I didn't think about this, that the
Forgot
mount
to
just
tell Frodo the mount was gonna blow.
yeah, you gotta run when you drop it, but like everybody's face of just like that celebration to complete dire, oh my god, like yeah, we did it, but they're not gonna make it out, and it's just just that hits me every time, that moment, and just that's top tier stuff for me.
Very quickly, I want to mention this before I forget. I feel back to the moth real quickly. I feel like Gandalf like used it as like a messenger, because when he was on
Definitely,
Orthanc, like he whispered to it, right? So maybe
True.
that's like
That's what I was.
the messenger to the eagle. That's
That's
like,
how
again,
he and
don't even
Saruman
touch
talked at the beginning of the movie.
It's a
They kept
fast
saying
moving
this
moth though. He's got
That
quite
is
the movement speed on him.
So then the moth came down. He's like, on your left, and then
Yeah.
Gwahir and the eagle's coming down.
Dun, dun, dun.
But yeah, with the battle of the Black Gate, it's crazy because you'd think this should be like the most epic moment of, or like the most epic combat of the entire series, right? Like they're actually at the gates of Mordor here. Like they're taking the fight to the enemy. Like this should be so amazing. And like in my opinion, I think it is amazing, but the combat is definitely, I completely agree. I think it is the lesser out of definitely all of it in this movie.
It's just 'cause
possibly
they're
the
just on,
entire
like, a
series.
field surrounded by people. There's like even like
Yeah.
like even in Minas Tirith, there's like so many, like it's a bigger field and there's
Yeah, you got the
elephants around.
Oliphants, you got
and
giant
you got
Gron
you
coming
still
in.
got the castle. It would have been great if, like, I know that probably don't think this happens in the book, but if they actually had to go into the Black Gate and you're fighting in that structure of like on top, but like
Yeah.
no, you're just in this.
So
just
it's like
field.
it's a one phase fight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And like for me though, like the big kicker about and why this is so memorable is the Mouth of Sauron stuff that we've already talked about. But honestly, just like Aragorn, he's already the king at this point. He's basically wearing the crown. He's got the whole garb. He's like looking not like a ranger anymore. He's all cleaned up. But when he like gives that speech to like just the men and like just. Like even just thinking about the speech is one of those things where it just gets me just gets those goosebumps raising. Like there'll just be times, I'll be at work or something. I just think of like that one line. It's like there may become a time when like oh my gosh, no, the
power
courage
of man will fail, but today is
not that day.
Yeah,
And it's just like yeah, like I whispered that to myself when we played paintball at one time. It's like, oh yeah, let's go out there. Like my courage is not gonna fall today. And it's just, it's such an epic line. Like no matter what, like don't think about the odds in this moment. Like just think of like right in this moment, like we are not backing down. And to have that guy like just giving that speech and then to actually like walk there, like what is it? Walk the talk. Like he talks the talk, but he also walks the walk. My gosh, that's hard for me to say.
Yeah, you got it. That's it.
He leads into battle, and it's just like he is the driving force there, and it's just I think that's like the cherry on the cake on like seeing Aragorn's journey throughout these three films is just like from where he is in the beginning, just sitting in the prancing pony and Bree, just like covered in dirt, to like where he is in this moment, like literally leading like the forces of men. Like it's not like he's leading Rohan. It's not like he's like leading Minas Tirith and Gondor. Like this is the last force of men right here, and that is like the best guy to be leading it. And like it's so epic, and I love that moment so much. It honestly makes me like I don't even really remember all the combat in that sequence because I'm just like totally highlighting the particuur
a lot of
dialogue
shaky cam
moments.
and zoom
A lot of
ins
shaky
on
cam,
things.
absolutely. It's a lot of chaos going in there.
I kind of echo what you kind of said there, Kirklin. I think coming into the aftermath of the epicness of the Battle of Minas Tirith, it's definitely hard to kind of rival that with a much like a grand scale battle. And don't get me wrong, a battle at the Black Gate, it should be incredibly powerful and meaningful and to scale like fantastical. But for me, can look aside at like how the combat was per se. I just kind of just am filled with hope because you get the whole sequence of, like you said, his speech and everything like that. He's leading the men. You see men in Rohan armor and Gondor armor. It's just super, super exciting. And yeah, he just puts out his speech and then he charges in there, and I love that. And then again, when the eagles come in and Pippin's like, the eagles are coming, and it just feels hope. The score keeps trickling in. It's just great. And then they snub that away when that cave troll just goes to town on Aragorn. Legolas is just getting stuck in the crowd, just can't make it over there. And yeah, it's for me, it's I put it on a higher tier in terms of battles, but it's
Really?
definitely no.
Wow.
I would, yeah. It's just because I love the hope feeling that it exerts out of it, I guess you could say.
Do you higher tier battles in Lord of the Rings or in battles of history?
Well, I was
You're putting it above Helm's Deep?
like real
We're
life human
talking-
Yeah,
history.
I was gonna
or-
say real life, like when we took over the White House back. In the day. Never forget.
Never forget. I was just gonna say Canada's highest spot. We invaded
Jesus.
America.
We got you once.
in
Mine's
Lord of the
Moria,
Rings,
Minas
well,
Tirith? Like you're putting it above any of these?
no, I wouldn't put it above Minas Tirith or Helm's Deep. Like for me, the Battle of Minas Tirith is it's probably be my number one. Actually, it's
Over
pretty
Helm's
wild.
Deep.
Over Helm's Deep, I think so. Just with how much like occurs, I don't even know when you would start and end that battle. Like, cause like, does Osgiliath count as this battle?
Probably starts with the
well.
heads and ends with the ghosts.
Yeah,
I guess.
I guess so. Yeah, I like in terms of putting it over. Like, if I had to put over a specific battle, I'd say the battle like in the first film with the Uruk-hai attacking. Like that was very good. But like I like this one just because of its hope
Oh,
factor.
Boromir's death though. Come on,
Oh,
you're gonna
Yeah.
tossing
Yeah.
that aside.
Yeah, it just felt hopeless. It just
We'll get
hurt
to it
me.
next week. We'll get to it there. Tease. Who have we not talked about? I feel like we haven't really talked about. Okay, go ahead, Kirklin, if you have something surrounding this. But if not, I have like a jumping point.
Sure, jump. I was gonna quickly mention at like wanted to say this when we were talking about the inauguration scene of Travis. You were mentioning of like Aragorn's line of to basically just putting the hobbits on such a pedestal and like there's such a key component of this, like my friends, like you bow to no one, like you had such an integral role. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that like to take that even further, like he's also just realizing that like no one could have done what they could have done like in that moment. Like that is what makes the hobbits so amazing, is just like their optimism, and like that shines through so much throughout the series, whether it's Gandalf just being surprised that like Sam just fucked off to go support Frodo, and it's like of course he did, like that's his homie right there, like ride or die, Samwise Gamgee. And I think, again, you know, I'm already in ugly tears at this point in the movie, but like just really thinking that like these super unlikely heroes are really the MVPs of the entire story. Like really every single one of them, like they had such an integral part to play. And I love that sequence so much. Just having them just like the smallest people in the room. I don't know what the difference between a dwarf and a hobbit's height is, but I feel like the hobbits
Dwarves
are probably still a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Burlier, absolutely.
Definitely taller. I feel like Gimli's. Well, it depends. Gimli's like a shorter dwarf.
He's the runt of the family.
Yeah, because
My
like
wee
in the
lad,
Hobbit,
Gimli.
there's some like taller dwarves going on and stuff like that. I guess we'll see in Rings of Power.
Because
what
even
they got
Thorin,
height-wise.
isn't he taller?
He looks.
That's a man right there.
Yeah. Thorin
Yeah.
looks like a guy, and there's another one too. Because I did fall in the trap of rewatching them again. I have them just on the background, but there's some tall ass hobbits and stuff like that. Okay,
okay.
thank
Oh,
you.
look at this.
Here's some stuff. Oh, here's a
zoom
good
in
one.
on
This
that?
is a perfect one right here.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
there
a
you go.
perfect one. Yeah,
That
there
makes
you go.
sense.
Yeah.
So he's like a
Bilbo in
head
the
taller.
back.
It's just above Boromir's
Is that
nipples.
Bilbo? Maybe not.
No, that's
It looks like Denethor.
It does look like Denethor's
Bilbo
brother
in the
he
back.
sent.
What are you doing with that ring? Yeah, can I take the ring to Mordor? I'd sure like to go on another adventure. No, Bilbo, your time's done. You know. Which
Sorry.
no, go ahead, because mine's
Well,
a
I was just gonna say, I know we were talking about that. I meant to get that point out earlier, so I had to mention it before I forgot.
Well, I want to detour that because I might forget about that. Talk about Bilbo. So I'm kind of talking about the end, but man, that scene with Bilbo when they go to him and he's old, and how it's sad and powerful though when they're talking. He's like, oh, like he just has to mention it, like, oh, I'd really like to see that ring, like just to hold a little bit, and then I almost call him Elijah Wood, which is his name. It's like, oh, sorry, Uncle, I lost it. Oh, pity. But it shows like how many years it still has a hold on him, and he got away like sooner than like Gollum. So, like I know Frodo kind of hoped like, oh, if I get rid of the ring, it'll get your hold off of me and you, Gollum. But it's like I don't think Gollum would have had much of an existence at that point, you know, because I just feel like he would have been so lost. But no, like. Kind of, I guess, because I want to talk about Sam, Frodo, and Gollum, because we've talked about them a little bit, but nothing to me trumps the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring. But man, Gollum's story at the beginning of this, I absolutely love it. The score and how, like, obviously there's bad stuff that happens in Fellowship, but it's a bit more uppity. There's some moments of like describing the world and the beauty of that. This is just like the worst of the worst of, like, it feels like it's like the Ring is narrating the opening instead of Galadriel. It's just like showing him kill Deagle, and that whole, I remember as a kid just like it's such a violent scene, like the way they are just, it starts from like playful pushing to like real pushing to punching, and then they're just choking, and just the sound editing and everything from the steps you see, and all that shot is baked in my mind of him biting that raw fish, just the way, just like what it looked like and everything like that. So I love everything, especially because, like I said, I feel like they are the crux of this movie, and Gollum getting the opening of this movie and really kind of being the reason the ring gets destroyed is kind of fun for a multitude of reasons, especially when you go back to Fellowship of the Ring when Gandalf says at the end of this he will play a role, and if he doesn't stop Frodo, there's a chance that Sauron gets the ring back, right? We don't know, because Sam was having a hard time. Sam's
right.
never had the ring on, where Gollum has had the ring on, so he can kind of dictate, okay, if he's moving like this, I know he might be there. Sam's just trying to look. So I love like the full circle of him beginning this movie in the end, and such a sad shot of he's like Scrat from Ice Age. He finally gets that ring, but he just gets baked and what is it? God, lava. But he disappears a lot in this movie because he's just setting up the hobbits. But just some good gaslighting with Sam. Gollum, just always great.
Yeah, I guess by the end of Two Towers, we had got the full turn of Gollum, like not having the Smeagol side of him anymore, and this whole time he's just lying to Frodo and he's evil. And he's not going back and forth anymore. I mean, he's pretending, but like those two sides of him, it's like Smart Hulk, like they've fused into one at that point. Yeah, I'm curious, like, because to me it works. It's all good. I'm just curious, like, why is it that Smeagol has this full turn like immediately upon getting the ring? Because we've seen from every other character, it takes time. It takes days, or usually weeks, or sometimes months for someone to be like converted, and for him to kill. Is that his brother or cousin? Deagle?
It's cousin.
Yeah. So for him to kill his cousin, well, he hasn't even worn it at this point. He's just like seen it. Is it because he's kind of predisposed and he was already kind of a shitty dude, or he had these things inside him and the ring immediately evoked them? Or is it something else? I'm curious if you guys have a reason or explanation for that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Because especially since they put emphasis that the hobbits are just naturally like resistant, I guess, to like the pardon me, the sway of what the ring does to like what a mortal man or like dwarves, kind of anyone really. But yeah, he's just full evil. I kind of attribute it to like Smeagol was already just kind of a kooky character. Like he just already kind of had a screw loose, and then this happened, and it's weird because they seem to just have a very happy relationship, right? Deagle and Smeagol, like they're not like, oh, screw you, you stole my worms for my fishing kit, like they're happy to be going about. They're just celebrating a birthday, and then when they get that, it's just absolutely like ultimate corruption. I never really like thought of it that way though, so it's definitely a good observation on your part of just realizing how quickly like it took Smeagol to just straight up murder his cousin there.
Yeah, I feel like a montage would have felt weird to throw that in there, where it's like, okay, they get the ring and Deagle has it, and then you see like a scene of them back at their hobbit holes and like they're beefing. Like I don't know, I don't think that would have worked too well. So I think to have it all in one scene is probably good, but yeah, it does raise some questions. I have a quick story about this, which is that I remember seeing this in theaters, and I mean when did this come out? This movie
2003.
came out. Okay, so I was, I guess, 8 years old, presumably, maybe 9 years old, something like this. I remember, like, in the theater, I saw this with my dad. My dad brought me. And, like, I don't know how loud I was, because it was a very long time ago, but I was, like, explaining to my dad who this character is, and, and I don't even know how in the moment I immediately knew who it was. I guess I could tell that it was, I forget the actor's name, but yeah, the guy.
Andy Serkis.
Yeah, I could tell, like, but I was, like, explaining to my dad, once again, very old, but, like, the context of who this guy is and stuff, and then I got loudly shushed in the theater by someone, which, totally fair, but that is like one of those weird. You guys have those weird like childhood memories that were like some cringe memory that just is always stuck in your head. I'm sure you got a few, and I'm sure a few just came into your head as I said this. But that's always been one for me, getting shushed in the theater, and I don't think I've ever been shushed again. I don't know if it was that or if I just, as I got older, I'm like, I'm not going to talk in this movie theater, but. There you go. Someone shushed me in the theater at that particular scene.
Next time we see a movie together, I'm gonna shush Dylan to give him some PTSD.
I was gonna say I almost had to shush Dylan when we went and saw what was it? Rise of Skywalker, and this guy's laughing Chewie's death scene. I'm like brink of tears. Dylan's next to me just laughing his ass off.
Oh, what a shit movie that is! Oh my God.
I feel like Dylan and I almost got that too when we saw Tomb Raider as well, because you guys weren't too pleased with us then.
Oh yes, I was giving those looks. None of these from Taylor.
That fucking wig.
You don't want to get one of those.
One Life for a Million.
I gotta watch that movie again, man. It's been a long time.
All these wigs in Lord of the Rings in 2001, 2003, and none of them look as bad as that guy from Tomb Raider. My God, go check out our Tomb Raider review. But
I would go so far as to say they look good. Honestly, I don't think.
Yeah, the only one that's like iffy, I feel, is sometimes Denethor's, because like it just looks. You don't have long hair.
It's too perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I know you're not growing.
I've actually never noticed that he has a wig. I think they nailed it.
Oh yeah, his hair's like
Amazing
super short in real life.
I didn't notice that either.
There you go.
See?
On
He went on the red carpet, like wearing the big robe too that he has.
Just eat.
Like you don't need to
tomatoes.
Yeah.
Cherries, cherry tomatoes.
Well, I played Jennifer. I love the role. E.T. is like,
Sing me a
Just
song.
improv the entire
Where
thing
is
too.
my firstborn?
Can you show me my true quality, Access Hollywood? He's like being real coy with it, and everyone's like, I don't get it. We haven't seen the movie, dude.
Yeah, we
haven't read
haven't seen
the book. Yeah, like, fuck off.
Just pours oil all over his body.
I wonder if you could, well, probably not because COVID times. I was just wondering if you could go to a fan expo and like get him to eat a tomato. Because didn't he come to Kelowna one? John Noble, I thought he did, or he came
John
close because I remember
It's
talking
possible.
about it.
Like,
Yeah.
if not Kelowna, it would have been the Vancouver one. I know they had like the whole Hobbit crew, or not. Yeah, it was the Lord of
That's
the
what they
Rings
call themselves, the
Hobbits
Hobbit crew.
showed up at the Fan Expo in
called
Toronto.
Lord of
Like
this
all
past
4 Hobbits
weekend.
you're talking about. That's what you're trying to
All
say.
4
right?
Hobbits,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
They
They're
usually
always
come
hanging out,
to
I
Fan
feel like.
Expos. Yeah,
I am so shocked, and you know it's good on them. They don't have to and everything. But like the biggest trend right now, if you've noticed, is like celebrities that were on TV shows and they do a podcast together. Like The Office has one, The OC has one, Smallville has one. I am shocked they've not done anything Lord of the Rings with, especially
They
Elijah
do.
Wood.
Well, Mary and Pippin have a
They do,
podcast.
yeah. The Friendship Onion.
Oh, but do they? Is
It's
it
great.
about
They
Lord of the
had
Rings?
at least
major-
Frodo on the podcast at one point.
Yeah, they've had Sean Astin. Frodo's been on a couple times.
Did you call him Frodo, Dylan?
Yes, he was in character.
In character,
on
yeah.
set.
I can't wait for the Denethor episode.
No, it's
Came
really
back
good.
from
I,
the Forgotten Lands or whatever they call it.
yeah, for one
I-
episode.
I listened to like the first good amount of episodes. Honestly, I was definitely get them like every single time that they were coming out, and they give a lot of just cool behind the scenes talks and just like like the time in New Zealand. Like, so it was really cool in that sense. And I feel like majority of people that are listening to it are listening to it because they've been on Lord of the Rings, not because
Yes.
you
As
know,
a uprising
he was on
podcast,
Lost
I
at one
hate
point.
all
Yeah.
these people that are just like, let's just take our career again and redo it over. And now they
Yeah.
fill all the charts are just filled with celebrities that are just watching their own shows. I'm like, you bad, like you
Ego.
bastards.
they
Yeah.
they had like trivia for Lord of the Rings. Like every single episode, they would have like people call in. It's a really cool show. Go check
But
it
I
out
get
for
it.
sure.
If we could be charting 1 and 2 all the time, said you just got to talk about your old GeekVerse episodes. Go, well, sure. I guess I'll re-listen to and everything. But no, if you, because I had saw
One
'cause
day we'll just go and review like every episode. Oh my
Us.
god, that'll be cringe meter going up. I'm sure
I'm
for
down for
some
that.
things I've said.
This cast 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10. Not,
Yeah.
not so good. Yeah. Tyler Briggs 0 out of 10. What was that? No, what was that review you got one time?
He's
Briggs
awful,
bad,
isn't it?
Ty-
Or
yeah,
he's like he's
Tyler
just the
Briggs
worst.
bad.
Yeah, it was like some paragraph, and then the last line was just like, "And Briggs is bad." Something like
Yeah, but then they deleted it because we talked about it. But what was I going to say? Oh no, but
I know, I
Elijah
cut you off,
Wood.
sorry.
If you, I saw him on Stephen Colbert. If you don't know, like Colbert, obviously, like massive, like Lord of the
Oh,
Rings
yeah.
guy. Like he has.
He was
so
on
much.
Friendship Onion. There you go. They
Oh,
talked
there you
about
go. Yeah, he posted he's in the Hobbits. He hosted the panel for Rings of Power at Comic-Con. But when Elijah Wood was on, they're having like a token off because like Wood is like his level, if not more, and stuff like that. Like like you could tell he was like either a book fan before or when he started this movie, he just got drenched in it because they did this interview like I've read the books, I don't
That's
even know what
awesome.
they're talking about anymore. So if everyone's curious, go watch because yeah, Wood's one of those guys that he knows the material. Like,
Where was it again? I'm gonna
on
watch
Colbert
this.
when Colbert was doing like the Colbert review like
Oh,
in the
okay.
early 2000s, yeah,
I
and stuff
see,
like
okay.
that. So it's worth a watch them just to like try to like pump their chest to see like who knows more and stuff like that. But
I love it.
Let's take an ad break, then we'll probably talk about those other hobbits. So we'll be right back. All right. Well, I was gonna say, was there
But-
anything specifically?
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
fingers are up
There
over
you
here.
go.
Taylor, you go
I
first.
just wanted to touch more upon the intro Smeagol.
I'm
thing.
leading with you.
Me
next
too.
time.
Me too.
So
Just Taylor. Sorry, Kirk. We're out of time. You can't tell us so much about Lord of the Rings.
I'm telling the story.
when I watched this for the first time, I honestly took it as okay, they were brothers, and for some reason I thought that Smeagol's alter ego was like this family member that he killed for the longest time.
Okay.
That would have been interesting if he keeps calling himself Deagle or something. That would have been really fun.
Yeah, I mean, he just says Gollum. So honestly, I used to think that was this other character's name was Gollum.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
realize it was Deagle until
My
like
cousin Gollum.
later on. Yeah, but I mean,
I
obviously,
honestly did not know his name was Deagle until like we started doing this retro. I think I just never have
Smeagol and
processed
Deagle.
his name, even though it's mentioned in there.
Yeah, great name. Fitting with the family, you know, Smeagol Deagle.
It's a classic Tolkien moment where the names just
Yeah,
have one letter
yeah.
difference. Yeah.
Fuck.
I was gonna say the first time I saw this movie, I was at home. I didn't go to theaters for this by any means. I mentioned that I think at the start. I haven't seen any of the Lord of the Rings in theaters, which is a damn shame. But it was a weird situation where like my grandma was teaching English in like Indonesia or something, and they were able to just get like DVD releases like before us. So I remember like it was such a big deal. Like she came back, she had like Lord of the Rings. It's not even like a pirated copy or anything. Like it was the legit one.
In
I'm like, I can't believe you
Indonesian?
accessed.
Wasn't region locked.
Well, like the text on the disc was that, but then you could go on the menu and like change it to English or whatnot.
Oh, I was
but-
hoping the voice stuff was then. That was your first experience, just watching it in an
Yeah, I'm like, why does he talk like that?
I hadn't heard this
Um,
Elvish.
But I remember this scene so vividly because this was the first time watching Return of the King, and like, you know, it's lunchtime, so I'm sitting at the dinner while I'm watching like the start of Return of the King, and I was eating shepherd's pie, and like
Oh,
back in the day I
good
was a
choice.
savage, and I like
Potatoes.
put ketchup all in it too, and I was just like eating
ruined
it.
it.
I know I don't do that anymore, but like still at the
I
time
respect that.
this is what I was doing it. I'm like eating it, and I'm looking over, and it's just like the most like disturbing series of like images I had probably
Yeah.
ever seen at that age, of like him eating the fish, him like losing his hair. There's a
Oh, when
really
his
weird
face
one
is
when
sunken
he's
in?
when he's crawling, in like the
Yeah.
cave, and his face is looking all
Yeah,
weird.
he's
and
like middle
looking all
turn.
around.
Oh,
And yeah, and I
awful.
remember I like had like a spoon going up to my mouth, and I like put it down. I'm like, I feel sick. Like I can't eat this anymore. Like
Oh,
it
that ketchup
actually
you had, man.
probably it made me so like unsettled. I don't even know if I kept watching the movie, honestly. I was just like so disturbed. It was very, and again, it's such a vivid memory. Like I remember that so specifically the first time I watched Return of the King. Didn't know what I was getting myself into. The opening sequence is just this change that he's going
disturbing.
through.
Yeah.
It is disturbing, yeah.
Definitely been there. I feel like there's scenes where you're eating like, oh yeah, I can't. And it's not like people are like, I'm fine with Saw and stuff, but there's just certain things. Like, I don't know why it is. There's just certain thing like I don't like eating food when there's like a very intense or like rated R sex scene. There's just something about where it's just like I can't just be like digging into my sub while these two people are getting
Eating a hot
along.
dog. Yeah. It's like,
Anything.
Been
like, I
there.
just, like,
Game of Thrones for Taylor.
yeah, but yeah, Game of Thrones, that's a good example. Like, I just can't eat right
Yeah.
now. But Sam, let's talk about. Unless was there anything specifically on Gall? I know he'll come up. But anything specific to shout out right now on Golm, Smeagol?
Go to Sam if you're
Deagle?
ready.
Yeah, so say I want to start with him just because I feel like I always give him so much crap. But this is what I said last week, where 2 weeks ago, I just feel that this is one where he gets to be the true MVP. Dylan brought up earlier, like he just takes out Sheila pretty not easily. Like he puts up a good fight, but like a more one-sided
He
fight.
doesn't kill her, but he
No,
gets
but
her
he-
back off.
He blinds her, doesn't he? Right? He takes out her eyes and stuff.
She
Takes out
definitely
one
was
eye.
missing at least one eye.
Yeah.
She's
but the
got
big one, I
some
think
others,
she
yeah.
just poked him in the abdomen or whatever.
If it was a
the fuck that thing's
boxing
called,
match,
spider.
he didn't get the knockout, but he got the technical win. And that's what
Oh, yeah.
matters.
She was
Yeah.
wobbling. She was
Yeah,
wobbling
yeah.
against the ropes. Yeah.
One more round, it would have been over for Sheila. Did any of you
This
remember?
boxing match between Samwise. That's what I'm
Yeah.
picturing. Sheila has like 8 mitts on.
I used to be right here, but like, has anyone remember that level in the game version, the movie tie-in? So this is where why
no,
maybe
I'm
why I
not.
think Sam's more a bully and everything. Like that. So what you'd have to do is you're fighting Sheila, right? And she'd attack, blah blah blah, and then she'd go hide. To get her out, you'd have to go like destroy her eggs. And Sam, and they had Sean Austin like do the dialogue. He'd be like, "Look at this! I just killed your babies." And then Sheila, yeah, find it. It's real. He's like, I just destroyed your children. And then Sheila would come out and be all mad. And it's just burned in my mind anytime I get to the scene of Sean Austin's voice, like, look at this. I did this. I killed them. And I was so disturbed. Like, I know I'm the hero in this moment, but I don't want to be doing this. But no, he's such an MVP. Now, I still question why he leaves Frodo after the llama's bread incident. I still feel like I know he's tired, all this stuff, but still, he should have been like, cordon back a little bit. You know he's going to be up to something. Like for him to find the bread and be like, oh, maybe I should go back up. I know people think, oh, he's so tired. He thought he ate the bread. I don't know. It's just like Sam's supposed to be the smarter individual everyone talks about. But I feel like there's some misguidedness there. But he to me gets almost, everyone gets some of them too, but like he gets the most like hero moments in this movie of just camera pans up and Sam's there doing something great. And just talk about speeches of just two of them of I can't carry it, but I will carry you in that moment. And then at the end when they're on the rock and think they're gonna die, and him just talking about Rosie and the Shire and everything like that, like all those moments, like they hit. And I like Sam in general. I played up more than I actually dislike him, but like these moments in these movies, Sean Astin does such a great job. There's some stuff added where I know it happens in the books. I get why, and I almost wish they still cut them being orcs because it's just not convincible at all when they have the armor on and they're around it looks silly. In the way they do it in this movie, it looks silly. They clearly don't look like orcs. I feel like they would smell the right way. Like I just think they didn't position those scenes the greatest. But Sam is a character in this top-notch stuff. Can't say, gets the girl, has the kids. It's not in the movie, but he becomes the mayor of Hobbiton or the Shire later on and stuff like that. So, and he does get to go to the river after Rosie passed away. He does go and meet Frodo later on and stuff like that because he was technically
Rightfully so.
he was a ring bearer, but the only way he got there because he carried the ring for a little bit, and.
Oh, is that what they say? It's like
yeah,
because
he was technically a ring bearer. Yeah. So, and I do like though.
So when is that? Like, is that after his kids grow up and stuff? Or
yeah,
is that, like,
it's after his wife dies of old age, and he goes. No, I don't think he's as old as Bilbo, but he is like more of the senior.
He's just not aging. He kept the ring the whole fucking time.
Like Frodo's dead. He died a long time ago. But no, it's after like his kids are doing their own thing, and he is, he has no wife. He's moving on and stuff like that. I even like though that Sam is so good-hearted, but they even give him one quick scene of starting to turn a little bit of Frodo goes to grab it and he like just brings it back an inch and like, oh no, like I could still keep holding it, and Frodo's like, no, give it back.
That little detail is so phenomenal because it goes to show that like this Sam has not had the ring long, like clearly not long enough to like really corrupt him any means, but still he was hesitant to like give it away in that moment.
See,
it's just
that's not how I take that scene at all.
okay.
I think he's 100% just seeing that Frodo's reaction to seeing that he has the ring is Frodo is like evil as fuck in that moment. He's like, I can't give this to you.
Oh really? Because I feel like they play the music of like the when people are turning, and he has that like glassed over look in his eye where he's just like straight
You could apply that
looking.
music to Frodo though, couldn't you?
Yeah, but I guess it just feels like he's just like glossed over and just staring. And then when Frodo grabs it, he like snaps out of it, and then Frodo gets it back on. He's back to whatever. And I've talked about this a little bit in 2 times, but I love the details around Frodo's neck. Frodo's neck is just looking like the mouth of Sauron. It is looking. He might just die from not having a tetanus shot back, and I guess they got magic, so they're fine now. But like his neck is looking gnarly in those situations. So.
Doesn't Frodo in that scene too like tell Sam like, now you understand like why this is my burden, just to kind of like reinforce?
He does
Sam,
say
like,
that, yeah.
Why you can't have it?
Yeah. You can do it, Sam.
Yeah.
That's what he say. Yeah. Sorry.
You're too weak. You'll never get Rosie. And then the detail with like the neck that you're mentioning, Travis. Like even when they're climbing up Mount Doom, it's so brutal. But this is another one that just ingrained in my memory is like when it's actually like digging into his skin. Like it just shows like the weight that it has right now. Like it's physically like pulling his body down. God, it's brutal. So brutal. But with Samwise, It's funny because the orc sequence, I feel like I always found those things like a little bit weird. It's like, how do they believe that these just super tiny individuals are just, and like very plain, like they got clear, like very pale skin. Like it's,
and they're very close to each other. Like
very close to each other.
Yes.
And like, I get it. Maybe they're not inspecting like, oh, how are you looking today? Ogrush or whatever the hell their names are, the orc names. But yeah, so like that sequence is a little bit weird. It gave us one of the most terrifying. It's basically an Outlast character, like the one guy that's like doing the inspection.
Oh yeah.
And he just looks at them and screams. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so terrifying. But like I think I still like the tension of that moment, but again, like them in the armor, I think, and I always found it like I guess they couldn't really hide too well, but to just like have their heads down, like just look like they're lazy orcs, like how does that even end well? Like if they buy that they're orcs.
Yeah, there was a good like 50 orcs that did not acknowledge them.
100%. I do love when like the one like leader of the orcs just comes by and he does like a very dramatic like double take of them. He's like, what are you doing? Get up! And it's just like
that whip comes down quick. Come on,
you lazy
slugs.
yeah.
And that's the only way I headcanon it myself to make it work, and I shouldn't, but I just headcanon it that these orcs are supposed to be dumb, so that's why they don't pick up on it. But
Right.
I still feel like they know enough to be like, this is clearly not one of us. Like look at their eye holes. Like it's like the mask is so far forward when you look at like all just skin and stuff, but
Yeah.
I think it was a white man behind that armor.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's why in theatrical, that cut I did understand, because they probably looked and went, I don't know if this works. But it does happen in the book, so it's kind of like a tribute to that. And even then, like, I feel like the orcs are still a lot bigger than hobbits, too. Like, I know orcs aren't like Uruk-hai size, but I just feel like they are taller, longer, stuff like that.
In the theatrical, do they just don't don armor? They just go from zero.
They
to
They have
do.
armor.
They
walk
put their
around the
armor.
tower with
There's
their
not that
armor.
sequence where they get pulled along with the pack and
okay.
talk to that dude. Like they just have the armor on, and then at one point they take it off. Like they have that. Scene
Yeah,
as well.
it just shows them standing there, and you assume, that's how they got by because they had the armor on.
Yeah,
so.
like they got some distance closer to Mount Doom with
Yeah.
it, which works. And yeah, like that is like that scene and the one I mentioned earlier of them coming across the like Gondor fallen statue. That's like the only two things that are cut from that storyline in the extended. That's something that they really stuck every second, every scene to. They kept it in there, which I think is the right call because other than that scene with the orcs, which I agree with you guys, so I don't need to repeat that. Like I'm playing devil's advocate here a bit today, where I'm bringing in some more negative thoughts on certain things, but I don't have a single bad thing to say about Frodo and Sam in this movie. I think it is just perfectly done. The slow transition as Frodo's like getting more and more corrupted and unable to control himself. The turn of Sam and Sam, Sam the brave, Samwise the brave, as he goes through all this adventure on his own. Those dialogues, as you mentioned, when they're climbing up Mount Doom and like they just have to go 50, 100 feet at this point, but like they have nothing left in the tank. And the Shire themes are peaking. The Shire themes are there, but there's like 3 layers of music over top of them, so you can really only hear a couple notes. Like they're trying to hide it in there. It's all like just fantastic stuff. I'm in love with this whole storyline here, and yeah, Samwise. Like I love that he is also. This is maybe jumping ahead a bit, but I love that the movie ends on him closing the door, and that's when the credits roll. I think that's perfect because he was understated or underrated from everyone else in the world except for Frodo. But even Frodo was like half conscious, couldn't understand how important he was until it was all said and done. But yeah, he is really, you could say, the hero of this story, and I feel like they really pull that off here.
I agree with a lot of what you said, actually, with that. Just kind of backtrack when they were donning the orc armor. So there was a bold play because, like, I'm pretty sure that guy's like, I'll make sure you guys go to the front of the lines. Like, what if they didn't escape and they're just like at the front of the line and Aragorn's just charging at them with the sword?
Frodo!
Like, for
Chops his head.
Frodo!
No, Frodo! You killed him? He just kills him the same way he kills Mouth of Sauron. Just won't. I won't believe it. Sam is traumatized.
And then they can drop that line again because they've been to the Black Gate. We've been here before. We're going in circles.
But no, that
good that didn't
aside,
happen. Yeah.
Thank God it didn't happen. Yeah, a very different ending. No, I think that their bond that they form in this movie it's just ever increasing after the last 2 adventures from the previous films, and I just love where we get with them. Just even that little bit of a dilemma where Sam just gets outcasted by Frodo and Smeagol, or I guess Gollum, really, at this point. And I like that too because you guys highlighted a lot in the 2 Towers where Gollum understands the burden that Frodo has, and it allows him to easily more manipulate Frodo, but even restrain himself because he's an experienced ring bearer, I guess you could say. So it works to his benefit. Yeah, it works to his benefit when he's dealing with Sam, throwing the bread over the edge and all that kind of stuff, with crumbs on his jackets and all that
That
jazz.
hobbit must have ate it all.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. He's got some crumbs on him.
I love though when Sam wakes up and he's like, "What were you doing sneaking around?" He's like, "Sneaking," and he's like, gives him the whole speech, and he's like, "So then what were you doing?" And he just looks at him, "Sneaking," and it's like, "Oh my god!" I get goosebumps every time. The delivery for Andy Circus is just like, and that Sam, you must be like, "Man, I fucking hate my life right now." I'm talking to this little.
Things are not going well. Over here.
I'm talking to this former hobbit and talking about sneaking. And he just rightly admits, "Yeah, I'm doing some shady stuff," and you can't prove anything. You can't do anything. You're like, "Oh my god, what do I do?"
Yeah, Gollum throwing that line in there that he's going to ask for it soon. We got to mention that, of course. I could carry it for a while.
Yeah.
Share the load. I mean,
Zooming on
iconic
the
lines.
lips
They've
like
been
he's the
memed
mouth
to
of
all
Sauron.
hell, but still, like, great moment for sure.
That is one of those that I laugh. Like we talk about, there's only a few where it's like, oh, most of my can show up when he gets to share the load, because that's one of our like oldest GV memes. Like I feel like that was almost like year 1 when that got brought up and stuff. And but I love just the positioning of shots when Frodo's climbing and it looks like Gollum's like gonna take the ring or choke him, but he just grabs Frodo's hand and then it's like he just keeps psyching Sam out the whole time. And just little stuff like when they get to Shelob's lair too, and there's that scene of just Gollum in the background like seeing Frodo tied up, but it's just like the silhouette of Gollum on that like cool, very white green aesthetic and stuff like that. Like just Minas Morgul is like, I think I said Helm's Deep's probably the coolest, and I think I'll still stick that whole set piece. that just looks like if I became a bad guy or a villain and I said, what do you want your base to look like? They're like, you see Return the King? Yeah, that. The green lights, the gates, everything. It's like, I remember all the time I played Battlefield Middle-earth, I had to be the Nazgul because I just wanted to build that fucking tower. Once I got a million credits or whatever they used in money in the video game, like that whole sequence of climbing up, and it's so, I'm not even scared of heights, but the way they shoot it, Kirkland, you must have hated it. The way they shoot it, like
why
how
would they
high
sleep
they
so
are.
close to the edge?
Oh,
there?
I know. I'm like,
fuck
let's get
off.
to the top. Let's get to the
Yeah.
top first, okay? Because like one itch the wrong way and you are gone. Right? It's just, but I love that whole set piece. Just awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that staircase.
Yeah, Minas Morgul. It's gonna be tough, like just thinking of what my favorite locations would be, because I honestly think that's so up there. Just for like the aesthetic of what it is, I'm pretty sure like the direct translation is just like just the bad place. It's like
Evil.
the Tower of it's like the city of dark sorcery. Like it's just a bad
Does
guy
Minas
place.
mean city then? Because Minas.
Yes, I would assume so. It's probably like the Sindarin equivalent or whatever it is, because
So
it
they
used to
got-
be Minas. Sorry.
I was just gonna say to that kids and wife back there too. Like, are they protecting them? The 9 Witch Kings. They're like, you stay here. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
out.
It's a noun
Rosie's
meaning
there, yeah.
tower in Sindarin.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
It's
Quick
what,
Google
sorry?
from Taylor.
It's a noun that means tower.
Right. So Minas Tirith has that
Yeah.
tower as well.
So it used to be Minas Ithil, and this was the twin city of what Minas. Oh my gosh, Minas
Tirith?
Tirith was
Yeah.
what. So like,
Okay.
Anarion, he's the one that started. Minas Tirith. My gosh, easy for me to remember right now. But then Minas Ithil, that was Isildur's like city, and then obviously during
Fuck,
just
he let that go, didn't he?
obviously just during the conquest
Ironic.
between
Would
they
it be-
completely just overrun it and
Would it
then
be
just
the-
corrupted it.
The river that's going under the bridge in Minas Morgul, would that be the same river then probably that goes through Osgiliath?
Oh yeah, like the
Connect
River
them?
Anduin.
Connect the cities?
I think so. Like, because like the
Nazgul
geography.
just fishing.
Well, like you got to remember too, because like the river would be coming down from where like Boromir fell, right? Which isn't like close to Mordor. So I'm thinking it might actually be a different river, because just where the city's situated, it
would
should
make
be
sense,
up
though,
a
if they
hill.
sent their troops from Minas Morgul down that river to get to Osgiliath.
Oh yeah,
potentially.
you're right. Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
I don't think Mordor has many rivers. They don't seem to be into
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
no,
There's
they probably
like
a lot
and
of
blood
lava
and
rivers, the
stuff.
classic bad guy equivalent river.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's just like another veer off of what it is.
We got the
Here's
map here.
Minas Morgul. Here's Minas Tirith.
Okay,
so
so not
the
that
river,
river. Maybe
the river
another
would be something else. Yeah, it would be a different one, because Osgiliath was the one they had
yeah.
to take, right, to cross and get the army over
Yeah,
here.
Osgiliath. Yeah, it used to be the capital of Gondor. Where we see it now, it's completely fucked up.
It's not
So-
a great defensible spot. I mean, come on.
No.
I know you want to build your cities on rivers, but
yeah,
like
that was the
that's
idea
not
of
good
it.
placement.
It was just like the best trade hub, right? Because it's right on the river. Like you just got trade ships coming in, and then you see it just in
And I
absolute
love all
rubble.
those like 10 rivers that are kind of conjoining up there too.
Yeah,
The mouths of Enterath.
The
That's
Tower of
badass.
Cirith Ungol, that's where Frodo was taken to, right?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, just
Um,
over the mountains there.
Just over the mountains there, but yeah, no, just like just the aesthetic of what this city is, but then like just when they get close to it and it's literally just kind of drawing like Frodo in because of just like the evil that's just calling towards the ring, right? And it's just I love the shot too when obviously you get that super power surge go off and then you have the gates open up. You just have like the forces of Mordor like just going to bat like on the way to Minas Tirith, like just very, very scary from everyone, obviously, when you're right there, like Frodo, Sam, and Gollum, but also just like when you have Pippin and Gandalf just chilling there, on a little late night smoke of their pipe weed, and then it just shoots up in the sky, and like even just obviously Pippin's in shock, but just seeing like the look of like Gandalf seeing this, being like, holy shit, like this is a big deal, and to have like someone
I've seen
on
some
s-
magic in my day. That's
Yeah.
fucked up. Yeah.
that's fucked
Yeah,
up.
we're
And then
gonna
of course you get the awesome image of like the Witch King on his fell beast, like at the top of the tower. Oh, it's just fuck. It looks so good. Yeah, I love Minas Morgul.
What
It's
I
the
love.
thing- Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just quick. What I love about the light is I just love knowing like our two characters are there, and Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin are watching Gandalf, but they don't know that they're there. Just that like they're so close yet so far away from one another. Like Gandalf's just like an eagle fly away to help them out, you know. But it's just like, well, he's here and there's
eagles.
So
It's a good thing Gandalf didn't start just chanting out like abandon your post. It's the light just
Yeah, it's good thing Denethor was already sleeping there.
One thing
I should use that meme like they always say like waking up by the light, like a green light, like Denethor.
Oh yeah.
One thing I want to bring up is when Sam is going to save Frodo in, we just had the name,
Miss Morgul?
Cirith
Ungol.
Yeah. So many freaking names. Yeah, that's the one. So we talked about this in the Return of the King animated movie, Kirklin, where there's a section where he's going through the tower, and there's like, they're called the Watchers, right? There's like these two gargoyle-like statues that have like an invisible wall. And that's when he uses the light of Arundel to get through that, right? That's what's going on there.
Yeah.
So I noticed, like, obviously now having that in my mind, that when he's going through the tower, like, there is a scene where there is two creatures that look very similar. So obviously there's not like the invisible wall sequence, but I'm guessing that was a reference to that. And Peter Jackson and crew just didn't feel like making a scene about it, because I have to imagine the animated stole that right from the book, right? Travis, you might know better since you've actually read that book. Maybe it's been a while though.
It has been a while, but I feel like it is. I feel like that is in there because when I did rewatch for people, I gave my review on the animated Return of the King. I remember that sequence and stuff like that, but I think it was. Like if they talked about like, because it must have been tough reading those books and be like, what do we keep and what do we not, and what do we change? And I feel like that's like a worthy change of like, it works, but you kind of get that aesthetic already with Shelob of like using the light. It's like, I think they kind of cover that, so it just would have been a do-over. But I believe it is in there. So,
on
so
that
I like
note,
to have that reference in there.
On that note, where you mentioned Sam like going into that tower. So it wasn't just orcs, I imagine. Like I watching it through this point, I realized like, oh shit, like these are Uruk-hai and orcs, right?
Well, the Uruk-hai were
like
the people coming from, God, all these fucking names. Isengard?
Isengard, yeah, because like they looked like they were. I wonder if there was like leftovers or something.
I think they def. Yeah, I just think near the end they're just like cross pollinating a lot more. Like as far as like going to, they probably go to attack one place, like the same way. Look at when they got Merry and Pippin, right? That was a mix of Uruk-hai and orcs with like at night when they escaped and everything like that. So I feel like just as more battles were happening,
some might have gotten away too when they left Two Towers through those trees, right?
Yeah, and that scene, man. Talking about the video game, he does a drop. The guy, the little orc that gets like the knee thrill in the ring and stuff like that. He at one point like drop kicks the bigger one. In the game, you had to be Sam and fight that guy. He literally would just drop kick you all the time. Like and it was weird because it's like it's a professional wrestling move, so it was strange. But yeah, that drop. I remember losing that drop kick a few times. It was like Elden Ring where you'd have on the ropes and then throw that drop kick and half your like H bar is gone. I was like, oh man, I love the fight when they kick him down. Like, he tried to stick me. And they just
kill him.
They just believe anybody for anything because they just want to fight. And it's like, let's get him. You know, it's great. Yeah.
I love that just trait of the orcs. Like they're always just going at each other, like any little reason to just
very rambunctious
fuck someone up.
Guys.
Oh yes, absolutely. And that's what's so fun about like the moment in Two Towers when like they're all kind of from different like platoons or whatnot. Like some are from the mountains, some are from obviously Isengard, some are from Mordor, and they're just like they all have similar orders, but it's just like, oh fuck you, no, like my master told me to do this way. It's like, well, my master told me to like, and then obviously like in there, like they're eating fairly cordial, but it's just one person. Like they probably didn't even have to do anything. They could have just been like, that guy tried to stick me. Oh, that's all.
Well, let's write him up. Let's talk to Sauron and see who's really at fault here.
We'll go to Orc HR.
Yeah, this is one strike against you, Billy Bob. Don't let it happen again.
I guess the mouth of Sauron is HR. Everyone
100%.
Mouth. He's trying to stick me.
Yeah. Stop doing that.
Don't stick your friends, sticking on some some Sam and Frodo stuff. Fram is
Fram works.
like
that's their
that,
ship name. They came back from Shire. There's Fram.
Another iconic line that I love, of course, is when they're climbing Mount Doom. He says, "I can't carry it for you, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you." Picks him up. Oh,
come on, get up!
Amazing.
And he like raw strength. Like he looked like he was gonna drop from, and he does when he gets attacked by Gollum. Frodo takes quite a few tumbles off that cliff. Oh yeah, and stuff like that. And no, it's such a good scene. And man, when they get in that Mount Doom, and just like I said, the effects popping off, everything, just feeling like we're here. And I just remember as a kid, just again, like such a bold, like obviously Jackson's following the books, but just such a bold play for Frodo, actually, just like Isildur, to turn after all this. It just takes one simple, just to let go, and it's all over. But he can't because he thought of it being gone. It's gonna mess him. And I think that plays into years later of why he still has issues, because like he kind of chose the wrong side in a way. Like I know it's messing, but still, like that must weigh on you. Of like, if that ring was still around, you would have been end up like Gollum. And I just even remember as a kid, like again, visuals that stuck with you, just like Frodo getting his finger bitten off. That's nothing I had seen in a movie before. Like I had seen rated R movies at that point, but I'd never just seen someone's finger get bit off. And yeah, sure, it's in the invisible, but like it feels like, oh my god, this is gnarly. And I just remember Frodo's like stump hand grabbing Sam and just bleeding. And I gotta ask you guys, when you saw it the first time, did you think Frodo was gonna make it? Because I thought he was gone. I thought he was gonna let go when he was on the cliffside there. I was like so sure, like it's not ending good for Frodo. But
You're asking me to remember the memory of an 8-year-old me. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I cannot say.
you didn't review it back then? There's no,
No, I
audio to
didn't
pull
review
up?
Me and my dad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like it's one of those things where, because I didn't see it in theaters, like I just heard of like the ending. Like I knew that Frodo got his finger bitten off because like a friend had told me that. It's just like, oh, okay. And then I think I just kind of
Spoiler,
assumed that he was
Jesus, what a
fine.
friend. Taylor, you have
so-
a memory?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I don't remember it like spot on, because I think what I do recall is I was in the same boat as you, Kirkland, where someone probably spoiled it to me because I didn't see it in
Probably same
theaters at
guy.
first.
Yeah.
Or the same
Have you
fucking
seen Return the
kid.
Cow? Yeah.
It was
So-
me in the theater, just like rifling off information.
Shush, Taylor's one that shushed you. Shush, I'm trying to watch this movie for the first time.
Also, that shot. I don't know if we mentioned this in Fellowship, but I love the kind of callback to that shot of Sam pulling Frodo up with the bloody hand, which is like the exact opposite shot of them in Fellowship when when Frodo's pulling Sam up from the water, and also just the fire versus the water of that, and the two different characters pulling each other up, and obviously the transfer of power of Sam, who was very unconfident, ready to go back to the Shire at any moment in Fellowship, but where he is now. So that's a great callback there. And just the iconic moment, the iconic line of "It's done." Frodo looking at the camera after all is said and done, and like you could tell, like instantly there's like this amount of relief, even though they're on the edge of a volcano that is exploding behind them. That whole sequence is just amazing when they're on the rock and they're kind of just sharing their last words together, or presumably before the Eagles save them. All of that is just golden. I cannot say a single bad thing about that storyline in these movies. At least in this movie, I guess, is just perfect.
Yeah, I think it was Travis that mentioned the when we were talking about Sam, like when he's just talking about like Rosie, and just like again, like he's just thinking about like what could have been. It's like, if I was gonna marry anyone, I would have married someone like her. Like it's very touching. And then when Frodo drops the line, it's like, here we are, like at the end of all things, and he's just like so glad that he's with Sam. It's just again very powerful. It just goes to show like the great bond that they had, like just even before this journey, and then like where it is now. And it makes like the rifts that they had like in their relationship even more interesting, when it like you saw that they were like, there's no reason why at any point they would like be hating each other, but they still had some moments like that. Maybe more so Frodo towards Sam because of the ring, but you get what I'm coming at.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? Let's take an ad break, and then we'll be right back.
That's what I was gonna say.
I saw the time. Yeah, exactly. I read your mind. I said before you. And we're back. Kirk and Patzer.
Well, I was just gonna list off a couple notes, unless you had something to add on that specific, like at the
Sam
end of
and
the world.
Frodo notes or different notes?
I have Sam and Frodo notes.
Okay, yeah, I got more because
Yeah,
I thought we can probably after that transition to talk about their ending too, getting back to Rivendell stuff.
Just a couple moments that I've always just been very, very silly to me is when Frodo and Sam are like just going up Mount Doom, and then like the spotlight just sees Frodo, and there's like, I get it. Maybe it's a lot shorter than what it is. There's a lot of emphasis on it's just like, oh shit, I'm in the light. Sauron sees me right now. And it just feels like a 20-second sequence of him just like being in Sauron's vision. And then he just like drops, like flops down.
I'm so glad
like
you shouted this drop. I love the way he drops in like
Pretty
an
dramatic,
ironic way, which is like,
Oh, yeah. And then it's like,
good.
hey, I think that's my ring. That's what Saruman's thinking.
Yeah. Does the Hobbit still have my
That
ring?
old
How does
thing?
this happen? Yeah.
And then the other one that always gets me is when Frodo's like, he's got his little water sack, and
What
he's
did he
like not
have?
getting his little water sack. Oh, what I was doing.
You were. Yeah,
I was cradling
'cause
something down
you
here
didn't
too.
say water sack, so you just like this. Like I missed this extended scene.
No, he's sipping out of his canteen, and then he's getting no water out of it, and then like Sam comes up, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Frodo, I got a couple drops left," and I swear, 50% of the water goes into Frodo's mouth. He just like dumps himself, and it. I feel like it's something I didn't notice, but a friend of mine like made me aware of it, and then when I watch it now, it's just so silly because it's like they have drops
Sam's
left,
like, what the fuck, man?
and he's like, and he just misses like all over himself. Fuck, it's funny.
Do you want
Oh
me
my
to pour that for you? No, I got it.
And like, like maybe he's just trying to a germaphobe or something. He doesn't want to put his mouth on it, but like, come on, it's important.
Question:
this
do,
point,
do you guys
yeah.
think that Sam picked up the lembas bread before he climbs back up, or do you think he just leaves it? Because that
No, he
stuff,
crushed it,
it's
didn't
got
he?
some.
He
Well, yeah,
did
but there's like
crush it,
crumbs all
yeah.
over the place, and we know how far a
Crushed
crumb
it.
can go with lembas bread. Like
That's
I feel
right.
like, do you think he did?
Yeah.
I feel like he just left. Like they don't actually show it; they kind of cut. But what do you guys think is canon?
Just starts eating it on the.
No, I feel like he was so enraged that he wanted to
Yeah.
get back to Frodo as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So that he
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
anything he
Stuff
could
could
do.
have gone a long way if he kept it.
Absolutely, it could have. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. In the moment, he's so blinded by rage, and like even when he gets yelled at and like starts climbing down, which is just, I couldn't imagine climbing up that, but let alone climbing down those stairs in Cirith Ungol. That is insane. It is like
Yeah.
it
Good thing
is
they
like a
didn't have to go
90
back
degree
that way.
slope.
Thank God for
He
the
didn't get
Eagles.
too far. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
The
like when he's
Eagles drop
climbing
him off at
down,
the top of that.
Yeah.
Like,
This is as far as we can go. See ya.
Like we're gonna hang out with Shelob for a bit. We
Yeah,
gotta
they're-
catch up
they're
with our
like,
old friend.
we're old
Yeah, they-
friends. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, unfortunately, our home is that way. It's the complete opposite direction. But we could drop you the stairs. And you're like, yeah, all right, I'll take the ride to the stairs, I guess.
The Eagles like to party with Shelob.
I do like the line at the very beginning, like the heartwarming thing when Sam's counting all the bread and Frodo's like, why do we have that much? And he's like, well, for the
Yeah.
journey home. And I love that's just like such a like just heartfelt, like ambitious, optimistic way to look at this situation. And then obviously later on they're like, yeah, no, it's it's not looking that way. But I like that that's Sam's intention. They still no, we're dropping this ring off and then we're gonna get back to the Shire. You know, I love that that's still the intent because Frodo to me does that, like it seems like he's pretty much decided it's a suicide mission now at this point. You know, so when Sam says that, he almost gets a twinge in his eye, like maybe it's not, maybe there is a chance we could get back, and obviously that doesn't happen until the Eagles happen, but. And then we get back to Rivendell, where I know it's been mean about by us, but I still love that he does not know Legolas's name. Everyone gets a name drop. Just that guy. But great scene. Just like I love when like it's funny like in the circumstance, just these two characters laughing at each other. But I love Gandalf and Frodo just laughing. Yes, Taylor.
That was back in Rivendell.
Yeah.
Didn't
It's
the
exactly
crowning?
where-
Didn't the crowning occur after that though? Because you mean when Frodo wakes up?
Yeah.
So the Eagles get him. They bring him to Rivendell to heal up, and
They brought everyone back to Rivendell, and then they went
Yeah.
back to have the crowning session at Minas Tirith.
That's actually a good point. Like, why
that
did
is true.
Aragorn and why did Legolas go back to Rivendell? That's interesting. Okay, you're on.
Well,
That's
I
a
think
good
what you're
point.
asking, where's Arwen in this situation, right?
No, I'm just wondering why would they bring the whole
Yeah.
like fellowship
My-
back to Rivendell when
Well,
the
I'm
crowning
asking
happens?
where Arwen is then, because
My-
they were
She's
in
at Minas
Rivendell.
Tirith.
Oh, I
for
just
King.
missed him. It's like Sleepless
My-
in Seattle.
My defense of the scene is that it probably takes it's probably covers a long time, honestly,
Yeah,
from
definitely.
when the
Yes.
ring gets destroyed, and then it's like a long time goes to, like he's probably on the sick bay for like a long time getting healed by Elrond, and then a long time later is probably the crowning. Because do they mention I don't remember, but did they mention how much time has passed since like the ring was destroyed when they have
not
that
in the
inauguration?
movie. No, I don't think so. Obviously, they do Rivendell the first time when Gandalf's like,
Yeah.
the date is blah, 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 but they don't do that here and stuff. So I'm the same way as you that, yeah, I take it as it's been weeks, even maybe like a month that he's just been on the mend.
They said because Frodo loosely says like it's been like what a year and I think 3 months.
That's
to
when
the
they're back in the
date
Shire, though,
When they
right?
arrive, that was when they set off from Rivendell and arrived back in the Shire.
Yeah.
But they arrived back in the Shire after
You know what
the
it might
fact.
be? It might be like a thing, like all the members of the fellowship, since that's where it was formed, they had to come back to like officially disband it, or like a mission
Turn in the
review
quest.
kind of thing. Like,
Contract.
Yeah.
okay, let's see how you guys did. We're gonna give you all a grade here. You can put this on your,
Oh, you lost one
on
of
your
you
resume,
guys.
that kind of thing.
You lost
Only if you
one.
lost a finger. That's not too
Yeah.
great.
All right,
Oh,
that's a
Boromir,
0.5
that guy
off.
died, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to?
Yeah, you yeah, you took Gollum on the quest. I see. But anyways,
Gandalf, you changed a lot. In this time.
yeah. But anyways, like touching scene. It's like it is actually great. Like having everyone reunite. I actually just love how happy Gimli is in that scene. Every time when he sees him, he's like, oh,
Yeah.
like he's just like, yeah, I love that and everything. But
You can't
and then-
not smile watching that scene. Like
No.
it is
Yeah.
a bit cheesy as you mentioned, but it's the best kind of cheese. Like I love it.
Yeah, it's just I feel like I've just seen way too many of those meme
yes,
situations
memed
where
so
it's like
much, yeah.
like Gandalf's laughing, it goes to Frodo, and he's got like just super like eyes like a gecko, where they're just all in different direction. He has this like super goofy laugh. I feel like I'm just cursed now because I like just picture it looking that way, and then I know it's not looking that way, but I'm thinking of it, and then
The
it
whole
just
things
makes
in
me
like
chuckle.
slow mo too, right? So it adds like
Yeah.
this
Yes.
certain feeling.
And it's like an
to it.
echo to their laughs. I swear, it's like oh, and then it's just like echoing, reverberating, and then of course every time it goes to like Legolas, and he just says nothing, and then like
And
the next
Frodo
person
says
what is
nothing.
like yeah, and then like the next person is it Gimli or Aragorn when he like
no, it's
actually
Aragorn
says
Aragorn
it?
after. Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's like
okay.
Aragorn, like he's just like finally somebody I know and stuff like that, But and, like poor Elijah Wood, he just had to like look at a camera and then just like laugh joyously, go and like how do you like for so and even his laugh, just, it is like there is some cheese, like
Oh,
it works, it works because you're just like yeah, these guys have been on this huge quest. Like I'd probably have these like crazy laughs too, but and it's great because Frodo, this is the first time that everyone else learned that Gandalf was alive, but he hasn't till this point. So it's like to him, he might think he's, and I like the way they frame it when they see him and how light it is, and as more characters come in, it looks more realistic. Because to me, they kind of frame it like Frodo might be in heaven in his perspective, and
Yeah.
he's like
Right.
seeing Gandalf because Gandalf would also be dead, and that to me is kind of like the laughter of like, no, we're somehow still here. Like both of us should not be here. Frodo and Gandalf should not be here at all because Gandalf should have died, but he got the IOU. And if Gandalf didn't get the IOU, Frodo could have maybe done his quest, but he would have just died on that hill, maybe, right? Like maybe Gandalf wouldn't have led the Eagles to get him. So they both kind of save each other in a sense, but. Yeah, and then we get that jump. I love when the hobbits go back to the Shire and they're just all like knighted out and they got the horses and everything like that, and all good sequence. Sam and Mary, they go to the bar and they just like everyone's the same and they've changed and they're just like looking around. They're happy to be
Sam's
home. and stuff.
confident. He's gonna go ask
Yeah.
Rosio. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
all that stuff is good. Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
get to the or did you want to mention some there, Dylan?
I do. I
Yeah.
just I absolutely love the feeling of melancholy that is felt with Frodo during that whole sequence. The music has changed, right? It's not just that same. It is lighthearted, like the Shire music always is, but it's not comforting in that same way. And I love that the music and Frodo, the way Frodo acts and the way he talks about what he's doing, how like yes, he's back in a safe place and everything's good, but things have changed. The world is different. He's cannot go back to the way life was before. I just love the feeling that's felt there. It gives me goosebumps, like just like watching that scene and seeing how he reacts to everything. And obviously Sam's able to go back and he comes back with this newfound confidence and he's able to have that dream life that he wanted. Merry and Pippin, kind of unclear, as you mentioned, they're drinking, but like it seems like they're able to go back and have some good times, and maybe every once in a while they go on an adventure to go hang out with Eowyn or something like that. But yeah, Frodo just he can't get over what he went through, and I think that's so powerful because it's obviously a happy ending in one way, but it's also not at the same time because Frodo's gone through such trauma that he just will never be able to work through. At least that's what he feels, and that's why he makes that decision, obviously.
Well, like talk about like for me as a kid, a shocking moment. Like I get, okay, we're gonna send Bilbo off, okay, and Gandalf going off, like that's sad. And I'll be like, okay, get it. But man, when that turn happens and Gandalf just says, "Frodo, it's time," that killed me as
Yeah.
a kid because I was like, what's going on? And like that's the point, like we were talking about at the beginning, where at that point I never really got it because like everyone's here, your friends there, and I don't get like the burden of the ring and everything like that. But like I compare it very much to, and I can use this example because it's on After 9 and we've talked about it. But like when Kyle, he moved to Australia, right? And everyone knows we talk about it with us and people, like he had like a big breakup and he just wanted to get out of Kelowna and go. And that's sort of the same thing as like for me, it's like, and luckily I've never been in that situation, but it's like that's probably the reason why I don't think I'll ever move from Kelowna, because like I have a lot of friends here, my family's here, and it's just my home, and I'm always just kind of happy where I am. Where like he was at the point where it didn't matter that all that stuff was here, he just was not happy being here anymore. He just had to go, and like that was years ago. And I had already appreciated the ending more when that happened. But even when like real life stuff started to echo that of like, and it's very much like our lives. Like he's gone somewhere else to Australia. I'm back here with my wife and kids and stuff like that. And it's just like, but as an adult, you could actually appreciate just things you've been through in your life. Of even if it is like something with your friends or a situation like that where it's you're just not that you're not friends, but you're just on completely different wavelengths now, and you just have to part ways. You could still meet up and be friends, and there's still that love. But as a kid, I could never get that because I'm like, why would he leave? All those people here are like, it doesn't make much sense. But it's just like he got back, but he never really got back. You know, like the Frodo, that was, and it's so funny because after they destroy the ring, Frodo's like, oh, I can remember the Shire. Like he's talking so fondly about it, but then after a year he's been there, it's funny, he's much like Bilbo, right? Because Bilbo at the end wanted to get the fuck out of the Shire, and it's almost like these adventures with the rings kind of changed, and Frodo's more so because I feel like Frodo's just like a lot more, he smiles at the end stuff, but he's just a lot more solemn, I feel, than he used to be. He kind of feels like honestly somebody that like went to war and came back, you know, and didn't really be themselves. So now I appreciate so much more, and it's a long goodbye, but and people always joke about that, but again, like I said at the beginning, like it should be him saying goodbye to all the hobbits, and it takes long for him to get on that boat, but I love the whole thing, and yeah, always is in tears when that's going on, like oh they're leaving, and you're not it's not like he's moving somewhere like Kyle. It's like with Sam, you're never going to see him again until, like, in the books they do reunite. But at this point in the movies, they're never going to see each other again, right? Because he's just going to this undying land, which is always still a weird choice. Because, like, what does Frodo do there? Is like the sole hobbit when Bilbo's about to die. Like, he's just
blow
a
smoke
hobbit
rings
there.
with Bilbo and Gandalf. It's probably awesome.
Same
Yes.
place where the blue wizards are, right?
No
You know,
dating,
all the-
yeah. But I was, well, I guess the Blue Wizard is there, but I'm saying like no dating life for Frodo either, you know. And that shows that maybe he just can't even connect with people.
Maybe
like,
there
you know.
is. You never know.
Other hobbits.
There's just like
Galadriel?
brothels
Brace
in
a
the
group,
Undying
make it happen.
Lands. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can happen. What happens in the Undying Lands?
Him and Galadriel had this steamy affair and everything. Like that. And the husband's like, I always get the back end of the stick. What's
Where
going
is
on?
me? Fuck, I think of that meme like daily, Travis. It gets me. But no, yeah, that's that whole sequence. It definitely just gets me so choked up. Even just the anticipation of what's coming.
Yes.
I think it just again it makes me think of like that first time I really, maybe not the first time I saw that scene, but like the first time I really saw it. You know, like actually like
Yeah.
understood what was going on. Just totally gets me. And yeah, it's just the whole thing with Frodo, like not only is he forever changed of like what he went through with like the ring, like he's also just still getting poisoned, right, by like the Morgul blade wound. Like they've already stated that in the Fellowship that like he'll never fully heal from this wound. And then you even see him like when he's finishing up the novel, like he's feeling that wound. And I think it's like every year on the date that he gets stabbed, it just like the pain just gets like worse. And
Yeah,
like
3 years
it's-
have passed, they say.
yeah, so he's definitely feeling it, but also just like the mental toll of what he went through, but also like he did complete the mission, but I personally feel like he is probably upset with himself that he, like at the end when he was at the finish line, he was ready to just put the ring on and just like
He didn't complete the mission though. I feel like
Exactly.
he did,
No,
but like
exactly.
Gollum completed
That's-
it for him, and
and that's probably
yeah.
a major defeat in his mind where like he just has time to like write in his study, you know, in Bag End, and he's probably just like thinking about that on like just how upset he
Thinking
is
of
with
all the
himself.
moments that Sam prevented him from just giving himself up.
And
yeah.
and like yeah, like when he freaked out at Sam, it's not like he was possessed. Or yeah, he is possessed by the ring, but he was still like in like he was seeing what he was doing, and that probably really weighs on him because as we've seen him in the beginning of Fellowship, like that's so not what his character is. Like he's so just like happy and joyous and just very friendly. So to think back on like the way that you treated your friend in those moments, like he just wasn't himself. And again, just the whole PTSD of what this entire mission was. It totally makes sense why he it's like I can't just go to the pub and like enjoy a drink like I used to. Like that's just I'm completely changed in that regard. And from his friend's perspective, like it's so hard. This is just like a life thing. Like it's one thing to like lose a family member who would be like Bilbo, you know, like 170, whatever the hell he is. He lived a fabulous life, all these stories, old and gray. But to like Frodo, I know he's like he's older than he looks, but still, like he has so much more life to give and just live. That's like just to have to say goodbye to someone like you know, if you lose like a family member that's like young, it's like it hits.
Yeah.
For me, it hits a lot harder than what
They don't get
like,
a full
it'd be.
life like Bilbo
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
Like when my there's like my grandparents now, both my grandmas, when they pass away, they will live a full life. Where my grandpa, when he was like had lung cancer at like 55, it's like
Yeah.
it was his fault because he smoked, but still is the thing of like. It's still an older age, but still not like he, you know, I was 7 at the time, so he didn't see me fully grow up. Like both my grandmas still now, they have great grandchildren. You know, they see that
Yeah.
where both of them, they didn't see that. So it's just like there's times, or of course, like young people, if you don't get that full life, it feels like some robbed. And now it almost feels like Frodo is kind of robbed in that in a sense where he's not dead, but just like that's where I was making the point. Like I was maybe joking, but still, like literally, he's not having a relationship with anybody if he goes this place. I imagine, like, sure, okay, maybe someone could pitch like there's a human or elf he could fall in love with, but really, if it is just like with hobbits, there's maybe no one he can really connect with because like all the hobbits in the Shire are probably still really easygoing people and happy, and he just can't get to that level of happy
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Even Bilbo, you know, like seeing how Bilbo went on this grand adventure too, which is what partly inspired him to want to do that himself. And Bilbo's fine. I mean, he still thinks about the ring, but it's not in a corrupted way. Obviously, he had that one moment where he let himself go, of course, when we see the scary face. But overall, like, he's not burdened by that on a daily basis. He was still able to have a good, happy life, a full life. And yeah, so Frodo, like 3 years on, being like, that turn's not happening for me. I'm not going to have this moment when it spins and I'm able to enjoy myself. Like, yeah, I think what you mentioned, Kirkland, is perfect. Of all those times that he was a piece of shit to Sam, or he was making these decisions based on the ring and stuff, like those are all conscious decisions, and that's like an impossible thing to wrestle with and try and be okay with.
I think too, compared the company between the hobbits of the Shire and then the people that are sailing out to the west, like Galadriel, Gandalf, and such, I feel like they would be more understanding company. And
yes,
I don't want to even say like compassionate, because hobbits are very compassionate, but they could at least know where Frodo's coming from, and there would be a lot more common ground for Frodo to talk and engage with them over like the other hobbits in the Shire.
I agree. Even though, you know, considering the Hobbit must be awkward now, you know. Gandalf's getting on a boat with Galadriel and a husband. You know, they're going to talk about the dating relationship Galadriel and Gandalf used to have. He's like, that's when I was the Gray.
Awkward.
Not canon.
Yeah. It is in these movies, Kirkland.
No,
it is
no,
in
my
these
head.
movies.
Canon
I
is what
know.
I want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess that's it for anything on the ending there. Was, you know,
We
Merry
see
and
the
Pippin
three.
still get their best buddies. You know, that sucks for
Yeah.
Sam. Hopefully they keep. Hopefully they bring them in.
Well, he's got new best buddies, right? He's got
That's
Rose.
true. No,
he's
that's
got
true.
His
Yeah.
kids and everything.
Mhm.
What was? Oh yeah, we see the 3 elven rings like leave Middle Earth. That's another
Right.
big moment there, right? So now like the rings of power are
Are those the last
all
ones?
gone now. Yeah, I
Okay.
think there's probably one in like some really dark dungeon of like a dwarf mine, maybe, but I don't think so. I
That's
think
what Tolkien's
actually
writing for Lord of the Rings 4, right, Taylor?
Oh yeah.
I think those ones
Count
were
Dooku,
stated that
too.
Sauron actually recovered those some way, shape, or form, because like a long time ago the dragons ate a lot of dwarves that had the rings, so they were just chilling in their guts.
Damn, that sucks. There's like one.
Yeah.
There's like a ring to fight Sauron. Like, where is it? It's in the belly of some dragon or
It's
something.
in a massive pile of dragon shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Nasty.
So yeah, I got another fun note, unless you have like another where to go.
Fun.
Fun.
The retreat of Osgiliath when the orcs like completely ambush them, just totally catch them off by guard, and just again decisive defeat. Like they just absolutely mess them up. And then when they're retreating, man, every single use of like the Nazgul like actually in the warfare, it's so terrifying. Like I couldn't imagine like, okay, I'm fighting a humanoid that is just like hates me. Like you even see some orcs like use their teeth to just like bite the necks of the humans. Like this is not normal warfare. And then like that's already a mortal killer. And then you look up and there's just a fucking serpentine dragon like above you screeching. And I love the point of emphasis again that they give on of like when it screeches, like it actually is like a flashbang that went off. Like it's like getting into their brain and
I
like
bet it rings around the helmet too, right? Like,
oh,
it's
I'm
just
sure.
something-
Yeah, and like that's just the sense of dread that like the Nazgul as well as their fell beasts like just bring to the battlefield. And like you quickly mentioned like just them catapulting the heads, like all of these demoralizing aspects to the warfare that just the forces of Mordor bring, specifically like the Nazgul. It's insane. Like war's terrible, but like that type of warfare, I couldn't even imagine. Just a giant dragon above you,
They definitely take the Batman approach of like beating them with fear instead of like their actual brutality.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's almost like they beat the opponents before they even get on the battlefield, like with just these messages and everything like that. And then right when you think you're good, Gandalf gives you this great speech like, no matter what comes through this gate, stay strong. And then boom, those cave trolls with swords and armor
Multiple.
come through. And I would just like, man, that poor front
Gandalf's
line.
face was like not prepared. He's like, fuck.
Which
I lied to these
Like,
men.
never mind what I just said.
Yeah.
Scared.
Now they're like, bust out the magic, please. And again, another fun level in the game. You had to take on those cage. But I agree.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing more I can say about the Nazgul and like everything that you said that would top that. So I guess I'll go the other route of being not negative on it, but I always wish the Gandalf Witch King showdown was a bit more epic. Like when they bring that up, and Witch King's like, yeah, I'm gonna pretty much like he says some line like when I see him, I'm gonna mess him up and stuff like that. But it's just like he just breaks his staff and Gandalf like flees. Like that's like pretty much it. I wish there was like I remember being like, oh, this is really cool. And even like I like
That's an extended cut thing, by the way. That's
Well,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
precedence for that too. Like it's not really Gandalf like fleeing. It's just okay. Like as the leader of this army, he had
No,
to
I
turn
know.
as like the Rohirrim arrived.
It's just like when you see them face to face. Yeah, Dylan, you're right. That's completely been Mandela affected. I thought it was in there, but it wasn't. And then even like Eowyn, like I like the fight, but anytime Witch King would get on the ground, like man, we're gonna get some cool stuff here, and he just like gets killed like right away. I'm like, oh dang it, okay, like that kind of sucks. His dragon and him just mess up Theoden, poor Theoden, and stuff like that. But yeah,
He's got a gnarly flail as a weapon, and like when he's just swinging that around, it just
Couldn't
oof.
imagine how heavy that is.
what do you think he was gonna say to her before he died? They did the classic movie thing. He's like Eowyn, and he goes to say something, and he died. Wonder.
Okay.
Combination to the safe is.
The safe, the safe.
There's a treasure buried underneath us.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And even me and Emily were joking about that. Something that's in the extended too is Armir, or is it Amir? Who's
Aemir.
when he finds his sister like knocked out on the battlefield. Like,
What a
man,
scream.
It's what a scream. But I just said, and like imagine he's telling his friends and family like, oh, I got this great scene. Like I just screamed my lungs. Like wait till you see it. And they're there opening night, and Peter Jackson just took that out like completely
The Wilhelm
gone.
scream.
But like, oh yeah, like it's so good. But yeah, no, that's like with the Gandalf one, I wanted a bit more. But I love all the Witch King
That's fair.
Nazgul stuff. So
Sweet sword effect that he had though. That was
Yes.
insane.
I love when Gandalf rides out into the battlefield and you can
Yes.
see, because they do the full zoom out, so you can see like the darkness, like the dark clouds,
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
that Sauron's doing over top, and
Mm-hmm.
like Gandalf just swoops in with just enough daylight to be able to cast this spell. I assume they can only cast it as far as that like invisible
Oh.
wall is, essentially, to save the day. And once again, like the dragons, the fell beasts there, are just scooping up horses and men and just chucking them around. As we mentioned, another Wilhelm scream there. Like that is terrifying stuff, and I love just because then there's like kind of a moment of silence when Gandalf's doing that too. Like the
Yeah.
music kind of cuts out a bit, and then he flies out on the battlefield and does that. Like that's a great moment for sure.
That is like one of my favorite visuals in like Return of the King, possibly all of Lord of the Rings. Like just like the long like the wide shot of just like the dark side of like where the Mordor forces are coming in. You have the fell beast, but then just like the one rider going out there, Gandalf the White, and he's just like blinding the Nazgul, like just doing everything he can to just like get them back. Oh, like I get into tears just watching that, honestly. Like it's just such a beautiful visual. I've seen so many very talented just like artists do their own like rendition on it, and I just I eat all that stuff up. It looks so good, and it's just like, again, like the forces of light like just countering this imposing force. Like what is Gandalf with his little light bright gonna do to these giant fell beasts? Well, he did enough to like at least hold them off and just get these men back in. And then of course you have your your steward of Gondor send them fucking back into where they were. My God, but
Poor guys.
yeah.
2 notes on that. Again, I love that he brings Pippin with him too when he goes out there. But
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, why? Okay.
it's very peculiar.
He's
But
protecting him. He can't survive. He must make sure.
He's
the
bringing
other
him into danger, though.
it's big danger. The other thing I really enjoy
danger.
too is I shouldn't say enjoy, but it always just cracks me up because everyone knows him as Gandalf and stuff. And this is this one lone Gondor soldier, just as Gandalf is going out there. The soldier's like, "It's the White Rider!" Like, it obviously has no idea who Gandalf is, doesn't know his significance.
Well,
Everyone's
I
calling
g- I-
Mithrandor or something.
Yeah,
right?
Mithrandir. Yeah, that's another thing with Gandalf though. Is like he's traveled everywhere, really. Like in these lands, that so many people have different words for him. Like I think even Gimli calls him something different. Like initially, because the dwarves have their own word for it. Like the people of Gondor, they know him as Mithrandir. He's also, when he was like Gandalf the Grey, they just known him as the Grey Pilgrim, because he was just like a wandering, like, especially if you're just a farmer, like you just see this guy come around and he's like talking to Theoden King or something. It's like, oh, this guy's kind of a big deal. But like, yeah, I love that aspect of like everybody kind of knows him as something else. I mean, even like the people of Rohan, right? Like Gandalf Stormcrow, Greyhaim, like they have all these different names for him. The Stormcrow one is actually like a negative connotation because it's meaning that he's bringing like the storm, like everywhere that he goes is a bad omen. Like he's bringing this, and that's why, of course, the cursed Theoden King calls him that. But
why should I welcome you?
Gandalf,
And I love that it's just similar to
Stormcrow.
like Aragorn, where it's just like the legend of Gandalf and how all these people have these different experiences. And fuck, that's gonna be your Embracer Group movie right there. It's just all these different adventures Gandalf's
travels
been on.
of-
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. That could be a series of fucking travels of Gandalf. But the only thing I had to mention was when Dylan brought up the weather. I love the weather throughout the whole one. When I can't remember at one point whether it's Sam. He's just like, oh, it's pretty dark for this time, and he's like, it's always dark, and they're just really emphasizing that there is just like no pure day anymore. It's just always cloudy, and it's getting darker and darker, and that's what I love. That at that one moment, where he's like, look, there's like a little light in the world,
And you see a
which-
star too,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is like again very symbolic.
And he kind of, it's a weird scene because he's like, it shows there's light in this world. Like he's kind of like redoing his speech, like a mini speech of what he just did in Two Towers. But I like the weather in all this, where it's just like this ashy, dirty.
He's like, that speech went over well. Maybe I could try that one again.
Yeah, he's like, I heard that, but
Whip out
no,
the
I love
toolbox.
all the allusion to the, like Sauron literally just changing the weather of the world. Like it really, like it's
Yeah.
not just okay. He's sending orcs and enemies. Like no, literally the entire world is changing because this evil's here. And good stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy shit.
There's a specific shot too when they're in like the throne room of Minas Tirith and they open the gate, or they open the front door to it, and you just see Mordor like absolutely storming, and it's just
Oh, yeah.
like right out front, like literally right outside your front door is just like the most terrifying image of like that is where the enemy is, and it's just every day that cloud just gets bigger and bigger. And just speaking towards like the cloud coming in again, another just I love that attention to detail of like, because orcs like they just can't go out in daylight, so like when they're advancing of their platoons, like he just literally physically blocks out the sun with just this like dark cloud, and it's his evil magic at work. Oh, I love that stuff.
Awesome. Should we like talk more deeply about the Battle of Minas Tirith now? Or you had another name for it, Kirklin, didn't you?
Oh, the Battle of Pelennor Fields,
There you go.
the correct name.
I like Minas Tirith because I'm gonna be able to remember that.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. There's not a lot that's cut here from the extended cut, but there's a couple things, but I guess one thing that I wanted to mention that I thought was super interesting is that when Pippin finds Merry in the theatrical cut, that's like essentially like right after right after Merry and Eowyn take down the Witch King of Angmar, and then the battle like pretty much soonly ends as the ghosts clear out everything. And then it's like it's pretty much meant to be like within that moment or within like 5-10 minutes is when Pippin shows up and finds him. And interestingly, in the extended cut, that's something they changed where it's like after the battle's over, I guess they're just taking stock of everything, and that's when Pippin finds him. He goes out in the darkness in the nighttime. And it's very interesting because you can obviously tell that they added nighttime effect
They
on
just
it.
color corrected. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Because in the theatrical, like it never really becomes nighttime in that sequence of the movie. So I thought that was a very interesting change, one I was not really expecting. And the reason they do that is because it kind of goes down that whole route of Eowyn is knocked out, I guess, and then Éomer finds her, and then they take her back and they start doing some medical stuff on her. But in the theatrical cut, that's why I was maybe a bit confused by the Éowyn stuff, because she's fine. Like
Yeah.
we never see that she's knocked out or that her arm is broken or something. So that's why I was a bit confused when she was knocked out on the ground. I'm like, did I miss like her getting clubbed in the head or something? Like I know she just like her arm hurt a little bit, but I never took it that way. So that's an interesting change, and it makes sense pacing wise why you would then just have Pippin show up in that moment and do that. But that was an interesting thing that I noticed. I guess we could mention this guy. Another, we always talk about these kind of. There's certain orc characters that stand out from the rest, and one is this guy that has like the very pussy, like maybe tumor-ridden head. Does he have a name? Do we know this guy's name? I'm
Oh,
sure
he
does.
definitely has a name. Taylor's probably got him.
Never
He's
say it, but-
I
might
never
be in
look
one
it
of
up.
his
Oh
poll.
yeah, Taylor. Yeah, he must be in your poll, right?
Oh yeah,
is in the
he must
poll.
be.
I haven't met him in the book yet, so I don't remember his name.
But I mean, I like him just for being very menacing, of course, as he tells everyone like you got to stand exactly where you are, even if there's a giant fucking piece of wall coming at you. Taylor, what's that name?
His name, he's a lieutenant of Morgul. His name is Gothmog.
Gothmog.
It's a
That's
sick
a
name.
sweet name.
That's someone's
love that.
MySpace name somewhere.
Mog,
I
yeah.
think he's a fairly effective, like stronger orc, like recognizable guy.
Yeah.
He's one that's memorable, even though like his death is kind of a nothing shot. He just kind of gets slashed like anyone
Oh,
else.
I hate his death because they
I
give him
think
a
that
terrible
is specifically extended cut
It
thing
is,
too.
yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
They gave him this bad prosthetic arm where like he lost an arm, but like the cut off arm they give him is like longer than his actual arm, so it just looks bad. And it's kind of fun that the trio just like take their turns fucking him up. But
Yeah.
I think I'm glad they like it's in the extended, which is the one I watched. But I get why theatrical they cut it because it's a strange out of nowhere scene. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
He really wanted Eowyn.
he did. Yeah, and he didn't
It's
get
true.
to her. So yeah.
I mean, she's pretty strong. We talk about this a lot in Two Towers, where I just love how there's so much planning that goes into these battles, and like the orc towers I think are a good evolution of. First we had the mini ladders, and then we had the big ladders in Two Tower in Battle of Helm's Deep, and now we just got these fucking towers that they're pushing, which I think is a very fun thing. I have a question about this though, which is that I feel like they are like an individual orc, very stupid, but whoever is the mind, like the strategist behind these battles, fantastic. Like they had Helm's Deep dead to rights until Gandalf and the Riders of Rohan show up over the hill and win the fight that way. But like they had won that fight strategically. They were superior. They had the bombs, they had the ladders, they had the ballista stuff. Like they had all these different roads. They had the battering ram. Good to go. And so one thing I was kind of curious about is that in this fight, like they clearly initiate the battle by one like shooting the catapults and throwing the heads in there. So I guess my question is, why did they start the fight then? Like, why wouldn't they have waited for the Oliphant people? I forget the name of that tribe, but why wouldn't they have waited for them before like starting the battle?
I think it was just one of those things where like they just had so much numbers. It's just like we'll just keep sending them out, and like I would have imagined the orcs that they went out first aren't like the cream of the crop. It's
Pawns
just like the
go
cannon
first.
farter. I mean, yeah, like I don't know specifically like their battle tactics there, because you would imagine like why not hit them just hard all at once with as much force as you can. Yeah, maybe they're running late. Who knows?
I'm gonna base this off like my experience with playing RTS games. Like it's just probe. You have like a main force, and you just go in, you just kind of like push the defenses a little bit, see how it goes. But there's gonna be some counter to that. And obviously with the Rohirrim, I just feel like it was a diversion of forces. Like, okay, like shit, the Rohirrim just came in like thousands of troops. Okay, let's divert like this, our secondary reinforcements up here. So that's how I take it.
The way it's framed though is more like a luck thing. Like, oh, the Rohirrim showed up, but we got our guys that just showed up now. It's not like the Oliphants were waiting in the wings, or at least that's not how it's.
It's not how
felt
it's
to me.
shown. Yeah.
Like I totally understand from a movie perspective why it's done that way, where it's like, okay, the orcs are winning, and then the armory of Rohan come, and then the elephants, and then the ghosts. So it's like this kind of back and forth. But it just kind of seemed odd to me, because I feel like, once again, whoever the strategists are for the orcs, whether it is just Sauron or if there's someone else, the mouth Sauron, someone
Yeah.
like that. Like they have amazing plans. So that seemed to me like a bit odd that they wouldn't wait for their whole army to arrive. I think even the boat people as well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like why not wait? It literally takes within a few hours. If we know this happens in one day, like why
Mhm.
not wait a couple hours for the rest of them to show up?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't they want the people to go first before their orcs? Because they're like, wouldn't they want those to be the pawns? Send the humans
That's a
in?
great question. I mean, I feel like the main strategist, if it's not Sauron, would be the Witch King, because he is like the main leader of these like armies. He's known to like have been the person that just put an end to Arnor, turned it into Witch King of Angmar. Yeah, there you go, Angmar. So like he is known to just be that strategist. Maybe I'm pulling a little bit too much from Battle for Middle Earth because he's just like the head honcho there. Yeah, because if it's not Sauron, I would definitely say it's the Witch King, because below Sauron directly would be the Witch King. He is like his number one.
Fair enough.
Well, let's take another ad break. Be right back. And we're back.
I'll keep ripping off some Minas Tirith stuff.
Yeah,
unless you
like
guys
you mentioned the people that are coming on the Oliphants. Those are the Easterlings.
Easterlings.
Yeah, and they're from Rune with an H after
Right.
the R. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the Oliphants, specifically the Oliphants, not the elephants. I just think that's a fun, like the design of them, the costumes of these guys, kind of been otherworldly. The one guy who's like blowing the horn as they're coming in. I love that they like kind of have that barbed wire between the tusks that they use to just destroy multiple Rohirrim at the same time. Just the amount of arrows that they're throwing in these Oliphants. Like I think they add such a fun turn to that battle. They make it so much more interesting, being this other phase of it. So shout outs to them.
And they look so good too for a movie that came out like 2003. Like while it's going
Someone
on,
sold their soul. I just can't believe it.
like I'm watching this
Peter
and I'm
Jackson, because he's never made a great movie after this.
just King Kong's great. Come on, did he do that one? 2008.
He did
I love
it.
that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wouldn't say. I wouldn't
Let's
say
retro that
great.
someday.
Yeah. I'd be down to retro, and I feel like you guys will come back with very different maybe opinions. Like, you know what? I feel like.
Jack Black's my man. I love seeing the kind of different ways that certain characters are able to take them down. Obviously, Legolas is, we talked about this. I love it. Like, it is over the top. It is way dipping in that fantasy. It's like getting close to that Hobbit stuff, even though, of course, this did it first. But I love it. I love Legolas climbing up that Oliphant. Yes, it's a CGI character jumping around, but I still love it. I love that he's holding on to the rope as the top part like falls off the side. The double arrows in the brain.
Oh yeah.
That just gets me going.
It's like
I
his
love all that
execution
stuff.
move, eh? Because he did that to the cave troll as well. In
Yeah, that's
Didn't work on the cave troll though, because the armor was too or his hide was too thick. You could see the arrows deflect.
Really? No.
No.
Yeah, in the cave troll.
I thought he
In
killed that
Fellowship, because
cave
he
troll.
jumps on the top of it and he points the arrow down, and it actually deflects off of its head. He gets
but
a shot in the mouth though. That's what downs it.
But how does he get in the mouth if he's on his head?
No, because at first he jumps on the head, he climbs
hold
over the
still, little
chain,
guy.
gets on top of the head, and then he points the arrows down, and you see the arrow deflect off of its hide because it's too thick, and it like scratches its head. Then he falls off or jumps off or whatever, and then when they're finally like taking him down, he puts a shot right in its
Oh,
mouth,
yeah, you're
and it's
right,
like,
okay.
I think you are right.
Yeah, you're all right.
Good.
You're right. Yeah, I remember the.
memory.
That sounds. No, 100%. No, I like poor elephants. They got no stake in this battle. They're just being.
Oliphants.
oh no, they were evil. They knew what
Whatever.
they were doing.
Yeah, they're Sauron. Elephants of Sauron. And see, this Lego stuff doesn't bug me because, like I said before, like the skateboard stuff is just like it takes something from the 2000s, like extreme sports, put in there. But this is he just like
is
slides
sliding
down
off
the
the tusk. Is that
No,
not?
he's just sliding down a tusk. Like we don't do that in real life, right? We don't we're not sliding off any elephant
I'm
tusk.
not.
Where no one was
I'll try,
skateboarding
yeah.
back then. So actually, none of that
You don't
stuff
know
bugs
that.
me. It's like he's an elf. He can do some cool shit.
One of
There's,
Tolkien's unreleased writings. He just had a segment on elvish skateboarding. And
Great.
it's-
Give me that. Let me see the paper.
That was a joke, by the way, everyone.
Okay.
Shoutouts to Aomer's just snipe with that spear to
Oh,
take out
yes.
the
Shit.
captain. Like that one, like to throw a spear that high and far, like that's like some Olympics level shit.
Yeah.
And
Only
he
Carl
does it
Urban
with
could
like
do that.
pristine accuracy too, while on a horse. Like let's fucking go. That's an incredible shot.
There's like a slow-mo shot too of him like riding down and he's like holding the spear and then he like flicks it up and then catches it, and like every time he does that I'm just like, what if he just dropped that? Like then he's without a spear. Like I know he's probably got a sword, but like that's like a kill shot right there. And obviously
he probably would have killed an
it all
orc
went
if
well.
he dropped it. It probably would have fell
Yeah,
directly
true.
into someone's head.
Or
'cause he's
Mary.
just such a badass. Yeah, or Mary. And then also I love Eowyn, how she's kind of getting ready to take one down. She like acquires another sword and then does the double slashes on the legs as she's going by, and it kind of crumples and falls down.
Yeah.
I love that. So
She
good.
saved someone because that orc was like
Saved
holding
a
it.
lot
And
of
she
people,
just
man. She
grabbed
pops
it.
off.
She grabbed it out of that orc's hand, which is absolutely just great.
Where's my weapon?
Yeah, also like when the Oliphants are coming and then Theoden, like they're like, what do we do here? It's just like charge them head on. I don't know if that's the best like strategic tactic. A lot of Rohirrim people probably just got bopped on that decision. I don't know what else you would do in that moment, so maybe it's just I don't know what else are you gonna do. But
I do like though Theoden being on the battlefield in this one. I feel like this movie shows like what he was like, how he became king. Is
Yeah.
like this is that Theoden. This is probably like the second more like reinforcements show up. He doesn't like he gets he's like whoa, but like he's right away like okay, everyone get ready. We're charging like we're going again. Like he is fully leading the charge again because I believe he's inspired by Aragorn to do that. But I like seeing him in this state where he's just so determined and like I'm gonna.
He doesn't have a good record though in battle. I mean,
No, he
one
doesn't.
battle fought, one battle lost. So.
Yeah.
Well,
And even then,
won
did
the
he win
battle,
that
but he was
battle?
in the
You know,
process.
did he win that battle? You know, I don't know about that.
he was a martyr.
That's a good point because with Theoden, like again, like I mentioned earlier in this cast, that he just how he's come and so far as a character, I love him so much in this movie. And again, there's moments too, like again in battle, it was fantastic. His moments where he's rallying up the Rohirrim and the troops, like less than half of what I hoped for. All that stuff is great, and he's becoming like a real
I like you
powerhouse.
point to
of a
that
king.
line as cheering them on. I mean, that's kind of
No,
like
that's
him.
not. You don't. That's not a cheer 'em on line.
Yeah.
No, that's demoralizing. But the one.
what we got, eh?
These,
one-
this is all you got from me. This
That's one of them.
slugs. Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to shout out because I think that this, it's such a. There's so much meaning in this moment when, Gandalf and Aragorn, they're all talking about like the beacons being lit, and all of a sudden, Theoden just says like, "Oh, like, what do we owe Gondor? Like,
Where
why
was
should we?
Gondor?
Yeah, like, well, why should we come to the aid of those who do not come to ours?" And Gandalf just gives him the dirtiest fucking look. Like, you said what, bud? Like,
Ian
it's
McKellen has some great face acting in this
Oh,
movie. When he
yeah.
when Billy Boyd walks up Pippin when he gives his allegiance to Denethor and he just like hits him with this like, get up like it's just so good and also
Such an
too,
ass to Pippin. I mean, Pippin.
he deserves
it a lot of times,
and
but-
yeah, the same thing when he knocks Denethor out with his staff. He just looks so disappointed. And he just knocks out. Like Ian McKellen's facials are just like 10 out of 10 in this movie. So
He gets
Definitely.
off on calling people fools and just saying the word fool. Like he says foolhardy at one point too, and he just loves saying that word. It just gets his blood flowing.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shoutouts to the battering rams, of course. Grond, the battering ram.
Oh yeah.
I kind of forgot that
Grond,
has a name.
Grond.
I never really.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't think about it or I didn't listen close enough or something. But it was a fun detail to have
And
that in there.
The name of Grond too, that's way back in the first era. Morgoth, Sauron's master, that was his giant mace. That was the name of it,
Ooh.
Grond. So it's cool that their huge battering ram is the same name, and just the look
That's
of it, just
cool.
this giant like warthog looking battering ram with like the flames, and they just have these giant trolls just like throwing the hammer to the gate.
It's not
I
very
love that whole
optimistic.
sequence.
You're on the wall and you see this fucking thing roll up. to
It's
your
another
door.
demoralizing thing, right?
Oh,
Like they
yeah.
just have so many just things that just like get it's mental games, right?
Once again, you kind of mentioned it, Taylor, but I love when Theoden's going down the line, tapping everyone's spear before they go into battle. Like such an iconic moment. I always love that.
I love it too, but every time when I see it, I'm like, why does he have the blade out on like a wooden spear? Like he's probably just chopping these like these spear tips off before they're about to do their big charge.
That's why he lost.
That'd be pretty weak weapons if they broke in such an
Fair
easy way.
enough.
Really.
Or just a very dull sword.
That
Double
charge of the Rohirrim, Dylan, like, goddamn, that's like, If you're ever feeling down and about, like, listeners, just play that, and like it totally turns your world upside
And
down, like
run.
in a good way. Like it's so freaking good. Like,
World upside down, right side
oh
up,
yeah,
maybe.
right side up. Yeah.
Yeah, you want some music turn your world upside down. Yeah.
Taylor, you mentioned this too. I mean, it's kind of jumping away from Minas Tirith, but just for a brief moment, which is that I love that Rohan camp scene that we get. I love like this, just the look of all the tents when they're looking down below and they see all the numbers and they're counting. Okay, we got 300 from this place, 5 from this place. I really like all that stuff. That's like a fun little resting spot, I thought.
What do you do if you're just a random Rohan guard and you're the king Theoden's like, okay, go get Aragorn, we got a visitor. You go into his tent, you're like, Aragorn, and he's just fucking sweating, whips up with his dagger. You're like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't go and whisper in his
That
ear
guy does
to
not
wake
seem
up.
too concerned, though.
No.
I would still tell my friends like, I don't know if this guy should be king. You know, I was one time in his tent.
He's got some demons.
Yeah.
So why are you in his tent? Random
Speak-
guard 3.
Yeah. But speaking of Theoden's tent, like, did you see how many fucking animal rugs he had on the ground there? My God. Pull it up
I
next
missed
Very
time.
that.
kingly.
When they look up, when Elrond hands him the sword back, it's just a shot of the ground. The floor is nothing but animal skin. Like there's not even
Damn.
floor. It's just animal skin. It's
Do
crazy.
you think he
Yeah, I
hunted
know what you're
those
laughing about,
himself?
Taylor. He's definitely using that for the ladies, 100%.
not
Like,
saying
look at
that.
this, like it's a little soft.
For the lady.
Yeah. He's trying to get that new heir. You know, he lost the last one, so he needs to find something. Because I'm not sure. I guess Eowyn must. I think Eowyn and Faramir like help run Rohan after everything's
Well,
Well, Faramir
that's it.
becomes the new steward, doesn't he?
Yeah, he becomes the new steward of Gondor, and then she's supposedly like the new queen of Rohan, right?
Stewardess.
Yeah.
But like she's not even
Long-distance
stewardess. She's
relationship,
just
yeah.
like a higher position than what he would be,
Mm.
right?
That's
Yeah,
good. He deserves
technically.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing of Minas Tirith that we haven't mentioned is the ghost, which we've of course mentioned here or there. But maybe we want to talk about
Oh,
that
yeah.
sequence of the film now.
Sure.
I like the. I think I like the initial scene. So this is actually maybe this is worth bringing up that the theatrical cut and extended cut is very different in terms of how this happens. So in theatrical, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas go into the mountains. They have that conversation, and it ends on a high note. Like it doesn't end with all those skulls piling in from the walls and the avalanche and all that stuff. And
It
then
ends with "What say you?" That's how it ends, and then they just cut, and
they
it's
cut from it.
much
then-
better. Much.
And then
better.
the next time you see them is when they come off the boats. Like they cut
Yes.
everything in between, so it's supposed to be more of a suspenseful surprise, but you kind of know it's coming at the same time, rather than having these little scenes where, I mean, the scene when they're on the beach and they're talking to the guys on the boats, and like I
Mind
don't
your
know,
name.
it's one of those things is again where I'm so used to the theatrical cut. When I see some of these scenes, they could be a little off-putting, especially that one. And I think in general, like I'm kind of down to cut all that stuff in between and have them get off the boats. I think that works for me. I don't hate the skulls all piling in, I suppose, but I also don't feel like I need it. So yeah, it's one that I feel like that was maybe a good cut. But yeah, I think it really does kind of put a damper on the end of that battle. That if you look at once again the Battle of Helm's Deep, I mean I'm comparing it to the greatest battle scene of all time. But having Rohan and Gandalf Éomer come in to save the day is like much more compelling than a
Yeah.
bunch of green ghosts who just kind of make the battle feel unfair at that point. So
It just
you
takes
know,
the
it's
stakes
for the
away.
people you're rooting for. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because when like that, when they say in the background, the Oliphants are just being like swallowed up by these ghosts, and then they show the shot of Minas Tirith, and like it's cool in a sense, but Minas Tirith's just covered with ghosts. It's like, why do I care anymore? You know, and this is a shot at like Toke and everything like that. Like again, with I feel like there's all these themes of like men coming together. And I think to me the winning of this should have been like everybody that's around in the world that are men have come together. They put their differences aside, like Gondor and Rohan, and that's what wins is because they all finally saw like eye to eye. Like we gotta bound together. Not this like, oh, these cowards got cursed because they didn't help us this one time, and we can secretly pull them, and they're invulnerable. And it's funny, the video game tie-in with the skulls falling, everything like that. That was still in the video game. So when I played it in the game, I was like, oh, they must have just extended it for the level. But no, it's like you play the actual movie in it. So that's where it's really fun. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, I don't like the Army of Dead. I think it's a lazy. If most stuff we've talked about, even when I have cons or I dislike it, it's like the weakest stuff of this movie, but I still like love it in a sense. I think this is the closest I have to the entire like trilogy, like really not liking anything. It's fine. I'm glad they go away after this battle. I would have hated, but either why didn't Aragorn just be like, no, I need to do one more thing? Like he's the one like like that deal of like I'll let you go when the ring's gone. You know, like it's weird that like it just feels odd that you wouldn't take these. Yeah, let's because look at how they are. Have them storm the
They're
Black
pretty
Gate
OP,
too. Yeah, have them storm the Black, not just one battle and just go, yeah, go over there. And even if Sauron's, we don't got the ring, we've taken all the orcs, we've taken all the Urukai. It's just
Well,
this
even
tower
Gimli
now.
says that too. He's like, I don't know, these guys are pretty useful. I think we should keep them around a little bit.
Yeah, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's like delay the deal by 1 hour. So yeah, I don't like it, and the theatrical's much better ending on a suspense because it's weird when he comes out. It's like we will fight, so all the tension is gone. It's just I love the theatrical so much more, and the Army of Dead. It's just not a highlight for me. I think it's just very very lazy story technique.
Do you think that bringing Gandalf back is lazy? Because
No.
technically that takes away stakes, right? I've
'Cause
heard
I
that
think-
argument before. I know George R. Martin thinks
Like
that.
bringing back to life.
Yeah, it's like, why did they bring
Oh,
Gandalf
yeah.
back? Because it's
No.
just like, it didn't mean anything, right?
I guess to me that's I guess it did mean something. I guess like I said before in Two Towers, where I feel like it gives them a mulligan because Saruman's supposed to be serving that role, right? So second Saruman turns, like, well, someone else was going to go in that role, and it's kind of like a IOU of like, okay, well, Sauron turned, well, then you get to go back up. You know, it's like a sub in sports. Of like, if you're behind the quarterback and the quarterback gets injured, well, you're up. You might not deserve to be there. You died, but you're back up. You know, and that's how I always feel that one's right. Where this is just all this, and if it was even sprinkled throughout the movies of like this legend of these ghosts or something to build it up, but it just feels so
Yeah.
random, just shoved in. Even the way they camp, like they're just camping right by this mountain that happens to have these ghosts. I know they take that route, but it's just too easy. It's all too easy. Where all the rest of the movies feel like it's such a struggle to get a win. This is like a snap of the finger, everything's taken
Yeah.
care of. You know.
Fair points. I like the oath breakers, as they're called, the men of Dunharrow, the dead men of Dunharrow. Again, like Gandalf, they have so many different names. Because I think with a lot of these things, because I've just done so much research into like the past ages, any like tie-in to like those older ages stuff, I just eat that up like cookies. Like I love all that stuff, especially like even, you know, to like use your example, Travis, of like if Gandalf fell, it's like he kind of got an IOU because Saruman should have been this. Couldn't you make that argument that the Oathbreakers kind of should have been there for Isildur? Maybe the battle would have gone incredibly differently if they actually stuck to their oath and came in there. And then that didn't happen. Now we get an IOU because now they're going with Aragorn again.
But they were
like,
supposed to
have
be
that
at the
force.
battle with Sauron, right?
Yeah, the battle.
But they
of the Last
still won
Alliance.
that. They still won. It was Isildur that screwed them over. So even if
Yeah.
they showed up there and helped them,
That's
Isildur
fair.
was still going to make that choice not to destroy the ring, right? Where Gandalf, he couldn't
Yeah.
help save Helm's Deep. He couldn't help save Pippin. He couldn't help all these little things. You know, it's like them showing
Right.
up really wouldn't have mattered in the long run, other than like, then I guess they would have been screwed. I guess, you know, like
Better that they didn't show up, right?
It
So that they
is.
could
It
come
is
back
that
to
they're a
the Pelennor
coward. Yeah,
Fields.
yeah.
I also feel like it just like is very simply the ghosts like taking over these elephants and stuff. Like it's not that interesting of a thing to watch on screen. Whereas Gandalf's death, even if you know it's coming, obviously, like that scene is still intense, and the scene afterwards with everyone crying about, like it's still very emotional. Whereas I feel like it just what could be like up there with a Helm's Deep in terms of how amazing this battle is, it ends on this thing that's kind of anticlimactic as well. At least
Yeah.
that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a thing in there too, even if what you're saying are good points for sure.
Yeah. And like, yeah, like I love the whole tie-in to it's like only Aragorn could be the one that actually goes in there to like make them like show up on their oath. Like, yeah, fair enough. I think what you guys explained about like the theatrical version of them just not even saying anything until they actually showed up at the end. It definitely has a lot more suspense there. It would still be weird because I'd be like, how did they just get these ships in the first place? But again, I guess that's just an off-screen thing that would never be explained. You just kind of have to accept it. But I don't know, like, again, it's another thing that even as a kid, like, I remember seeing when the ghosts would show up, and I love that visual, actually, of them, like, the green tide just coming in and just engulfing the whole battlefield. I think I definitely was in that camp. It's like, why wouldn't they just storm Mordor, like, with this force of, like, they're just that powerful? So I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm hoping like when I get there in the book, like it'll have a very satisfying answer on like why they're limited in that sense, why they're so powerful for this one battle, but they just can't really do much after that. So again, I'm optimistic for it. But even in the movie version, like I like it. It works for me. Even when he dismisses them, like he didn't say like until the ring's gone. It's just like come fight for me. That's exactly what they did, and he was true to his word. So I'm completely fine with that. But you guys make some very fair arguments.
He says, "Say, come fight for me for like a day." You know, not just like a.
Couple more
It's like
hours.
the old Aladdin
Yeah.
thing.
Just
Two
pass
more
lunch.
wishes. I want all these
yeah,
things.
yeah. Taylor, you got anything to add on the Army of the Dead?
I really do enjoy the Army of the Dead. The extended scenes definitely didn't like kind of phase me out, and I quite enjoyed how they boarded the ships too. I like the humor of that, and I like Gimli and Legolas's kind of like banter there. But I mean, I do side with the fact that it being a little bit of a con where I'm with Gimli. Like they should have just held on to them for a little bit longer because that could have been a game changer. Or they could have let the battle play out as it did because it was going pretty good, I think, relatively like Pelennor Field. So Aragorn could have just taken the ships a little bit further off and like stormed Mordor and cleared it out for Frodo and Sam. So
Put some
yeah.
ghosts on a couple eagles. Oh my god, that is a killer.
Some
combo
ghost
right there.
eagles.
Ghost
That's even
Eagles, that's the game.
Ghost
Yeah.
Eagles. Yeah,
The
they'll get
eagles that
ring.
never showed up to support the other eagles. They have like their
Yeah.
own little oathbreaker situation. I
Watching
will say
now,
though,
but-
when he clashes swords with the king, that's such a sweet moment. How like you're expecting the ghost to just cut right through, but and he like just grabs the ghost too by the
Yeah.
neck. That was kind
It's
of funny.
been yeah, and the
Yeah.
ghost is so shocked. She's like, "Oh, yeah." You haven't been touched in years, and this fucking long-haired dude is just like grabbing you by the neck.
That would be very shocking because they've been there
Yes.
a long time.
Yeah, I really like that initial scene. I think some of the stuff in
Yeah.
between some of the extended scenes like just didn't really, like if there is some additional scenes with the extended, I would want it to add or make me feel more invested. But I just feel like it's all fluff. It does not need to be there.
Yeah.
So just throwing it out there.
The particular scenes when they like first get into like the crypts or whatnot, there's certain moments that like I will always remember from the video game tie-ins, and that is one, like the start of like that undead army level when it's just like it's the exact same scenes from the movie, and then all of a sudden you have like the same characters in like animated version, and then it like starts the mission, and then you got like Gimli dropping the classic line. So
You're walking that very narrow path.
Yep.
That's all. Like, and they keep popping up and stuff like
out
that.
of like the
Yeah.
skull, like the mounds of skulls, that's where the enemies would
They
pop
would
up.
like
Yeah,
shake and stuff like that
Yeah.
and shoot it. Yeah.
I remember that level
That's
so
awesome.
vividly.
Oh yeah, it's good
Uh,
stuff.
I just have a few more kind of random notes here. One thing that we haven't like explicitly mentioned, but like the design of Minas Tirith, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Just such an iconic
Mm.
location. I love the kind of ringed tiered design to it,
Mhm.
and the one I guess part of the mountain that just kind of juts out in front of it all,
Mhm.
and then of course the tree and all that stuff. I love the set pieces we get of just like the city streets. We see it briefly as like Gandalf's and stuff's walking around, Pippin as they're cruising around the streets. Like I just love that whole place is so well designed, and it's cool too that the animated had a very kind of different version of Minas Tirith, and it was still also very cool. I think just that however that was written in the books must have been such an inspiring thing for all these filmmakers, and I'm sure when I read those books one day I will feel the same way. It must be described with such elegance and such beauty. And we've mentioned this kind of in passing, but the beacons are lit. Like that segment is fucking amazing. I love the music there. Every single shot of all these different people who are at their varying posts. That's one thing that looking at like the extended versus theatrical, like they could have cut a couple of those beacons and it would have
Yes.
still had, like the same thing. They could have shaved 30 seconds to a minute off their time. But no, they revel in all the glory of that because it is such a beautiful sequence. Like I just love that so much. And then obviously Aragorn, he's popping off, and the guys ringing the bell, all that stuff afterwards is great. But just that sequence of the landscapes, once again, like that might be the most beautiful sequence in this movie. Maybe even the whole trilogy, honestly. It is absolutely amazing. So wanted to show that one out. They're above
I
the
always get
clouds
just a
and
little bit
everything.
held up on. I always get a little bit held up on just like the whole logistics of this. Like, when do they do shift change for this? Is this one person just like?
Well, they live
are they
up
in
there.
prison? Like they just?
I
they're,
said
they're
this,
stuck.
yeah.
And there's a particular peak too that is just like it is way up there. It's just like
Mhm.
this person's just been chilling
Through
here
the
for like.
clouds, yeah.
Prison, or I
decades.
feel like husband and wife couples got to go up there because like that's the only thing you can do while you're up there for like
Yeah.
a day shift. Like there's no phones or newspaper. You're just
I think
there.
it's more than a day shift too. Like,
Well, yeah, but you're just there sitting there. Like I guess that would be it. It's like I guess in Game of Thrones, like the wall, you just get like you're going up there for a week. But I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
can me and my wife at least go up there so I have some conversation and have some good times up there or something. Like if
Yeah,
not,
like,
I'm just
do they know what's going on ground level? Do they know that like there's major war happening? Like
I think
how
so.
would they, right? How?
Because I
telling
said
me.
like a week shift, like and then they come down, they got updated. So it's like
Yeah,
Dylan, you're
I
up there for a
hope
week, and then when you
it's
come down, it's like, hey, this is what happened. And then I would feel like then now it's Kirkland's week to go up there, and then it's my week, and that's what I feel like.
Please no.
I feel like it's that, or like Kirkland said, if it's a prisoner, it's just that
Yeah.
that's if you don't want to be in prison, you want to work off your sentence, you got to be up there. There's one like extras that went a little too hard when they're like cheering. Really, it was like, okay, they should have got them to tone it down. Like they just kept
Oh,
cheering.
I
but
don't
it's like,
think that.
but
that
don't
at
cheer.
all.
I just feel like it's not a cheering moment. Like it's good, but it's also still like it's sad. Like you need.
Finally
like,
gotta light this.
Yeah.
Like I take it as like
finally
it's,
go
it's,
home.
it's all just about hope, right? Like
Yeah.
That's the
like-
opposite, though. Like in the beacons means like a lot of people are gonna die. Though.
well, it means like okay, like their war is coming, but it means like help is gonna be on the
I
way,
know.
and it's hopeful. So I take it as like a very positive force because any of these people could have just like screw it, I'm out. But like
I
these
would
people
just still
stuck
be
to
more
their
solemn
duty.
about it, because I'm lighting this torch and I want to do it, and it is good for people, but at the same time, it's like that's just bloodshed, So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I love that whole sequence, and I mentioned it earlier, but when Denethor sees it, I had to get the image. This is him checking out those beacons. That's definitely not me when I'm seeing
is
that
a
scene.
grimace, man. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
He's the best grimace in the game. It's so good.
Legendary.
Yeah, I just echo again what you guys have said about this whole scene. It's just fantastic. It's probably my favorite scene in the entire trilogy. Again, whenever me and Madison go on a
Hey,
road trip,
save
whoa.
it.
Sorry, I'll save it. Yeah, whenever we go through, me and Madison go on a road trip, and we're going, like the Coquihalla, or we got the mountains. I'm playing the like Lighten of the Beacons track on the car stereo and blasting it.
What is
Oh,
Madison doing?
Oh, she's just driving with it. She loves it. It's like our staple road trip like track. We always play when we hit the road. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
I'm glad she's into it. That would be weird. If
every road trip just gotta put on this song. It's like, oh, I hate
fuck.
that. Yeah.
I'll shout out the character of Pippin because I feel like, for most of these movies, even deep into this one, he is the fool of a took. He's just kind of an idiot. He's the comic relief, but I think he does go through a level of maturity and even some wisdom, like having some wit to him of feeling that Faramir is clearly alive. I mean, he sees like some inkling there, but like that he does something about it and he saves this guy's life is a pretty big deal. And even, offering up his services to Denethor, I think is something that if you pulled Pippin directly out of the Shire and dropped him here, he would not make that kind of decision. Like obviously the circumstances have changed, but still. And I also I love that scene in Rohan when he's like, I just want to get one more look at that Palantir. It's interesting. It kind of mirrors Frodo or Gollum or anyone with the ring, right? It kind of has a similar relationship to it. So I like that he kind of feels that too, that he wants to get one more look at it. And I like that he swaps Gandalf with the open eyes as he's sleeping, swaps out the urn. I love that whole scene. So shoutouts to Pippin.
He saves Gandalf's life as well in this movie too. Orc's about to stab him,
True.
and Pippin gets him. So
And
was
Gandalf
about
stands
to
there for
die
a
again.
long time where he's like, oh my god, like there could
Am
have
I
been
dead?
like 20 other orcs that came through in that time that
Yeah.
stand to revel in that moment.
Yeah, I feel like Gandalf should have I don't know how mana works in these worlds, but I feel like he should have popped off a few more of the magic. Like in the games, I could have popped.
Well,
off
he
a little
lost
more.
the staff, right? That's like a big thing.
Yeah, but then he gets it back later on again. Or even at
He
the
always
Does he?
gets it
No.
back.
Yeah, he did get it back. I put notes in there because it happened again in Staffgate. I can't,
Where
like,
at the Black Gate, he does not have the staff.
no, but when he says goodbye to the hobbits and Frodo and everything like that, getting on the boat, that staff is back.
Well, okay, but that's like 3 years later.
But still, we talked about it. Like that's the staff. Like where is it? It's an exact replica of the other one. How is this happening? Does he?
Okay,
just
but I don't
have-
think he had that like in his pocket like this whole time.
But
Like,
then
when
where
when
are
the Witch
they?
King of Angmar destroys his staff,
His
like that's a
groin.
big deal. I think.
But
his
where
staff
are they?
garden.
Where are these
Aragorn let
staffs?
him
He
take
died.
some
and he-
sticks off the
in
white
3
tree.
years, I'm feeling pretty confident. Yes, the other one, the previous one that I mentioned, never made sense where it went in Isengard. But I don't know. I think this one.
I feel like we still see it before at some point, but I could be wrong. I'm gonna.
I
have to
was
look at a
I was
screenshot.
keeping my eyes peeled because once again, theatrical cut doesn't have that scene with the Witch King of Angmar destroying it. So I was like, okay, is that a plot? Is that another plot hole thing where the staff is missing? So I was like, that whole battle at the Black Gate, I was like, very looking closely at Gandalf, and he does not have it at all there. So I think his magic power, like I'm sure he can do some things without the staff, but I don't think he can do much.
Hmm.
I
It
would
seems
assume.
like a catalyst, right? Like he needs it to kind
Yeah.
of channel certain things.
Yeah. Another random note I'll mention once again at that moment with Pippin and the Palantir. You mentioned this earlier, Kirkland, but I love that shot when Aragorn goes outside and it's the blue night sky and it's kind of like he's silhouetted, so he's all black. Like that shot is iconic. I feel like that's what the Two Towers like kind of game and stuff like has like that blue and black. It kind of mirrors that kind of color scheme. And then him and Legolas are having that conversation. So minor scene, but I wanted to shout it out. I thought it was quite beautiful.
Agreed.
Hell yeah.
I have anything else in my notes here?
All right, let's take an ad break. Get to some notes. Final thoughts. We'll be right back. And we're back. So I'll ring off. I got a bunch of just like random stuff to show. I think all my big stuff has been talked about, whatnot. I liked about at the very beginning back in Isengard, Merry and Pippin were talking about salted pork, and they just cut to Gimli. He's like, salted pork, and he's just like, because he's just like kind of annoyed with him at first, but the second he hears about salted, it's just the delivery, the line delivery of Jonathan, however we say his name again, Rice. What is
David
his
Gimli.
Rice.
David
I think it's David Rice. Yeah.
Gimli, David Rice, yeah. There's that, and then I like that. It's kind of like a funnier, cheesier scene, but when they play the drinking game after, like when they all get back and from Isengard, and they're just drinking, and they have that really aged ale or whatever it is that knocks Gimli out, and Legolas is like, "Oh, I feel like a little something, like a like this drink just knocks out a dwarf, but for Elf, it just gives him like a little buzz. It's like it's fun stuff. I like that because it reminds me very similar to like Fellowship vibes of a bit more fun times going on, and they did just win a battle, so it's like. They can celebrate for a night and stuff, and
Carl Urban sells that scene for me because when Legolas says that, like Carl Urban's just like looking at him like he's like
Yeah.
innocently mystified by it. It's so good.
I really like
elves.
yeah. A few things also in that scene I like is I really like Aragorn's like post Helm's Deep like red he has like with those sleeves
Yeah.
and stuff. I like that aesthetic. Like if I had to pick one for my Fortnite
Very different than
skin-
every other outfit that he's had like throughout
Yeah.
the series. And it really differentiates Strider from like
Yeah.
King Aragorn. Like, it's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. We hinted about this a little bit, but like Theoden's speech with Eowyn just doesn't make much sense, and he's just like, "I'm so happy for you. He's gonna be a great man." Like it's like I would understand in the story if Tolkien had made them like hook up at this point or have like a little relationship that was known, but just them talking, just to assume that they're gonna get married, it's just like throwing a lot on the situation.
I thought he's saying that you're gonna find another great man.
No, he's because they look at Aragorn, and when Aragorn looks at him, I did put this note. He gave her "fuck me" eyes, and so it's not helping the situation. He's just like, but like he's literally like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you. He's gonna be."
I gotta
a great
watch
man.
that again because
watch it again.
I took it a different way. for
So
sure.
that kind of sucks for Eowyn in that whole situation there. Also in this party too, I just love a little moment of Gandalf's again feeling doubt, and Aragorn just says like, "What does your heart tell you about Frodo and stuff like that?" He says, "My heart
Yeah.
tells you he's alive," and he says it in a way where he's not like even fully convinced, but Aragorn again is just instilling that like faith
Yeah.
and hope in
And-
people,
And one of you guys brought it up already of like that shift where like in the early like Fellowship and even Two Towers, like it seemed like Aragorn would go to like Gandalf for like the final say, like this is his advisor, and then here it's like total shift. Like there's so many moments when Gandalf is just kind of unsure, which is crazy because he's the one that's kind of supposedly seen, like he's kind of like the Doctor Strange route, where like he's seen the foresight, like he kind of knows what's gonna happen to an extent. I don't know the full extent of that, but that's the way it seems. But for him to just cast doubt, and that happens a few times that we mentioned, like with the Minas Tirith battle, a lot of situations there where he's just like, this is the end. That's the wonderful conversation that he has with Pippin. Maybe it's not wonderful, but it's very heart filled just conversation that like he's just giving him hope, and like that death isn't, you know. Long story short, it's awesome that he's going to Aragorn here, and Aragorn's giving that kingly advice.
Yeah, and another one you could throw my facts of why I hate Sam, as the joke goes. But when he catches Gollum talking at night, Sam is literally sleeping beside Frodo. The fact he just doesn't wake Frodo up and be like, "You hear this shit? Like, listen to what he's saying." Like he goes over, and Frodo just wakes up to Sam just like strangling Gollum. So of course Frodo's gonna think, "What the fuck, dude?" But like you could just be like, "Hey, listen to him," and Frodo be like, "That is peculiar," But no, Sam doesn't do that. He's a hothead.
Every time that like any character is just like beaten on Gollum, it's just like, it kind of makes me chuckle, because I mean, thankfully he's just a CGI character. No one's actually getting beaten the shit out of. But it's just this like super frail, skinny thing. And like in Two Towers, I mentioned when like Faramir soldiers, they full Nelson him, and they're just like getting some shots in, like huge punches on this.
He has no more ribs.
No, I would imagine he's broken so many things, and then like, like on the Cirith Ungol Pass, like I think it's on the Cirith Ungol Pass. He's just like beating like his face in on the rock. It's so aggressive.
I like there's a moment when Legolas is just like chilling outside and he has his hood up and stuff. But I like the line of like what do you feel? And he's just like a sense of malice, and it's just like, oh, that can't be good when the weather's giving you a sense of malice. That you don't want to be going to the beach that day. I love that Elrond unfortunately had some elves stay back to help make Aragorn's sword again. Like everyone got to go but these two guys, so they got to stay back with Elrond. It's just like, I don't know what the story is there, but I always forget them. Like, why did these guys, like, poor them? Like, I guess they just like they are with Elrond.
There was like a little party though, because there was still more at the crowning session, right? In Minas Tirith.
Yeah, there were some that chose to stay back. So
it's probably like the flag bearers for Elrond. It's just like his crew, his entourage.
You must stay. I might make.
Someone's got to stay to water the plants,
Fuck.
I'm curious if like that's a thing that like some of them just chose not to go, and like what are they doing these days?
They're not cowards. That's what.
Like, did they just completely abandon Rivendell? Like, who's staying there now?
Aragorn would
like,
welcome them, and I bet
it's like Eomer's like new just hangout spot. There's no elves in Rivendell.
No, and that's everything. Everything else with my notes we've touched upon in one form or fashion. So, Kirklin, Taylor, anything?
We had when Pippin grabs the Palantir, Gandalf's just like the eyes like wide open. I love that sequence. Again, it just makes it like, how does a wizard sleep? Very differently than like how a human would, right? Like he's just like completely like eyes wide open, and it doesn't happen in the movies, but that's stated too in the books that the elves do the exact same thing. Like they just kind of have their eyes open and like are just in like a trance. Yeah. You would imagine they'd have dry eyes, like what's the point of eyelids if they don't have to?
I feel like elves' eyes are just
blink?
always wet. They're just
yeah, nice and moist.
It just makes sense. If you say their eyes are always wet, I go, yep, that would be an elf feature. Always wet eyes. Yeah. When it rains, doesn't bug them at all.
Well, I mean, if you can live forever, like you probably got a nice liquidy body. I would think.
Yes, 100%.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimate moisture.
Yeah. Strong stream. Stuff like that. So.
Just when they urinate, it's like 20
gold.
minutes long.
Oh,
yeah.
No, it's not gold. It's clear. It's completely hydrated, right?
Sure, yeah. You could drink it right now, Frodo. It's like, that's why he didn't like you, Legolas. You offered him to drink your pee. He didn't understand. I was just trying to be helpful.
This little elvish smile. It's like,
yeah. Sam, I fucking hated those elves. I'm so glad we're out of there. Anything else, Kirkland?
No, I don't think so. I like the Gollum stuff, but that's good.
Gollum.
Taylor?
I'll shout out another moment too for Aragorn when Theoden's just doing his speech at the beginning, and he just is like, "Hail the victorious dead," and it's just like a really resonating moment with Aragorn. Like he doesn't go to like chug and pound back his ale right away. He just he pauses for a second and just takes in. It's like one of the final kind of like learning moments. I feel like I'm just like him analyzing like Theoden as a king and just kind of understanding this moment and the post celebration.
feel like he's actually taking in the dead people too, like really
Yeah.
remembering, like, man, I saw a lot of people die, you know.
All his elves that he lost.
Yeah, those elves really
yeah.
showed up for him. Yeah.
Another thing too, yeah, I'll shout out one scene at the end when Sam was carrying Frodo going up the stairs, and all of a sudden you just hear that, and then this fucker just comes up, the last guy you need to have just crawl up on you right now, and he's just like, clever hobbits to climb slide. He's just talking shit too, so that's the last thing Sam needs. But Sam does get a walloping good cut. Just whips his sword out and like slices Gollum just in his gut there a little bit, but yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I was on Classic looking up some images, and I had this at one. Is that like, what's his name? Maui? Is that his weapon from Moana right
looks
there on
like
his
his
necklace?
weapon,
It's
yeah.
like,
Well, he's also got an H on his hand. Do you see that?
oh yeah, look at that.
What do you think that stands for?
Hidalgo, his great movie he did.
That's his favorite movie. Is that the name of the horse, Hidalgo?
Oh, it might be.
I think it is. Yeah.
What was the name of
Never
that
watched
movie?
it actually. Hidalgo. It is Hidalgo. The name
is
of the movie.
Hidalgo?
Yeah.
Classic. I think it's a Disney movie.
2004.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is do we need to do
10
final
out of
thoughts
10.
already? Yeah, I'm a 10 out of 10. I don't have much to add on my final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do numbers, so I can't not
yep.
give this a 10. But I might not if I were doing numbers, just
Mhm.
because of some of the beefs I had. But
Well, there
it
you
would be
go.
like 9.9 or something. Like that.
Yeah. Some qualms brought that
Yeah.
down.
But yeah, so if you guys have anything that you forget, make sure bring it up for next week. Put in your notes and everything, because yeah, we will be doing. I guess I should. I think I said that. But Rings of Power, we'll be reviewing the first 2 episodes this week. Thursday, we'll be going live immediately after we watch those first 2, and then Substantial Weeks we'll review it every week, and then we'll drop the rankings next week, and then we're also going to be doing a fun Patreon Lord of the Rings cast. We're going to do a. What if Embracer did like a phase 1 of the oh god, what is it, the LOTRCU, and see, you know, what would a Gandalf movie be? What could, like, what goes in order? Do they cover Lord of the Rings? Because technically, Embracer Group could come up tomorrow and be like, yeah, we're remaking Lord of the Rings because they fucking have those rights. So lots of stuff. So if you like Lord of the Rings and you like these retros, and thank you for people on the survey. Lots of people have been saying they've been liking our Lord of the Rings content the past little while. Then get ready for the next few months, because we're just going to be bringing the Lord of the Rings. And even the charity stream, get ready, because we got some fun events there too. So all Middle Earth here. We thank you very much for tuning in. All these retros, this was tons of fun. Finally got to do them. Check that off the board now, and promise you it'll not be boring.
Peace.
See ya.